This boy was just in the schoolyard practicing the newly taught boxing technique, but it made a top-tier martial artist watching in secret tremble with excitement, because with every punch he threw, the explosive sound of 9 thunderclaps could be heard. Even the academy's top genius, after hours of grueling training, could barely produce 3 thunderclaps, an entry-level standard. Yet, only half a day had passed since the technique was taught, and he had already mastered it to absolute perfection. It turns out he was chosen by the gods and had awakened the martial arts system. By simply having his avatar guide his training within his mindscape, he can master any martial art to perfection in a very short time. Defeating enemies also grants martial points. Spending these points enhances his vitality and physical aptitude. Now, let's find out how this guy became the martial god. 2 students were in the middle of a sparring match. One punch landed hard, and the student who took the hit complained that it hurt like hell. He laughed it off, noting that Su-hong's Vajra fist had clearly improved again. He wondered aloud if Su-hong had already stepped into the micro level. Su-hong stayed calm and replied that he had only broken through to the micro level 2 days ago. In this world, martial arts were divided into specific ranks: basic, proficient, micro level, mastered, and perfect. Reaching the micro level already put someone far ahead of most of their peers. The other student couldn't help but admire him, saying that when it came to the Vajra fist, no one else in their class could even compare. He then asked if Su-hong was done resting so they could continue practicing, but the pain from that single punch was still stinging, and he actually had no intention of taking another hit. Calling Su-hong a cultivation maniac, he waved him off and said he was heading home to eat. Before leaving the training hall, he politely said goodbye to Teacher Lee. Teacher Lee reminded him to straighten up his clothes before walking out. Then, the teacher turned to Su-hong and stopped him. He asked why Su-hong still hadn't paid the 30,000 registration fee for the martial arts department, reminding him that applications were closing next month. Su-hong hesitated for a moment before asking if he could be given a few more days. Teacher Lee sighed, saying he understood Su-hong's family situation, but rules were rules and there was nothing he could do to change them. After everyone else had left, Su-hong stayed behind and continued to practice alone. No matter how many times he repeated his forms, one thought kept circling in his mind: the 30,000 registration fee. His memories drifted back to the past. When he was 3 years old, his parents had died during a disaster caused by ferocious beasts. Since then, he had lived with his uncle and aunt. After they discovered his talent for martial arts, they had done everything in their power to support his training. In an era where ferocious beasts roamed freely, becoming a martial artist was the best way to earn good money. He had trained hard to give them a better life, yet right now, it felt like he was only making things harder for them. Later, he returned to a quiet corner of the city, arriving at the cramped, worn-down apartment he called home. Inside, his aunt asked softly whether the rent was almost due and how much money they were still short. His uncle said the rent could wait and that little Hong's registration fee needed to be paid first. His aunt agreed, mentioning that with such talent, Su-hong was sure to succeed one day, and they couldn't afford to hold him back. Then she added casually that she would stop taking her medicine. It wasn't curing her anyway, and stopping would save them money. His uncle immediately objected, telling her he would just take on another job instead. He insisted she stay home, rest properly, and focus on her health, assuring her that everything else would work out. Hearing all of this from the shadows, Su-hong felt a tight ache in his chest, and a wave of sadness washed over him. He couldn't help but feel that this was a stupid, messed up world. It had twisted his life into something he barely recognized. Everywhere he looked, people were greedy. Even if someone simply wanted to register for something they were talented at, they still had to pay money for it. Money he had no talent for earning. If he had actually been good at making money, he probably wouldn't have had talent for martial arts at all. The more he thought about it, the crazier the world seemed. Pushing those dark thoughts aside, he opened the door and called out that he was back. His aunt, who treated him like her own son, immediately fussed over him, asking why he had practiced so late and telling him he must be exhausted. Su-hong tried to take over the chores, telling her he would handle them, but she waved him off. She insisted it was nothing and told him to go rest so he wouldn't be tired the next day. His uncle backed her up, telling him to listen and go to bed quickly. Su-hong returned to his room, but sleep refused to come. He lay there, wide awake, his thoughts running in circles. His uncle and aunt had already sacrificed so much for him. He couldn't keep letting that happen. This time, he would solve his own problem. For a martial artist to earn tens of thousands in just a few days, there was only one place that came to mind. The very next day, a loud announcement echoed through the streets. The crowd was welcomed to the Martial Apprentice Arena Challenge, a place where only victory or defeat mattered, regardless of life or death. It was the underground martial arena. The announcer's voice rose with excitement as she introduced the ring defender for the day, a fighter called Mr. Minotaur. The rules were simple. If he could win 4 matches in a row, he would walk away with 60,000 in prize money. If not, he would get nothing. The crowd was told to watch closely. The audience immediately erupted in whispers. No one recognized him. Some guessed he was a rookie, while others scoffed, saying a newcomer jumping straight into the arena challenge was basically courting death. Off to the side, the announcer leaned over and whispered to the kid to show some passion and heat up the atmosphere. The boy looked confused and asked how he was supposed to do that. The announcer sighed and told him to provoke the crowd or curse a little, muttering that this was exactly why rookies were such a headache. Realization dawned on the Minotaur. Letting out a roar, he shouted that below the level of a formal martial artist, he was invincible, challenging all weaklings to come and fight him. The crowd exploded at once. Some cursed him for being absurdly arrogant, while others laughed and praised his guts. The atmosphere instantly boiled over. Someone in the crowd sneered that this guy wouldn't even know how he died later. That only lit the fuse. Cheers erupted from every direction. Some people shouted their approval, others yelled for blood, and a few just screamed insults at the so-called Minotaur. With the atmosphere at its peak, the announcer declared that the match had officially begun. Behind the Minotaur mask, Su Hong stayed calm. He could clearly feel the heavy killing intent unique to the underground arena. Still, this was the fastest way to gather enough tuition money. As long as he could win a few rounds with his Vajra fist, it would be worth it. His first opponent stepped forward, calling him an arrogant brat and saying he would play with him a little. Su Hong barely paid attention, his eyes calmly sizing the man up. The opponent's momentum was strong, but his footing was unstable. From the look of it, winning wouldn't be difficult. Seeing him space out, the opponent cursed and charged straight in with a punch. Su Hong sidestepped it cleanly, then casually swung his other hand. The strike landed squarely on the man's jaw, sending him flying straight back to where he had come from. The announcer instantly lost her composure. She was already starting to love this masked fighter, even joking to herself that she might want to ask him out later. Laughing into the microphone, she shouted that Minotaur had taken his first win. The crowd exploded with excited shouts and cheers. A second challenger stepped up, scoffing that the last guy had just been unlucky, but things would be different this time. Su Hong simply replied with a casual, "please," while calmly judging his opponent. Based on his build, the guy's strength looked decent, perfect for testing how powerful his Vajra fist really was. The man shouted and leaped in with a heavy punch. Su Hong met the attack head-on. With one Vajra fist strike, he shattered the incoming force. The opponent cried out in shock at the sheer power behind the blow. Su Hong could already tell the difference. This guy was strong, but still weaker than him. After taking a single counterattack, the opponent had relied too much on his upper body strength, leaving his waist wide open. Su Hong followed up with a brutal kick, and the man was sent flying off the stage just like the first one. The arena went wild. Some people cursed in disbelief, while others shouted that he was insanely strong. Next! The announcer excitedly declared that Minotaur had achieved 2 consecutive wins. The cheers grew even louder, becoming almost deafening. In a quieter corner, a few well-dressed spectators watched with sharp eyes. One of them muttered that the kid wasn't even a quasi-martial artist, yet his strength far surpassed the average. There was no doubt about it. This one was unusual. The announcer's voice rang out again, declaring Minotaur's 3rd consecutive win. In the viewing area, one of the men watching commented that the kid was better than the worst, but nowhere near the best. Someone like that, he noted, was perfect material for match fixing. From behind him, a masked young man spoke up, saying he would go handle it. The older man reminded him not to reveal the fact that he had already broken through to the martial artist level. After racking up so many wins, Su Hong felt increasingly confident. Ordinary martial apprentices were no longer much of a challenge to him. With his Vajra fist at the micro level, winning one more match would earn him the full 60,000 prize money. Just then, the crowd suddenly stirred. People started shouting that White Fox was actually stepping into the ring. The moment the masked fighter appeared, the arena erupted. Some exclaimed that White Fox was a quasi-martial artist. Others protested that a quasi-martial artist fighting a martial apprentice was basically cheating. Su Hong's heart sank slightly. A quasi-martial artist? This match was going to be troublesome. Still, backing down wasn't an option. He couldn't afford to lose now. White Fox stopped in front of him and studied him calmly before speaking. He told Su Hong not to be afraid, claiming he knew how to hold back his strength. The announcer's voice cut in again, declaring the final match of the arena challenge and shouting for the fight to begin. Both fighters exploded forward at full speed. Su Hong immediately sensed the gap in their levels. His cultivation was lower, so he had no choice but to go all out with his opening move. His punch blasted forward, sending visible shockwaves rippling through the air. The collision shook the ring as both sides displayed frightening power. The instant their fists met, Su Hong's heart skipped a beat. He noticed something was wrong. His opponent wasn't a quasi-martial artist at all. He was a true martial artist who had deliberately suppressed his vitality. A surge of tension washed over Su Hong. He had never expected a monster like this to appear out of nowhere. White Fox took a sharp breath and launched another attack, unleashing the Thunder Rush Fist. One strike followed another in rapid succession, each blow heavier than the last. Under the relentless assault, Su Hong was forced back, pain spreading through his body. So this was the strength of a real martial artist. The crowd was stunned. Someone recognized the technique, shouting that it was the 3-echo Thunder Rush Fist. No one had expected to see such a move here, and the surprise alone was worth the ticket price. Others shook their heads, saying the Minotaur was finished. To them, the outcome was already obvious. Yet White Fox showed no intention of stopping, his attacks continuing one after another, pressing the advantage without mercy. After a while, White Fox clearly started getting bored. He told Minotaur that only defending was pointless, and urged him to fight back, saying he wanted to see what kind of strength he really had. For now, Minotaur could do nothing but block. Even through his defenses, the punches were tearing into him, pain spreading with every impact. If this kept up, he knew he would lose for sure. He needed a chance to counterattack, but White Fox's strikes were too fast and too relentless, leaving no openings at all. Then White Fox found an opening himself, a punch shot straight toward Minotaur's jaw. The impact sent him flying, and he crashed hard onto the ground. Lying there, his vision blurred as his consciousness began to fade. Before he could recover, White Fox stepped up and spoke calmly. He told Su Hong that he wouldn't get a single coin of the prize money from this match, but his teacher was willing to invite him in. If Minotaur agreed to fix matches for them in the future, they would pay him the equivalent of this match's prize money. Even with White Fox's foot pressing down on his face, Minotaur refused without hesitation. He said he would never do something so shameless. White Fox was briefly taken aback. He hadn't expected such a firm rejection. Regaining his composure, he warned him to think carefully, saying that refusing them came with a price he couldn't afford. Minotaur shot back, asking whether people who did things like this really deserved to call themselves martial artists. That was enough. White Fox said there was nothing left to discuss. As he turned to leave, he coldly added that since Minotaur wouldn't cooperate, he had no choice but to cripple him, ensuring he could only dream about being a martial artist in the future. As White Fox moved to strike his leg, those words echoed in Minotaur's mind, sharp and piercing. Become a martial artist. A surge of instinct kicked in. He twisted away at the last moment, narrowly avoiding the blow. He couldn't afford to be crippled. Forcing himself back up, Minotaur re-entered the fight. White Fox stared in surprise as Minotaur steadied himself, his eyes burning with determination. He couldn't fall here. Not here. Something snapped inside him and a second wind surged through his battered body. White Fox couldn't hide his shock. He had clearly landed a Thunder Rush Fist earlier, yet somehow this guy was still standing. Yet in his heart, Su Hong remained painfully clear-headed. He wanted to become a martial artist. He couldn't allow the sacrifices his uncle and aunt had made over all these years to be wasted. He wanted to give them a good life. But did that really mean he had to abandon everything a martial artist was supposed to stand for? The answer came almost instantly. No. That kind of future was something he would never accept. At that very moment, something strange happened. A status window suddenly appeared right in front of his eyes. Cold, emotionless words floated on the screen, asking what he was willing to sacrifice for his future and for his faith. Su Hong didn't hesitate. His eyes burned with fierce resolve as he answered, without the slightest doubt, that he was willing to give up everything. The system asked once more if he was truly willing to pay the price. Minotaur gave the same answer as before. Everything. The moment the word left his mouth, something deep inside him began to change. His shadow twisted and stretched, transforming into the outline of a terrifying monster. Su Hong was stunned. He didn't know where he was, and the shadow looming behind him belonged to a massive, unknown creature. Before he could ask anything, the massive presence spoke, granting him this chance. A strange aura wrapped around Su Hong, and a status window appeared, listing all his details. Su Hong stared in disbelief. It displayed every single one of his attributes. Acting on impulse, he tapped the mission section. A notification for a random mission, Way of the Arena, popped up. To defeat White Fox, he had to raise his Vajra Fist to mastered level and refine his floating light palm and Void Step to micro level. It was a brutal task given his current low proficiency, but necessary to unlock the beginner's guide. Su Hong was confused by the sudden information, but before he could think, a fist flew straight toward his face. Su Hong ducked instinctively. When he looked up, he froze. Standing before him was a perfect clone. The copy moved with textbook form, using a level of Vajra Fist far beyond his own. Every move was standard and precise. With such a flawless example right in front of him, he couldn't let the opportunity slip. As he exchanged blows with the clone, he realized this wasn't just a fight, it was a lesson. Midway through, he noticed his Vajra Fist proficiency had jumped up. It went from 7% to 10% in moments. The improvement was shockingly fast. So this was the trick. This place allowed him to rapidly upgrade his martial arts skills. He kept fighting, learning and adjusting his form with every clash. His proficiency climbed higher until it finally hit 100%. His floating light palm reached full mastery, and he sent the clone flying. His void step followed, reaching full proficiency. Finally, the Vajra fist was perfected. Exhaustion caught up to him. Breathing heavily, Su-hong nodded to the empty air. Thanks a lot. The system congratulated him on completing the mission. Su-hong accepted the rewards and immediately chose to return to reality. Instantly, he was back in the arena wearing the Minotaur mask, standing opposite White Fox. White Fox sneered and unleashed another round of thunderous fist. The blows were fierce, but Minotaur calmly noted they were too slow. He slipped past every strike with ease. Before White Fox could react, Su-hong's fist slammed into his face. The mask shattered and White Fox crashed to the ground. The crowd froze, staring in disbelief. Minotaur calmly asked for his prize money for winning the fourth match. The stunned announcer fumbled for words before finally declaring Minotaur the winner of the 60,000 grand prize. In the audience, the teacher frowned. A mere apprentice mastering the Vajra fist was impossible. Suspicious, he ordered his men to follow Minotaur and investigate his identity. Leaving the arena, Su-hong sensed he was being followed. He burst into motion, his speed exploding as he vanished from their sight. The pursuers stopped in confusion, unable to track him. Hidden safely, Su-hong mocked their clumsy attempt. An hour later, he returned home. His aunt and uncle were stunned by the large pile of money. His uncle asked if he robbed a bank. Su-hong explained he worked as a sparring partner, and the dojo master decided to sponsor his studies. The uncle asked if it was the stingy dojo, but Su-hong simply asked them to trust him. Seeing his serious expression, they smiled. His uncle agreed that little Hong would never lie, and they celebrated his bright future. That night, Su-hong climbed onto the roof. Under the moonlight, he reflected on his situation. The exam fees, rent, and medical expenses were settled. He laughed in relief. He checked the system interface. He survived thanks to this mysterious power. He noticed a stat called martial value. A notification stated he gained 57 martial value points for defeating a higher-level opponent. These could be used to increase vitality and skills. Su-hong tried it immediately. When he added points to vitality, scorching energy exploded inside his body. His vitality reached 90. That was already the level of a quasi-martial artist. He poured the remaining points into vitality. His body felt lighter, stronger, and more alive. Su-hong clenched his fists. Even his wounds were healed, and he felt brimming with power. He felt an urge to test his new strength. He leaped across the rooftops toward the combat power tester at the school's drill ground. He arrived at Star City No. 1 High School shortly after. The place was quiet, with a lone Tier 1 combat power tester sitting there. Su-hong gathered his vitality but decided to hold back. Using only 70% of his strength, his fist struck the machine with a sharp impact. For a split second, the punch felt incredibly heavy. Suddenly the tester sparked and died. Stunned, he worried he would have to pay for the poor quality machine and decided to leave. A voice shouted from behind, asking who was there. Su-hong bolted without explaining. A furious caretaker rushed over to the ruined machine, cursing the vandal. He assumed it was the usual troublemakers, Chun Shan and Li Duo, and swore to educate them when school started. The gymnasium at Star City No. 1 High School was packed. Students crowded every corner of the room, and Su-hong stood quietly among them. While he waited, he heard someone mention that Chun Shan had gotten beaten up. This immediately caught his attention, so he asked what had happened. A student nearby explained that Chun Shan had smashed the combat power tester in the middle of the night and refused to admit it. Because of that, the principal punished him right there. Hearing this, Su-hong felt a bit awkward. It turned out someone else had taken the blame for his mistake. At the same time, he felt relieved. If he had been caught, he never could have afforded to pay for that machine. Before he could think about it further, the announcer's voice echoed through the hall, telling everyone to be quiet. He announced that a special guest, a Tier 3 martial artist named Chan Tian, was here to teach them a C-rank martial art called the Thunder Rush Fist. He told the students to pay close attention. The gym instantly erupted with noise. Some students shouted that this was their first time seeing a Tier 3 martial artist in person. Others talked about how C-rank martial arts usually cost a fortune to learn at outside dojos. But the moment Su-hong heard the name, his eyes lit up. Thunder Rush Fist. That was the same move White Fox had used in the underground arena. One punch created the impact of 3. Its power was undeniable. Outside of school, just the registration fee to learn something like this would be huge. There was no way he was going to miss this chance. Chantian didn't waste time with small talk. He told the students he would demonstrate the technique 10 times from start to finish. How much they learned would depend entirely on them. He stepped forward, got into his stance, and began. Shouting Thunder Rush Fist, he threw a punch. The force was intense, and the sound of thunder rolled through the gym. As he demonstrated, he explained the levels. At the basic level, a punch makes 1 thunderclap. At the proficient level, it makes 3 sounds. At the micro level, it makes 5. At the mastered level, it creates 7 sounds, which was his current level. As he finished the move, 7 loud thunder sounds echoed out, making the air vibrate. After using so much energy, Chan Tian paused to catch his breath. He added that at the perfect realm, One could strike out 9 thunder sounds. However, he told them not to aim too high. If they could just grasp the basics today, that would be good enough. After a short break, Chantian announced the second demonstration and told everyone to try and follow along. The gym quickly filled with students shouting awkward battle cries as they tried to copy his movements. Hours passed by quickly. One by one, students began to collapse from exhaustion. Some complained that they couldn't get it at all, while others groaned about being totally drained. A few stubborn ones kept practicing, asking if anyone had found the trick, even though their bodies were giving out. One of Su-hong's friends wiped his sweat and sighed, saying that C-rank martial arts were just too hard to learn. Looking around, he realized Su-hong was gone. For a second, he wondered if Su-hong had already learned it, but then he just wondered where he went. Just then, excited laughter rang out nearby. Someone proudly announced that he had reached the basic level. The friend turned and saw Chun-shan looking very pleased with himself. A wave of jealousy hit him. No wonder everyone called Chun-shan a genius. How was he so good at this? The principal quickly stepped forward, introduced Chun-shan as the school's top genius, and asked Chantian if he wanted to train him. Students crowded around, calling Chun-shan a true prodigy. Chantian, however, didn't look impressed. He casually said this barely counted as being a genius. In other cities, this level was just average. Later, the group moved outside while continuing their conversation. Chantian complained to the principal that these students weren't impressive at all, making the trip feel like a waste of time. Deep down, he suspected the school focused more on students with money than talent. Still, to make himself feel better, he thought about how at least one student reached the basic level and he got paid well. He asked the principal if he really expected to find a top-tier genius here. The principal sighed, agreeing that the path of martial arts was cruel. Talent was too important. Hard work alone, without opportunity, just wasn't enough. Just as they were talking, a sudden noise echoed through the air. Both of them froze and immediately looked toward where the sound came from. 7 thunderous sounds. 7-sound thunder rush fist. Their expressions changed instantly. They couldn't believe it, asking how the school could have someone at that level. The principal was even more shocked. He said it was impossible. He had never heard of someone like that in his school. The principal then realized something else. He didn't even recognize that student. The kid hadn't paid any extra fees. Staring at his clothes, his heart skipped a beat. That uniform clearly belonged to a student. The shock hit him hard. If he had been strict about the rules, this student probably wouldn't have even been allowed in the lesson. Even Chantian was stunned. He muttered that he had only taught for half a day, yet someone had already reached the mastered level. The principal's mind went blank. He asked if he heard wrong. 9 sounds? Was that really 9 sounds? Chantian couldn't speak. He stood there silently, feeling so emotional he almost wanted to cry. The principal wasn't doing much better. He never imagined someone without money could have such terrifying talent. Seeing Chantian frozen in place, the principal asked what was wrong. Chantian finally exhaled and said he understood now. Everything suddenly made sense. Without another word, he got into his stance and threw a thunder rush fist of his own. The air exploded. 8 thunderous sounds rang out. The principal nearly jumped. 8 sounds? Chantian had broken through? Chantian stared at his own fist, excitement showing on his face. He said that seeing that student's punch gave him the inspiration he had been missing for years. Without it, he might never have broken through in his lifetime. But then reality hit him. This was not the time to celebrate. Chantian urgently told the principal to hurry and find that student. The principal snapped out of it and actually started running. Unfortunately, by the time they reached the spot, the student was already gone. As for Su-hong, he had already achieved his goal. While walking away, he thought about how practicing a C-rank martial art was much more exhausting than the D-rank Vajra fist. His Thunder Rush fist had already reached the perfect realm. Now, the next step was figuring out how to earn more martial value points to become a true martial artist as soon as possible. He couldn't risk life-and-death fights in the underground arena every time. If he could gain points through normal sparring, that would be much better. Not long after, he arrived at his workplace, the Raging Thunder Dojo. Inside, students were training as usual. When they saw him, someone asked why he came in today. Su-hong casually replied that he wasn't busy and just came by to practice. Just then, a loud thud echoed across the hall. A student was sent crashing to the floor. Standing over him, another guy sneered. He said that if someone dared to claim his teacher taught poorly, they should first admit they were just bad at learning instead of making excuses. Su-hong glanced over and asked what was happening. His friend explained that since Su-hong hadn't been around lately, he wouldn't know. That student's teacher was a new instructor who was very strong, but he looked down on ordinary people and taught in a very lazy way. On top of that, his disciple, a guy named Li Yen, was also extremely strong. Right as they were talking, another student was knocked down. Li Yen looked at him and sneered, saying he shouldn't dare to challenge him with such a weak level. Before things could get worse, Su-hong stepped in and grabbed Li Yan's wrist, telling him that was enough. Li Yan immediately glared at him, asking who he was and telling him to let go. He said if Su-hong had the guts, they could settle it properly in the arena one-on-one. Su-hong didn't back down and calmly agreed. At that moment, a voice interrupted, asking what the noise was about and announcing that class was starting. Li Yan pulled his hand back and sneered, telling Su-hong he was lucky this time. Watching him leave, Su-hong thought that this guy was way too arrogant. Soon after, the instructor spoke up. He announced that today was the last day he would teach the Raging Sea Spear technique. As usual, he would only demonstrate it once. As he took his stance, it was clear the instructor didn't believe anyone could learn it from just one demonstration. Still, Su-hong watched with intense focus. For him, once was enough. His eyes followed every movement as the spear swept through the air. When the demonstration ended, the instructor turned to leave, saying that how much they learned was up to them. Complaints immediately broke out. Some students called the one-time demonstration a scam. Others complained that those in the back row couldn't even see clearly. Su-hong, however, had already understood the essence of it. The spear moved like a dragon crashing into the sea, its power rolling forward like endless waves. Picking up a spear himself, he began to move, perfectly copying what he had just seen. For a moment, everyone fell silent. Then, the noise erupted. People stared in disbelief, shouting that Su-hong had actually learned it. Others muttered that this was the first time they'd seen such a prodigy, while some bitterly wondered if they were just too stupid to understand it. Drawn by the noise, Li Yan returned and asked who had supposedly learned the technique. He scoffed at the idea. Then he saw Su-hong. Watching Su-hong's spear flow smoothly, Li Yan's eyes narrowed. It really did look like he had understood it. He felt a spark of interest. Testing someone like this would be fun. Stepping forward, Li Yan called out to him, saying he would give him a few pointers on his spear technique. Li Yan grabbed his spear, twirled it, and pointed the tip at Su-hong, signaling him to come on. He repeated that he would teach him a lesson. Su-hong simply agreed. One of the students hurriedly tried to stop him. He warned that even though Li Yan was a bad person, he was actually very strong, so Su-hong shouldn't be impulsive. Su-hong just smiled and told him not to worry. He stepped forward with his spear and got into position. Facing Li Yan, he politely said he looked forward to his guidance. That sentence completely set Li Yan off. He snapped that Su-hong was being arrogant and declared that he would show him the Raging Sea Spear technique at the micro level. Su-hong remained calm. As he moved his spear, he quietly controlled his power, deliberately suppressing it. Proficient level. He didn't want to reveal everything. He only wanted the guy in front of him to see just how ridiculous he was acting. The moment Su-hong's spear moved, Li Yan froze. That flow, that momentum, it was unmistakable. Proficient level Raging Sea Spear technique. No matter how hard he tried to deny it, the reality right in front of him wouldn't change. Su-hong reached the proficient level with his Raging Sea Spear technique. His movements flowed just like crashing waves. When he unleashed the attack, his opponent just froze. He couldn't trust his own eyes. Su-hong was just a martial apprentice, not even a real martial artist yet. But somehow, he had mastered the Raging Sea Spear to the proficient level. That was something even veterans struggled to do. But it was happening right in front of him. A notification popped up for Su-hong. Defeated a higher level opponent, martial value plus 35. It worked. Even normal sparring gave him points. He didn't have to risk death every time. He could get stronger just by fighting smart. Meanwhile, the opponent was panicking inside. This is impossible. Totally impossible. I trained for years and he did this so fast? Was all my hard work for nothing? He felt completely crushed. Before things got worse, Su-hong pulled back his spear. That's enough, he said calmly. Just then, the instructor showed up. He saw what happened and immediately stepped in to scold his student. The guy tried to argue, but the instructor slapped him hard across the face. If you can't handle losing, he shouted, you aren't a real martial artist. The crowd loved it. That guy was always stuck up, so seeing him get humbled felt great. The instructor turned to look at Su-hong, amazed. Su-hong only showed the move once, but he already mastered it. Even the geniuses in the capital couldn't do that. Your talent is scary, the instructor said. My student is arrogant, but meeting you is good for him. He bowed slightly. Little brother, I failed to teach him manners. Please forgive us. Su-hong was surprised. He didn't expect the man's attitude to change so fast. This guy changes faces faster than flipping a book page, he thought. Leaving the training grounds, he felt tired, but it was a good tired. He got a lot done today. He mastered the Thunder Rush Fist and the Raging Sea Spear. Plus, he earned a ton of martial value. Walking through his high school campus, he thought about his next steps. The entrance exam was coming up fast. Rich kids were already buying high-grade alloy weapons. To compete, he needed one too. He could still feel the spear in his hands. I'll stick with the spear, he decided. He needed to get a real alloy spear and fast, but he was broke. He barely had enough for his aunt's medical bills, let alone a weapon that cost $70,000. But he wouldn't give up. There had to be a way. Suddenly, an announcement played across the city. Ferocious beasts were attacking the wilderness. The city lord was hiring martial artists to hunt them for big rewards. Su Hong knew instantly this was his chance. When he got home later, his aunt was busy working, just like always. She told him not to push himself too hard since he already gave them money. His uncle insisted on working, saying he wouldn't rely on Su Hong as long as he could still move. They greeted him warmly when he walked in. He told them to rest and let him take care of things. He explained that he could make money now. His uncle laughed. He said that sounded nice, but he couldn't just sit around doing nothing. He wanted to keep earning money for their daily needs. His aunt smiled too. She said they needed to save up so Su Hong could focus on his training. Hearing that made Su Hong's chest ache. They had lived simply for so long. Unless he made enough money to secure their future, they would never stop working so hard. That night on the rooftop, he opened his status panel. The wilderness was dangerous, so he needed to be stronger. He dumped all his remaining martial value into his vitality stats. Power surged through him. His blood roared and his muscles tightened. The number climbed until it hit 95.2. He felt like a beast ready to strike. He was now just one tiny step away from being a real martial artist. 2 days later, late at night, he lay on the gym floor, totally drained. But his eyes were shining. He had perfected all his skills: Thunder Rush Fist, Raging Sea Spear, Vajra Fist, and Floating Light Palm. He exhaled deeply. 2 days of non-stop training had paid off. Now it was time to go. The next morning, he headed to the Star City martial artist base. When he got there, he stopped, amazed. He had seen it on TV, but being there was different. The place was packed with strong martial artists. He checked the bounty board. Non-ranked beasts were worth 300 coins. Tier 1 early stage were 1,000. Mid-stage were 3,000, and late stage were 5,000. Su Hong frowned at the rules. They only accepted the left ear as proof for the reward. It seemed pretty old-fashioned. Nearby, a man dropped a bloody sack on the counter. "Miss, count these up for me," he said. The bag was full of ears. Suddenly, there was a commotion at the door. "Move it!" someone shouted. "Young Master Yi is here." The crowd moved aside. Su Hong saw an arrogant-looking guy walking in. He looked familiar. Su Hong frowned. That vibe. It reminded him of someone. People whispered around him. If his uncle wasn't the boss, he'd be dead by now. "I heard he got beat up recently." "Serves him right." "Really? No wonder he's been hiding." Su Hong listened, then looked up. Their eyes met for a second. They recognized each other. The air got tense. Su Hong realized something. The beasts weren't the only danger out here. People were dangerous too. He told himself to stay on guard. As he left, a stranger commented on how young he looked. "First time going out alone?" the man asked. Su Hong just nodded and kept walking. Behind him, the man shook his head. "Just another kid rushing to die," he muttered. Su Hong stepped into the wilderness and looked around. The forest was quiet and peaceful, but he stayed alert. He couldn't go back empty-handed. 2 hours later, he was deep in the woods. He took a sip of water, frowning. No beasts anywhere. Maybe the outer area had already been hunted clean. He decided to move faster and go even deeper. Suddenly, his face changed. A massive shape blocked his path. It was huge and scary, exactly like in the books. A ferocious beast. Su Hong knew what it was immediately. An azure moonwolf, a Tier 1 early-stage beast. It stared at him with red eyes, showing its teeth and growling. It was definitely hungry. The wolf crouched, ready to jump. Su Hong took a deep breath and got ready. It was time to fight. As the wolf lunged at him with bared claws, Su Hong reacted in a split second. He sidestepped the attack and drove a lightning-charged punch straight into its gut. The impact sent the beast flying, its massive body slamming into a tree with a heavy thud. The wolf slumped to the ground, paralyzed. Su Hong stood over it, sparks of electricity still crackling around his fists. Looking at his trembling hands, he felt the power surging through him. Fighting real ferocious beasts was way more thrilling than he had imagined. Taking down a Tier 1 early-stage beast in one hit got his blood pumping. If this was so easy, he wondered how he would handle a mid-stage beast. Just then, he sensed movement. A massive figure emerged from the shadows, a low growl vibrating through the forest. It was a raging black bear, a Tier 1 mid-stage beast. It charged immediately, thinking it had found an easy snack. But before it could strike, a blur of motion hit it head-on. A heavy, lightning-infused fist slammed into the bear, knocking it straight to the ground. Su Hong stood his ground, calm. He had dropped the beast with his own strength. Exhaling slowly, he realized how powerful he had become. Unless he ran into a Tier 2 beast, he was safe here. That was another 3,000 in bounty secured. Suddenly, a system notification popped up. His accumulated martial value was finally enough to break through and become a martial artist. Su Hong's heart raced. He was at the threshold, but before he could celebrate, a terrifying roar shook the forest. The pressure was intense, making his skin crawl. His expression darkened instantly. He turned toward the noise, narrowing his eyes. Whatever made that sound was much stronger than anything he'd faced yet. Curiosity and caution fought in his mind, but curiosity won. He moved quietly toward the roar. Reaching a high rock formation, he climbed up to get a better view. What he saw made him hold his breath. A colossal black-scaled serpent was coiled among the trees. It was a Tier 1 late-stage beast, a black jade python. Its size was massive, and its aura was terrifying. A group of people was fighting it nearby, but they were clearly losing. One by one, they were tossed aside, completely overpowered. Su-hong watched, heart pounding. This was a whole different level. Suddenly his instincts screamed danger. He leaped aside just in time. The beast's spiked tail slammed down exactly where he had been standing, cracking the ground. The creature wasn't satisfied. It was furious that its prey had dodged. Su-hong barely landed before he had to jump again, narrowly dodging a sweeping strike. Even so, the attack was so fast it grazed him, sending a jolt of pain through his body. He realized just how fast this thing really was. Regaining his balance, he noticed an injured fighter nearby, unable to move. Ignoring his own pain, Su-hong grabbed the fallen fighter's weapon. Muttering that he'd borrow it for a second, he turned back to the beast. The python reared up, jaws wide open, ready to strike again. Su-hong barely dodged, rolling away just in the nick of time. Scrambling to his feet, his mind raced. A Tier 1 late-stage beast usually took a whole team to defeat. Yet here he was, fighting one head-on. It was because his skills were now perfected. Using his void step, he darted around, dodging attacks with blinding speed. Seeing an opening, he countered, driving the spear forward with the raging sea spear technique. The tip pierced the beast's scales, making it roar in fury. The python thrashed violently, enraged by the pain. Su-hong didn't stop. He struck again, fluid and precise, driving the monster into a frenzy. Still, he knew the truth. With a body that huge, landing a killing blow wouldn't be easy. The size difference made hitting a vital spot incredibly hard. He reminded himself to stay patient. He had to weaken it first and wait for the right moment. Just then, the beast lashed out again, its massive body crashing toward him with overwhelming force. Su-hong unleashed a perfect thunderous fist. The explosive force met the beast head-on, stopping it in its tracks. A shockwave rippled through the air as both of them staggered back. Su-hong knew he couldn't stay close after landing a hit. He had to pull back immediately and look for another opening. One mistake meant death against a creature like this. His breathing was getting heavier. This fighting style was exhausting, but it was his only safe option. However, the python was tired too. Its movements were slowing down. The beast was nearing its limit. Just a little more, he thought. If I keep this up, I can win. He steadied himself for the next round, eyes locked on the beast. Suddenly a cold chill ran down his spine. Something was wrong. Before he could react, a violent force slammed into him from the side. He flew through the air, crashing hard against the ground. Gasping for breath, he forced himself to roll over, barely blocking a follow-up attack. The impact rattled his bones. He had been ambushed. Struggling to his feet, he shouted, "Who's there?" Several figures stepped from the shadows. One laughed loudly, mocking him. "How's it feel to be caught off guard? Maybe you should just hand over the black jade python to us." Su-hong's eyes narrowed as he recognized the speaker. His heart sank. Real trouble had arrived. Su-hong found himself in a tight spot as he got surrounded by a large group of goons who had a bad history with him. The leader mocked him, saying that when he saw Su-hong leaving the city alone, he was sure Su-hong would die out here. He admitted he didn't expect Su-hong to have such good luck. Not only had Su-hong survived, but he even managed to loot a heavily injured black jade giant python. The leader looked at the nearby python, which was barely hanging on to life, and felt like this was a perfect opportunity for him to take everything. Su-hong realized that since the man said he picked up the python, they must have just arrived. He noted that all 5 of them were martial artists. With the numbers against him, he knew he couldn't fight them all head-on. Suddenly, one of the thugs charged at him, fist raised. He shouted that young Master Yi wanted this python and asked why Su-hong hadn't run away yet. Su-hong got annoyed by the disrespect and channeled a massive amount of aura into his hand. He told them that the only reason he was pushed back earlier was because of a sneak attack, asking if they seriously thought he couldn't beat them. Su-hong threw a punch that collided directly with the enemy's fist, releasing a shockwave of energy. The goon was stunned by the sudden force and realized just how terrifying Su-hong's power actually was. Su-hong didn't stop there. He followed through with a punch straight to the guy's face, sending him flying back toward the rest of the group. The leader recognized the move immediately. It was the powerful Vajra fist. He realized this really was the person known as Minotaur. The leader was genuinely impressed by the display of strength. However, Su-hong recognized the leader as well. It was White Fox. White Fox claimed that Su-hong humiliated him in front of a crowd, something no one had ever done to him before. Furious at the memory, White Fox decided he won't let this slide. He ordered his men to take Su-hong down immediately. The group rushed forward with their weapons drawn. Su-hong quickly grabbed his spear and dashed into the wild to create distance. White Fox refused to let him escape and commanded everyone to chase him, leading the pack as they sprinted after Su Hong. They scoured the wilderness, checking every possible hiding spot. One goon complained that they couldn't find him, while another warned that the dense woods ahead were perfect for an ambush, telling everyone to stay alert. One of them remained cocky, though. He said that with so many people on their side, there was no reason to be afraid of just one guy. But in an instant, a figure flashed behind him at blinding speed. The goon spun around, and standing right there was Su Hong. Su Hong landed a crushing punch, sending the man flying through the air until he landed right in front of his leader. That guy was definitely knocked out cold. The leader was shocked, wondering how Su Hong could possibly move that fast. White Fox couldn't believe his eyes. After seeing that brutal attack, the rest of the group quickly formed a defensive circle, terrified of being next. One goon identified the move as the Nine Echoes Thunder Rush Fist, noting that even Tier 3 martial artists struggled to perfect it. White Fox got frustrated and yelled at them to shut up. Internally, he was panicking, thinking that mastering both the Vajra Fist and Thunder Rush Fist should be impossible. He was starting to feel true fear. His fear would have only grown if he knew that Su Hong was currently hiding in a tree above, watching their every move. To Su Hong, they looked like rats being hunted by a cat. He thought that if he hadn't wasted so much energy fighting the python earlier, he would have crushed them head on. He threw his spear to create a distraction, planning to pick them off one by one. The spear slammed into the ground nearby, startling the whole group. While they were distracted by the spear, Su Hong dropped down, grabbed one of the goons, and attacked. After the instant strike, he vanished back into the shadows. The remaining goons were now completely terrified. They felt like even sticking together won't save them against someone this intense. They begged young Master Yi to leave, saying the kid was too strong, but the leader refused to listen. White Fox's ego wouldn't let him run. He wanted to prove his power, even though he was scared deep down. He declared that he had to kill Su Hong today. Meanwhile, Su Hong was darting around them at such high speeds that they could barely track him. Suddenly, while White Fox was still talking, Su Hong rushed past. Before the leader could react, another goon was grabbed and slammed into the ground. Just like before, Su Hong disappeared immediately after the attack. White Fox's panic turned into frustration. He couldn't understand how this kid became so much stronger in just a few days. It felt unreal. Then, a blur rushed right behind him. White Fox whipped around but saw nothing. He cursed, refusing to believe Su Hong could catch him off guard. But the moment he turned back around, Su Hong appeared right in front of him, ready to strike. White Fox reacted instantly, spinning around and shouting that he hadn't been beaten yet. He gathered magic aura into his hand and struck, shouting that this was the void-breaking finger. Su Hong dodged the attack with a smooth movement. The tree behind him took the hit instead. The force of White Fox's attack was immense, completely shattering the tree trunk. White Fox didn't let up. Seeing Su Hong dodge, he fired beam after beam, repeatedly shouting the name of his attack. No matter how many times he fired, Su Hong was too fast and avoided every shot. While dodging, Su Hong analyzed the power, thinking the skill must be at least B rank. He found it interesting and decided he might want to learn it later. White Fox, however, was losing his mind. His finger glowed with blue aura as he screamed that Su Hong had made a permanent enemy. He threatened that once he got back, he would wipe out Su Hong's entire family. The moment Su Hong heard the threat against his family, something snapped inside him. Threatening his family was completely unacceptable. Filled with rage, he stopped dodging and rushed straight toward White Fox. White Fox tried to intimidate him by bragging about his background, mentioning that his uncle was a supervisor at the martial artist base, and his father was a VIP. Before he could finish his sentence, Su Hong was already right in front of him, radiating a terrifying pressure. Su Hong stayed silent at first, letting his power speak for itself. As he charged a massive punch, he finally spoke, telling White Fox that he looked better when he was acting arrogant. He said this begging didn't suit him, but he was going to enjoy ending this. Su Hong punched White Fox squarely in the face, sending him launching backward. The power behind the blow was overwhelming. White Fox was sent flying deep into the forest, crashing through trees before hitting the ground hard. Dust and smoke filled the air from the impact. When the dust settled, Su Hong walked over with a furious expression, a red aura coating his body. He told White Fox that he should never have used his family as a threat. Lying on the ground, broken and bleeding, White Fox asked in disbelief why Su Hong was so strong. He insisted this was impossible since Su Hong wasn't even supposed to be a martial artist yet. Suddenly, the giant python behind him heard the noise and locked its eyes on White Fox. White Fox felt a chill run down his spine. He looked back just as the python swung its massive tail and struck with its jaws wide open. With White Fox taken out, the python turned its full attention to Su Hong. Su Hong realized that fighting the goons had taken too long, giving the giant python time to recover its stamina. Now, he had to fight the beast again. But this time, he was the one running low on energy. The group of martial artists was fuming after their humiliating defeat. One of them cursed, calling the kid who beat them way too weird. Another looked around, asking where young Master Yi was, hoping he had already finished the kid off. Just then, they spotted the same young man who had defeated them, and he was rushing straight toward them again. Thinking he was back for another round, they immediately braced for a fight. "The brat finally shows his face," one of them shouted, while another vowed not to spare him this time. However, Su Hong had no interest in fighting them. He kept running, calmly telling them to get out of his way. A moment later, they saw exactly why he was running. A massive, enraged giant python was hot on his heels. The sight left them all speechless with terror. The python lunged at Su Hong, but with his spear in hand, he deftly leaped aside, dodging the deadly strike. Unfortunately, one of the other martial artists wasn't as quick. The python snatched him up instead. A system notification popped up for Su Hong. Opponent martial artist indirectly taken down. +30, martial value. The python struck again, catching another man who failed to escape. A second notification appeared with the same message, granting Su Hong another 30 martial value. Su Hong was surprised, realizing he could gain points even when he wasn't the one dealing the final blow. The python immediately turned its attention back to Su Hong, lashing out with its powerful tail. He leaped over the attack, continuing to evade the beast's clever, full-body strikes. As he ran and dodged, Su Hong realized that with all the points he had accumulated, he finally had enough martial value to break through and become a true martial artist. Weaving through the trees, Su Hong easily outmaneuvered the increasingly frustrated python. As he ran, he scanned the area, thinking he just needed to find a safe place to initiate his breakthrough. Just then, he spotted something up ahead. A small cave. It was the perfect shelter he had been looking for. A place where he could be safe from the python and focus on his advancement. Perfect, he thought, and immediately made a dash for the cave's entrance. The python, still in hot pursuit, lunged one last time, but Su Hong dived into the safety of the cave just in the nick of time. The python tried to follow him in, but its massive body was too large for the opening, and it got stuck at the entrance. Trapped and enraged, all the python could do was roar in frustration. Inside, Su Hong calmly turned his attention to his system. He pulled up his status window. It showed his vitality at 96, spirit at 23, and physique as mortal body, 3%. All his skills, Raging Sea Spear Technique, Thunder Rush Fist, Vajra Fist, Floating Light Palm, and Void Step, were at the perfect level. Most importantly, his martial value was at a solid 504. Without wasting a second, he began pouring all his points into his stats, mentally urging the system to go faster. His goal was to gain as much power as possible in the shortest amount of time. He focused on his vitality, and as the points flowed in, he felt an intense heat spread through his body, as if magma were flowing through his veins. In a matter of moments, his vitality hit 100. Outside the cave, even the trapped python seemed to sense a terrifying change in the air. A new notification appeared. Breakthrough successful, Tier 1 martial artist. Su Hong felt a surge of power and thought to himself, "I've finally become a real martial artist." He clenched his fist, feeling a powerful aura envelop him. Looking at the struggling python, he declared, "Now, it's my turn." For the first time, the python felt genuine fear. It desperately tried to pull its body out of the cave entrance, wanting only to escape, but Su Hong gave it no such chance. He channeled his newfound strength into an incredibly powerful punch. Still wedged in the entrance, the python had no way to dodge the attack. The punch connected with tremendous force, sending the massive beast flying backward with a pained roar. The sheer power behind the blow was unbelievable, a stark contrast to the boy it had just been chasing. But Su Hong wasn't done yet. Before the python could even recover, he was on the move. He leaped into the air, landing on the beast's massive body. With a powerful roar of his own, he unleashed a flurry of Vajra Fist attacks. Each punch landed with devastating force, hammering the giant snake into the ground. The ground cracked and shattered under the repeated impacts. The python thrashed wildly, but it was completely overwhelmed by the relentless assault. Finally, with one last earth-shattering blow, the python went still. Dust and smoke filled the air from the sheer force of the battle. When it finally settled, Su Hong was standing triumphantly on the now-defeated giant python. He got a notification for +92 martial value. Su Hong reflected that while the python was already injured, his new strength allowed him to face it head-on, something that would have been impossible just moments ago. His thoughts then turned to the reward. Usually, you needed to cut off a beast's left ear as proof of the kill, but snakes didn't have ears. He was momentarily stumped on what to do. He decided to worry about it later, and started heading back. The forest was now eerily quiet, the only evidence of the chaotic chase being the trail of destruction left in its wake. As he walked, he came across the bodies of the men who had tried to ambush him. Seeing their state, likely other victims of the python, Su Hong commented that they got off easy. His mind then turned to the high-level martial technique their leader had used. His search paid off. He found a manual on Yi Feng's body. Void-breaking finger, he read, a look of interest on his face. This is getting good. Instead of leaving immediately, he decided to stay near the cave. He started a fire and settled down next to the massive python carcass to study his new prize. He began studying the manual and, with his enhanced abilities, quickly memorized the entire introductory method for the void-breaking finger. Now all that was left was to use his system to master it in record time. As he began his training through the system, a clone of himself materialized in front of him, ready for a fight. The clone didn't hold back, immediately attacking him with the void-breaking finger over and over. By sparring with the clone, Su Hong's mastery of the technique skyrocketed, climbing rapidly past 51%, 63%, 77%, and then 93%. Before long, a notification confirmed that his void-breaking finger had reached the basic realm, and his progress toward the next level began. The training left Su Hong completely exhausted. He coughed, noting that as a B-rank skill, even reaching the basic realm put immense strain on his body. The system then prompted him to find a real monster to test his new power. 3 days later, Su Hong stood before a new challenge, a massive, roaring bear-like monster. He put his new skill to the test, using the void-breaking finger to fight the beast head-on, and eventually, he emerged victorious. After the tough battle, Su Hong felt he had finally mastered the skill. This power is definitely worthy of a B-rank martial skill, he said with satisfaction. A system notification confirmed that void-breaking finger had reached the perfect level. With his new power secured, Su Hong decided it was finally time to head back. Back at the martial artist base, a large crowd was gathered around the mission counter, buzzing with excitement. Someone in the crowd exclaimed in shock, "230,000!" Another person remarked that the Thunder Squad must be incredibly skilled to have killed so many ferocious beasts. A third added that a haul like that was equal to several months of hard work for most people. Someone else pointed out the quality of the kills, noting that they were all Tier 1 beasts, with not a single non-ranked one among them, and even a few high-stage monsters. Just as the crowd was marveling at the Thunder Squad's score, the receptionist turned to Su Hong's pile of trophies. Her eyes went wide with shock as she announced his results. 72 Tier 1 initial stage beasts, 83 middle stage, 17 high stage, for a total reward of 406,000 blue star coins. Seeing the reaction, Su Hong started to regret his decision. He thought to himself that he might have overdone it. A haul this large was far too conspicuous. He could only hope it didn't attract unwanted trouble. The crowd erupted. The number was so staggering that people couldn't believe what they were hearing. As Su Hong made his way through the stunned crowd, a sudden commotion broke out at the base entrance. Shouts rang out, with people wondering how the base could possibly be under attack with so many high-level martial artists present. The commotion wasn't from an attack, but from the forceful arrival of an important figure. The crowd parted to reveal a man striding through with a group of guards. It was Yi Qi, the man in charge of the base and Yi Feng's uncle. With a grim expression, he ordered his men to blockade the entire base. "Don't let a single fly escape," he commanded. His guards immediately moved to carry out the order. Another supervisor hurried over, asking Yi Qi what was going on. Yi Qi's voice was cold as he replied, "My nephew, Yi Feng, and the 4 martial artists with him are all dead." A shocked silence fell over the crowd. People began to whisper in disbelief that young Master Yi Feng and his entire group were wiped out. However, not everyone was sad. One person muttered that it was a good kill, since Yi Feng had robbed nearly everyone at the base. Another added that if it weren't for his powerful uncle, someone would have dealt with him long ago. Ignoring the whispers, Yi Qi announced the real reason for the lockdown. A valuable B-rank martial skill was missing from Yi Feng's body. He ordered a search of every martial artist in the base, declaring that no one leaves until they were cleared of suspicion. Hearing this, Su Hong felt a moment of relief. He thought that the state of the bodies clearly pointed to the giant python as the killer, so the deaths shouldn't be traced back to him. However, as the search progressed, he started to feel uneasy. He noticed people glancing in his direction and whispering among themselves, and he began to suspect this search might be targeting him specifically. His fears were confirmed when Yi Qi, flanked by his guards, walked directly toward him. On the surface, Yi Qi's tone was polite. "I heard you killed over 400,000 worth of ferocious beasts all by yourself," he said, praising Su Hong's skills. But his calm words were betrayed by the menacing red aura flaring around him, making it clear that he was anything but pleased. It seemed he already suspected something. Su Hong kept a calm look on his face, but inside he knew the truth. He was much stronger now. Deep down, he even started to wonder if he could actually defeat this man if things really turned sour. The White Fox's father spoke up first. He said he heard that Su Hong took down ferocious beasts worth 400,000 credits all on his own, admitting that was pretty impressive for a student. However, the woman standing next to him wasn't buying it. She argued that Su Hong looked like a rank 1 early-stage fighter at best, so there was no way he could kill that many beasts. She accused him of stealing from young Master Ye's pack and immediately ordered her men to search him. As soon as the order left her mouth, two large men with flames burning in their hands started walking towards Su Hong. One of them gave him a sharp warning: "Do not resist, or this would get ugly." But in the blink of an eye, the situation flipped. One of the men suddenly found a spear tip pointed right at his face. The guard froze and asked what Su Hong thought he was doing. Su Hong calmly said it was nothing, keeping the spear steady. The man was completely shocked because he didn't even see Su Hong draw the weapon. It was just too fast. Su Hong then announced that he was a student of Star City High No. 1. He looked at them and asked if they really wanted to force a search on a student from that school. Hearing the school's name, the White Fox's father hesitated. He knew the principal of High School No. 1 was famous for being extremely protective of his students. That was not a person he wanted to offend over a small issue. Ye Qi still thought the whole thing smelled fishy. If this kid really hunted all those beasts, he was a genius. But if they were wrong and they offended a genius student, it wouldn't be worth the trouble. He signaled his men to stop and stepped forward himself. He explained that his nephew was attacked and a secret family technique was stolen, so he had no choice but to find the culprit. He added that he hoped Su Hong would cooperate. Su Hong simply replied that he just hoped they weren't accusing the wrong person. Ye Qi then offered 10,000 credits as payment for the trouble of searching him and asked if that sounded fair. Su Hong countered immediately, asking for 30,000. In his head, he knew Yifeng was technically killed by the giant python. As long as they didn't find the stolen technique on him, they couldn't prove anything. Ye Qi agreed to the price. Su Hong opened his arms and let them search him. While the men checked his pockets, the woman dug through his bag. Su Hong told them to look closely because he didn't want any false rumors following him later. When they finished, the men reported that they found absolutely nothing. Ye Qi nodded, told them to pay Su Hong the 30,000 credits, and let him leave. Walking away, Su Hong thought to himself that it was a good thing he cleaned up the scene properly. If he hadn't, he would have been in serious trouble today. Ye Qi turned to the crowd and yelled for the search to continue, stating that no one left until the thief was found. Meanwhile, Su Hong planned his next move. He wanted to shower and change, then head straight to the Martial Artist Association to sign up for the assessment. He needed to get a proper guidance technique as soon as possible. A little later, Su Hong was resting at the underground hotel in the martial artist base. He opened his system interface and checked his points. He was surprised to see he had 534 martial points. He realized he was so busy training the world-shattering finger and hunting beasts that he forgot to spend them. His stats looked good. Vitality was over 103, spirit was at 23, and his physique, the mortal frame, was at 6%. All his skills, void-shattering finger, raging sea spear technique, and void step, were perfected. Looking at the numbers, Su Hong noted that rank 1 early stage needed 100 vitality, but mid-stage needed 200. He did the math and realized that even if he used all his points on vitality, he would still be short about 40 points for mid-stage. He decided to look at spirit and mortal frame instead, to see what upgrading those would do. His spirit was at 23 and mortal frame was at 6%. Since he had points to spare, he decided to test it out. He upgraded his spirit, watching it go up by 0.1 at a time. After spending some points, he admitted he didn't really feel any different. Next, he tried increasing his mortal frame by 0.1 at a time. This time, the result was instant. He felt a clear boost in physical strength immediately, so he decided to keep adding points there. Watching his martial points drop quickly, he decided to stop upgrading the mortal frame for now. He switched gears and dumped 200 martial points into his vitality instead. After the changes, his mortal frame was sitting at 36.1%. He decided to put whatever points were left into his spirit. The moment he finished, a massive wave of red energy exploded around him. He felt an endless amount of power rising up from inside his body. After a few moments, the energy faded and his body slowly returned to its normal state. He let out a long breath, relieved to be back to normal size. He thought it would have been really awkward to explain to people why he suddenly turned into a giant muscle man. An hour later, Su Hong arrived at the Star City Martial Artist Association, a huge building surrounded by skyscrapers. He walked up to the front desk and told the receptionist he was there for the assessment. The woman nodded and said a staff member would guide him to the testing area soon. As he followed a staff member down the hall, she commented on how young he looked and asked if it was his first time. She explained the rules. To pass as a rank 1 martial artist, he needed at least 100 vitality and a combat power over 1,000. She wished him luck, and Su Hong thanked her politely. Nearby, people in the waiting area started whispering. One guy pointed out that the kid came alone, without a master or teacher. Another guessed that since he was so young, he was probably just here to see what the test was like, not to actually pass. Suddenly the room got loud as a commotion broke out near the testing machines. A machine announced that a guy named Panjia had 102 vitality, but his combat power was only 992. That meant he failed. Panjia cursed loudly, frustrated that he missed the mark by such a tiny amount. Su Hong and the staff member walked into the testing zone. Just then, another announcement came through. Li Ming had a vitality of 105 and had passed. The system told him to move on to the combat power test. Li Ming stepped up to the punching machine, wound up, and threw a heavy punch. The screen flashed the number 1763. He passed easily. Someone in the crowd gasped, noting that 1763 was almost the power level of a rank 1 mid-stage fighter. Another person asked if this was the disciple of Jiang Ming from the Raging Thunder Dojo. A bystander confirmed it, saying it made sense that he was a genius since he used the famous thunderclap fist. Su Hong heard the name and scratched his head. He thought Jiang Ming's disciple was named Li Yan. He wondered just how many students that guy actually had. Li Ming walked back from the machine and looked at Su Hong, telling him he was up next. As Su Hong stepped forward, Li Ming watched him. He figured that since Su Hong was taking the test at such a young age, he must be a genius too. He admitted Su Hong was rare, but he doubted the kid could compare to him. Suddenly, the crowd screamed in shock. People were yelling, asking if the machine was broken because they couldn't believe the number they were seeing. Even the arrogant Li Ming spun around in surprise. The staff member announced that Su Hong's vitality was 123. He passed the first round easily. Li Ming muttered that it had to be impossible. He tried to calm himself down, thinking that vitality wasn't the only thing that mattered. Combat power was the real test. He told himself he could still be the #1 student here. The officer called for the combat power test to start, and Su Hong was guided over to the punching machine. Standing in front of the target, Su Hong thought about his stats. He was already a martial artist and had upgraded his physique, so his raw strength was way higher than before. He considered using just 40% of his power, thinking that should be enough to pass. But then he worried. If he held back too much and failed the 1,000-point requirement, he would look stupid. To be safe, he decided to use 50%. He threw the punch with terrifying speed and force. Even at half strength, the power was too much. The punching machine was blasted straight off its mount, flew into the wall, and smashed into pieces. The destruction was total, and the room went silent. Everyone was staring with their mouths open. Li Ming looked terrified, realizing Su Hong just destroyed the tester with one hit. The silence broke into loud shouting as Li Ming realized the scariest part. Su Hong didn't even use a martial arts technique. That was just raw power. Someone in the crowd pointed out that a rank 1 high-stage fighter usually had around 3,000 combat power. This result was completely off the charts. Another person grabbed a teacher's arm and yelled that it was that kid again, calling him an absolute monster. The teacher nodded, saying that explained everything. Meanwhile, in a high-up office, a woman was sitting at her desk. This was Wu Lingxian, the president of the Star City Martial Arts Association. She was venting about the neighboring Yang City branch, complaining that they wouldn't stop bragging about their new genius. She worried that if Star City didn't find some talent soon, she might actually lose her job. Suddenly, a man burst into her office, screaming that a monster had appeared in the assessment hall. Wu Lingxian glared at him for yelling, clearly startled. The man quickly explained, "A rank 1. Early-stage kid just sent the testing machine flying with raw physical strength, hitting a combat power of 3,000. Wu Lingxian paused, finding it hard to believe. But then she realized, this might be the exact miracle she had been waiting for. The central hall of the Martial Artist Association was packed with activity. People were moving everywhere, some were chatting, some were standing guard, and others were helping injured fighters walk, while many just looked around in awe. 2 men were chatting nearby. One told Brother Su Hong that he'd take him to the 2nd floor to register his martial artist identity first, and after that, they could go collect his allowance. Su Hong politely thanked him for the help. Suddenly, someone interrupted, stating that Su Hong was done with the basics, and that she would handle him personally. The guide was shocked, realizing it was the president herself. He couldn't believe she would come down to handle this in person. To her, this matter was crucial, and she didn't want any mistakes. She turned her gaze to the young man and confirmed that he must be Su Hong. She introduced herself as Wu Lingxian, the president of the Star City branch of the Martial Dao Association, and simply told him to follow her. Su Hong agreed, addressing her as president. Internally, he was surprised. He recalled rumors that the president was a powerful Tier 8 Rank 5 martial artist, but she looked different from what he had imagined. Moments later, inside the president's private office, the 2 of them sat down to have a serious talk. Wu Lingxian noted that Su Hong was a student at Star City No. 1 High School. She mentioned that the principal, Li Changshan, had complained to her earlier. He was upset that the school had only produced 2 ordinary Tier 1 martial artists this year, completely missing a hidden genius like Su Hong. Su Hong felt a bit nervous. He asked why she had brought him to her office, explaining that he had only come here to register, get his allowance, and pick up a basic guidance technique. Wu Lingxian waved her hand, telling him to relax. She explained that her subordinates were already processing his ID and money. As for the guidance technique, she intended to teach him personally. She stood up and asked him directly, How much did he actually understand about guidance techniques? Su-hong thought for a moment. He recited the textbook definition. The heaven and earth spiritual key had attributes, and a guidance technique was a method to absorb that energy to strengthen the body. He added that different attributes required specific techniques to absorb them. The president extended her hand, conjuring a small flame. She explained that the textbook wasn't wrong, but guidance techniques were more than just simple cultivation methods. She revealed that her heavenly flame guidance technique absorbed fire attribute energy. While it strengthened her body, it also infused her attacks with deadly firepower. She added that mastering external attacks could increase range. However, she noted that for a Tier 1 martial artist, just carrying a trace of the element was impressive. Wrapping an entire fist in it was nearly impossible for beginners. Su-hong was surprised that these techniques could be used for attacking. He admitted he thought they were only for absorbing energy to level up, as the textbooks had never mentioned combat applications. The president continued her lesson. The spiritual key had 7 attributes: metal, wood, water, fire, earth, thunder, and wind. While each had pros and cons, in terms of pure destruction, thunder was first, metal was second, and fire was third. However, you couldn't just pick any element. It depended on your natural compatibility. Su-hong nodded, realizing now that a martial artist was limited by their own body's affinity. The president agreed and pulled out a crystal ball to test his compatibility. She explained that the more it glowed, the higher the affinity. Ordinary martial artists usually only had around 20 to 30%. She mentioned that her own affinity was around 80%, which was considered elite. However, she believed a genius like Su-hong would definitely exceed 90%. As the flame vanished, Su-hong took the crystal ball. He thought about how President Wu had become a Tier 5 master so young. She was a true genius. If she was only at 80%, reaching 90% himself would be absolutely incredible. Suddenly, the crystal ball began to shine, growing brighter and brighter until it was blinding. The president gasped, exclaiming that it was full. She hadn't been expecting this at all. She announced that Su-hong's fire attribute compatibility was a perfect 100%. She stared at him intensely and asked if he understood what that meant. She stepped closer, full of praise. Su-hong admitted he doesn't know the significance. The president explained that this meant he could absorb 100% of the fire attribute energy without wasting a single drop. She explained that with her 80% compatibility, she lost 20% of the energy during absorption. Yet, even with that loss, she had become a Tier 5 martial artist and the president of the association. She pointed right at his face, declaring that his future would definitely surpass hers. Su-hong sweated nervously. The president marveled that she had never expected a small place like Star City to produce a monster comparable to the elites from the imperial capital. While she spoke, Su-hong thought that the fire attribute was nice, but he actually preferred thunder. He thought that if only he had high compatibility with thunder, that would be perfect. Suddenly, the crystal ball lit up again, but this time it crackled with intense thunderous energy. This new development shocked the president even more. Su-hong looked at the ball and noted that his thunder attribute compatibility also seemed to be 100%. The president was completely speechless. She stood there stunned, wondering if she was hallucinating. Thunder and fire dual attributes at 100%? She could only conclude that this boy was a complete monster. Then, the glow shifted again. Su-hong added that his wind attribute compatibility also seemed to be 100%. The president stared in disbelief, wondering how something this outrageous was even possible. A few minutes later, she slumped back onto the couch, totally defeated, while Su-hong quietly watched her spiral into shock and panic. She muttered that this wasn't right. Every single element was full, all at 100%. She convinced herself she must be dreaming. She reflected that she once considered herself a top-tier genius. After all, a 30-year-old Tier 5 martial artist was incredibly rare. But after meeting someone who defied all common sense, she realized she was just an ordinary person in comparison. She realized that only another monster could ever hope to understand or defeat a monster like him. She muttered to herself about existences that ordinary people simply could not comprehend. Su-hong broke the silence, noting that all 7 attributes were at 100%. He complained that if he only cultivated thunder and ignored the other 6, it felt like a huge waste. It was actually quite distressing for him. He then boldly asked the president if she could just give him the guidance techniques for all 7 attributes. The president fell silent. She eventually explained that human energy was limited. No matter how high his talent was, it was best to focus on 1 or 2. She warned him that someone in the past had tried to cultivate all 7 at once, and after decades, that person was still stuck as a Tier 1 martial artist. Su-hong insisted that he couldn't decide right then. He wanted to try cultivating all of them first and pick a focus later. The president reluctantly agreed but warned him seriously. He absolutely must not squander his God-given talent. Then she changed the subject, asking if his school's monthly exam was coming up soon. Su-hong nodded yes, asking why she wanted to know. The president explained that friction in the all-heavens battlefield was intensifying. The Great War between the 10,000 races and humanity could erupt at any moment. Because of this, nations were pouring resources into a special genius training camp. She wanted to recommend Su-hong for it, but there was a condition. He had to take first place in his school's monthly exam. If he succeeded, she would secure his spot. Su-hong thought about the War of the 10,000 races. He remembered the conflict that had happened over a decade ago. He recalled losing all his relatives except his uncle and aunt when he was young. He told the president he understood and would work hard. In his heart, he vowed to never let that tragedy happen again. He had to become strong enough to protect his family. That night, back at home, Su-hong excitedly announced to his uncle and aunt that he had become an official martial artist. He proudly displayed his new credentials. His uncle and aunt started crying tears of joy. They exclaimed that little Hong had really succeeded. His aunt added that he had truly made something of himself and she was so proud of his capability. Su-hong revealed that a Tier 1 martial artist got a monthly allowance of $10,000, so his uncle didn't need to work so hard anymore. His uncle smiled, saying that little Hong was now the pillar of the family, and he'd listen to whatever he said from then on. Su-hong silently promised himself that from this moment on, he would carry the weight of the entire family on his shoulders. Later that night, alone in his room, Su-hong sat down to meditate intensely. When he snapped his eyes open, they were glowing with a deep red light. He clenched his fist, and smoke slowly drifted out from his fingers. He wondered if this was the basic level of the guidance technique. It seemed weak. He questioned why it felt like it had no power at all. Then he noticed a new entry on his system panel. The guidance technique had appeared, confirming he had successfully learned it. Checking the status details, he saw it was currently at level 1. He started wondering, could guidance techniques be leveled up like skills? President Wu had never mentioned this. If these techniques had levels, she surely would have told him. A sudden realization hit him. What if he was the only one who could level them up? What if he could solo level his cultivation technique? If you are excited to see just how powerful he becomes, hit that subscribe button right now and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next episode. Su-hong stared seriously at the glowing blue panel. He wondered how to upgrade guidance techniques and if they improved the same way as martial value. As he touched the window, a red warning flashed. Insufficient martial value. Su-hong sighed. He decided to cultivate the other guidance techniques first and figure out how to earn more martial value later. He sat cross-legged on the rooftop, surrounded by books. Flames of spiritual energy burst around him, lighting up the area. Hours later, Su-hong's inner view showed 7 glowing points of spiritual qi. Each point represented a different technique, like thunder, water marsh, thick earth, and spirit wind. The 7 different attributes pushed against each other. Su-hong gritted his teeth, sweating. He understood why President Wu said a genius cultivating 7 techniques stayed Tier 1 for decades. He continued to channel the power, trying to control the energy as flames rose around him. He noticed that while all 7 types of qi existed in his body, he could only use one at a time. A ball of fiery qi formed in his hand as he breathed heavily. The flames swirled in his hand. He realized that if he forced a second attribute, the forces would collide and cause a violent explosion. A huge explosion of energy shook the rooftop, making both attributes disappear. Su-hong narrowed his eyes. Could thunder and fire not be combined? Their natures felt similar, so why did they reject each other? He tried again. Thunderlight and fire sparks wrapped around his fingers. When the forces touched, another explosion burst out, scattering the energy. Sweating, Su-hong clenched his teeth and refused to give up. He yelled to try one more time. Flashes burst from the rooftop all night as he tried to fuse the attributes. At dawn, the building still glowed faintly from the sparks of Su-hong's non-stop training. Breathing heavily with sweat running down his face, he told himself he just needed a little more. Lightning and flame flickered in his hand. He stared at it, insisting he only needed a tiny bit more. Gritting his teeth, he shouted for the power to fuse. Lightning and fire wrapped around his arms as he forced the energies together. A bright flame exploded in his palm. After trying all night, he finally succeeded. He looked at the flame with relief. Straightening his clothes, he decided it was time to go out and test the power. At Star City's Citizen Martial Arts Square, a large plaza with a clock tower, training robots stood ready. Su-hong stood before a spider-shaped combat tester. He noted that he had switched to a Tier 3 tester, hoping this one wouldn't break. Remembering that 50% power reached 3,000 previously, he decided to try 30% power first. He struck with his glowing fist. The result went above 2,300. He was surprised. At 30% strength, it should have been around 1,800, but it had increased by 500. He looked at the lightning in his hand. The power of thunder alone was already very strong. Then he clenched his hand to aim. He wondered how strong the fused thunder and fire would be, then released the combined force. His punch smashed into the tester with overwhelming speed and power. The screen flashed 3041. Su Hong stared in surprise. It was far higher than expected. He muttered in shock, wondering how it passed 3,000. Rubbing his hands beside the damaged tester, he realized that 30% of his fused power already surpassed a Tier 1 high-stage martial artist. He glanced at his status and sighed. His vitality was only 123, making the result even more terrifying. If the power was this strong with 2 attributes, what kind of strength would he have fusing all 7? The thought filled him with excitement. Watching the flames and lightning in his hand, he smiled. He decided to try fusing 3 attributes next time. Later, he lay flat on the rooftop, exhausted, shirtless and sweating. He breathed heavily as small lights floated around. Fusing 2 attributes was hard, but fusing 3 felt much harder. He had rearranged all 7 patterns repeatedly, but made no progress. Still, he imagined the power if he succeeded. He checked the system, wondering if leveling up his techniques would help. The screen listed his level 1 techniques like thunder, flame, and water. He remembered the monthly exam was tomorrow, and he needed to earn martial value. The next day, students gathered at Star City No. 1 High School. The principal walked onto the stage. The principal announced this exam was different. Due to frontline pressure, a special training camp would now be held yearly to select geniuses. He explained the camp had resources like powerful arts, rare pills, and grandmaster instructors. The top 3 students in the exam would join the Star City training camp. The students became excited, shouting about the genius training camp. Others were shocked that a Tier 7 grandmaster might teach, since their principal was only Tier 3. Su Hong stared ahead tiredly. President Wu had said if he got first place, she would give him a spot. But didn't the top 3 all receive spots anyway? A friend told Su Hong that Chen Shan and Li Tu were now Tier 1 martial artists, and others had learned Thunder Rush Fist. Su Hong looked confused. He had only missed 10 days, yet they had already broken through. He explained that the principal asked instructor Chen Tian to give private lessons. Now Chen Shan and Li Tu's vitality exceeded 100, and their Thunder Rush Fist could echo 3 times. Suddenly, Chen Shan and Li Tu walked forward. One said he wanted everyone to know who the real genius was. The other replied that he hoped he would stay confident after being beaten down. As the principal left the stage, instructor Chen Tian asked if he found the genius who used the 9 Echoes Thunder Rush Fist. Principal Li said he searched everywhere but didn't think the person was from his school. While talking, they heard noise behind them and turned. A man in a black suit approached with 2 others. It was Jiang Ming, Su Hong's spear teacher, with Li Ming and Li Yan. Jiang Ming joked, asking Principal Li why he looked so sad. The principal asked why Jiang Ming was there. Jiang Ming smiled, saying the students looked weak. He brought 2 disciples and suggested letting the first-place student spar with them after the exam. Principal Li's expression tightened. Jiang Ming had come to embarrass him. If he refused, it would admit his school had no talent. Jiang Ming said the students looked weak, so he would understand a refusal. Instructor Chen Tian snapped back, asking if Jiang Ming was looking for trouble. Nearby, Jiang Ming's student Li Yan pointed at the crowd. He told his teacher there was bad news. Su Hong was here. Jiang Ming was confused and asked which Su. Turning toward the students, he recognized Su Hong standing at the back. Jiang Ming shouted in surprise, realizing it was that same little monster. Su Hong looked at them calmly with a faint smile. Jiang Ming stared in shock, sweating. He realized the kid they talked about was actually from No. 1 High School. He looked at his disciples, troubled. If Li Yan and Li Ming fought Su Hong, they would lose. He needed to avoid the match to save face. He quickly smiled, telling Principal Li not to be angry. He said he was joking, and there would be no competition, calling his own disciples trash compared to the students. Li Yan and Li Ming immediately conceded. Principal Li and Instructor Chen were furious, thinking these men were mocking them sarcastically. Soon at the arena, a loud announcement called for match number 666, Su Hong, to begin. From the stands, Su Hong's friend watched anxiously. He noted Su Hong's opponent was a quasi-martial artist, which was unlucky. He shouted to Su Hong not to push himself or get injured so early. The opponent, Chen Ping, stepped forward. He asked if Su Hong planned to walk down or be beaten down. He clenched his fist to charge confidently. But before he could react, Su Hong moved. He disappeared and instantly appeared in front of Chen Ping. With one clean strike, he sent Chen Ping flying. The impact flipped Chen Ping upside down, and he crashed hard onto the ground. Everyone stared in shock. One student asked when Su Hong became so fierce, while others were stunned silent. Su Hong stood calmly in the smoke. Everyone realized he had defeated a quasi-martial artist in a single move. Su Hong stood calmly over his defeated opponent. The crowd shouted in disbelief, wondering how he became so strong, with some suspecting he was already a Tier 1 martial artist. They announced the final match would happen next. In the stands, Instructor Chen stared at Su Hong, confused about where this student came from and why he missed private tutoring. Principal Li blamed himself for failing to notice him earlier. Principal Li felt he had wasted a talent by not training Su Hong sooner. Instructor Chen mentioned Su Hong looked familiar but couldn't remember where he had seen him. They turned their attention to the semi-final match between Chen Shan and Li Tu, noting the winner would be decided soon. Watching the fight, they saw the two were evenly matched, making the winner hard to predict. On stage, Li Tu warned Chen Shan that since they both used the Three Echoes Thunder Rush Fist, Chen needed his strongest move to win. Li Tu then attacked with full force. Li Tu charged, slamming his fist down explosively. Chen Shan shouted as he blocked, the impact blasting wind across the floor. Chen Shan's fist burst with flames. He yelled at Li Tu to watch closely, declaring himself the school's true number one. The students shouted in shock that Chen Shan had mastered attribute externalization. They recognized the powerful fire attribute, second only to thunder. Li Tu stepped forward with a smirk, energy flowing like water around his arm. He scoffed that attribute externalization was nothing special. The students gasped again, seeing Li Tu also had externalized attributes. His was metal, even stronger than fire in combat. Metallic chains swirled around Li Tu's fists as he dashed ahead to attack. His punches echoed 5 times. Chen Shan was shocked to see Li Tu unleash the 5 Echoes Thunder Rush Fist. A violent impact followed. Li Tu's strike blasted his opponent backward, sending shockwaves across the arena. Principal Li and Instructor Chen were stunned. Li noted Li Tu had hidden his strength, while Chen marveled that Li Tu mastered attribute externalization and the micro-level Thunder Rush Fist in just 10 days. Principal Li said the final was pointless. Su Hong couldn't beat Li Tu's metal attribute. Chen sighed, saying Su Hong might have had a chance if he knew a guidance technique. Jiang Ming confidently bet 50,000 on Su Hong. Shocked, Li called him crazy for betting on someone without a guidance technique. Chen laughed, happy to take the easy money. The final battle began. Li Tu against Su Hong. Students cheered, some for Su Hong, others urging Li Tu to win. The fighters stepped onto the stage. Li Tu told Su Hong he was lucky to reach the finals without facing him or Chen Shan earlier. Su Hong remained calm. After hunting beasts, these students seemed weak, but Li Tu finally looked like a worthy opponent. Li Tu grinned, calling Su Hong the second strongest. Su Hong simply asked who the first was. Li Tu stomped the ground, declaring that he was naturally number one. He attacked, claiming one move would show the huge gap between them. Students panicked, seeing Li Tu use the 5 Echoes Thunder Rush Fist immediately. They feared it was already over for Su Hong, but Su Hong's eyes glowed with golden light as power built up inside him. Flames burst from his fist as he charged, wanting to test the limits of his physical body. The crowd screamed that Su Hong was crazy for meeting the attack head-on instead of dodging. Their fists smashed together explosively, shaking the ground. They clashed repeatedly, sending energy bursts through the air. Su Hong met the thunderous attack directly. Li Tu was shocked that Su Hong stopped his 5 Echoes fist instantly with just 5 punches. They fought on, fists colliding in a storm of blows amidst whipping energy chains. Li Tu gritted his teeth. Every punch from Su Hong felt overwhelmingly heavy, like fighting a monster. In the stands, a teacher exclaimed that Su Hong was evenly matching Li Tu without using any martial skills. His friend shouted that his strength was terrifying. The officials were stunned. Chen guessed Su Hong had a special physique. Principal Li laughed, proud the school produced such a genius. However, Chen noted that despite Su Hong's strength, Li Tu's condensed attribute still gave him the edge. The clash sent both sliding back. Su Hong steadied his flaming fist, while Li Tu was forced back several meters. Angry, Li Tu shouted that he would win. Blue lightning surged around his arms as he powered up. He lunged, fists wrapped in energy chains, demanding Su Hong accept defeat. Su Hong realized Li Tu was no longer holding back and was attacking at full power. Since Li Tu went all out, Su Hong decided to show some respect. Flames burst from his fist as he sprinted to meet the attack. Lightning burst across the arena. Li Tu yelled in shock, realizing Su Hong could also use attribute externalization. Principal Li and Instructor Chen trembled as golden lightning filled the arena, leaving them speechless. They were stunned Su Hong had mastered the Thunder Guidance technique. Chen explained that a special physique combined with the Thunder attribute made him terrifying. Su Hong and Li Tu clashed again, causing lightning and chains to explode everywhere. Li Tu realized with alarm that Su Hong's Thunder attribute was stronger than his own metal attribute. Lightning coiled around Su Hong. He told Li Tu that since he revealed his ultimate move, he would answer properly. Su Hong's eyes glowed gold. He announced his ultimate move and charged using the Thunder Rush Fist. His strike landed explosively. The impacts echoed rapidly, driving Li Tu back as 9 echo bursts blasted across the arena. 9 echoes impossible! Li Tu shouted. Blood burst from his mouth as he crashed to the ground. Su Hong stood over him, thunder still crackling around his fists. The students fell silent, their faces frozen in pure shock. Someone finally asked if he won. Excitement erupted as they realized Su Hong reached the perfect realm. 9 echoes, surpassing even the teachers. Instructor Chen stuttered in disbelief. Principal Lee trembled, declaring Su-hong not just a genius, but the dragon of Star City High. Chen wiped his sweat, imagining how devastated other geniuses in the training camp would be facing a monster like Su-hong. As Su-hong walked away, Chen admired him. He said a golden carp transforms into a dragon when it meets the wind. Star City was too small for him. Principal Lee agreed. He predicted Su-hong would rise like a dragon, shining brightest in the imperial capital and the battlefield of 10,000 races. Su-hong arrived back at his cramped apartment building just as the sun was going down. Inside, the mood was warm as Su-hong's uncle served a simple dinner. Su-hong said he was home, and his uncle immediately asked how the exam went that day. Smiling, Su-hong told them he had taken first place in the monthly exam. His uncle was shocked and overjoyed, while his auntie realized this ranking meant he could finally go to the special training camp he had mentioned before. Suddenly, loud knocking on the door interrupted their celebration. A woman's voice shouted rudely from the hallway, demanding to know if this was Su-hong's house. Su-hong opened the door looking confused, while his uncle and aunt peeked out nervously from behind him to see who the stranger was. A wealthy-looking woman stood there, wearing expensive clothes and jewelry. She introduced herself as the mother of a student named Lin Nian. She explained that since only the top 3 students could enter the training camp and her son was ranked 4th, she had come to convince Su-hong to give up his spot. She arrogantly held out a stack of cash, offering Su-hong 30,000 to drop out so her son could take his place. Su-hong and his family just stared at her in silence, looking more confused than tempted by the sudden bribe. Seeing that the money didn't work immediately, the woman got furious. She switched to intimidation, shouting that the competition in the camp was extremely cruel and that people could actually die there. She looked down on their poverty, sneering that with their poor family background, giving up early was for his own good. She claimed other students had high-grade pills and resources he couldn't afford. Her harsh words terrified Su-hong's auntie. She looked at her nephew with fear in her eyes, asking if what the woman said was true, and if it was really that dangerous. Su-hong's uncle placed a hand on his wife's back to calm her down, while Su-hong stood there silently. Finally, the uncle looked at Su-hong with a serious, sweaty face, asking if Su-hong could truly guarantee his safety if he went. Su-hong stepped forward confidently, declaring that he could guarantee his own safety. The rich woman scoffed, asking the uncle if he really believed the promise of a child. However, the uncle immediately defended his nephew. He shouted that he trusted Su-hong because he was an adult now, and he certainly wasn't going to trust a stranger over his own family. Defeated, the woman was forced to leave and the door slammed shut behind her. Outside in the hallway, she was furious. She looked back at the apartment and cursed them, shouting that they were just waiting to be eliminated from the training camp. Inside, things calmed down. Su-hong's uncle asked if Su-hong had hidden the danger of the camp from them on purpose. Su-hong tried to reassure them that it was fine. His uncle smiled broadly and gave him a thumbs up. He admitted that he was a simple man, but he understood that if Su-hong had the determination to face such difficulties, the family had to support him fully. Suddenly, his aunt slapped his uncle on the back to break the tension, surprising both Su-hong and his uncle. She told him they didn't care about his ranking. They only wanted him to stay safe. Su-hong smiled warmly and nodded, relieved to have their blessing. Later that night, Su-hong stood alone on the rooftop, looking out over the city skyline. He thought about his uncle and aunt, knowing that despite their supportive words, they were secretly worried. He promised himself that he would not let them down and needed to become stronger to protect their new life. He opened his system interface. He saw that he had gained 285 martial value points from the monthly exam, but felt it wasn't enough. He looked at his mortal body stat, which was currently at 36.1%. Knowing he would face geniuses with powerful secret moves at the camp, he decided to focus on upgrading his physical body to compete with them. He began adding points into the mortal body stat. Red energy flashed around him as the percentage slowly climbed up, point by point. After the upgrade, steam rose from his body. His mortal body had reached 64.6%. He realized he was still a long way from 100% and wondered what kind of special body type he would unlock once he finished it. Suddenly, he noticed a surprise on his status screen. He was confused to see that both his Thunder Guidance Technique and Heavenly Flame Guidance Technique had leveled up to level 2 without him realizing it. Su-hong realized that he had only practiced the guidance techniques for a few days without doing anything special. He wondered if there were no extra conditions required, and if simply practicing normally allowed them to level up. Deciding to test this theory immediately, he said he would try to level up one more time. Lightning crackled in one hand and flames blazed in the other as he began to gather his energy. The sun rose over the city the next day at dawn, casting light over the skyscrapers. Su-hong snapped his eyes open, his gaze sharp and focused after a night of training. He sat cross-legged, surrounded by a powerful aura of fire and electricity. His hard work had paid off. A message appeared confirming that both his Thunder Guidance Technique and Heavenly Flame Guidance Technique had successfully upgraded to level 3. He checked his status panel with satisfaction. He saw that not only had the techniques leveled up, but his vitality had also increased by 3 points, reaching 126. He considered this an unexpected bonus. His mortal body progress sat at 64.6%, and he had used up all his martial value. Later that morning, Su Hong stood outside his apartment building, ready to leave for the training camp with his weapon over his shoulder. His aunt looked at him with great worry, telling him to be safe and reminding him that if it didn't work out, he could just come home. His uncle interrupted, telling his wife not to say such sad things. He waved enthusiastically at Su Hong, encouraging him to go to the camp and bring back another first-place victory. Su Hong smiled, agreed, and turned to walk away. As Su Hong walked down the empty street, his uncle's brave act began to break. He stood there trembling, watching his nephew's back. Tears ran down the uncle's face as he finally let his emotions show. His aunt joked with him, asking if he wasn't just as worried as she was. The uncle admitted he was, but he had held it in because he was afraid that if he showed his fear, Su Hong would worry about them. As Su Hong walked down the street carrying his weapon, his senses picked up something approaching. He looked up just as a red sports car sped around the corner and screeched to a stop right next to him. The window rolled down to reveal President Wu Lingxian wearing sunglasses. She simply ordered him to get in. Soon they were speeding down the highway. Su Hong asked the president why she had come for him personally. Wu Lingxian kept her eyes on the road and explained that she had some important reminders about the training camp. She turned to him, her expression serious, and revealed that as the president, she knew the details of the other participants. She warned him that among the students there were a few monsters who were already Tier 1 high-stage martial artists and were very close to reaching Tier 2. She emphasized that these monsters had martial skills that were at least B rank. Su Hong listened and thought about the situation. He knew a Tier 2 martial artist required 200 vitality points, which was a big gap. However, he wasn't afraid. He thought to himself that even if they had B rank skills, his system would allow him to learn those high-level skills quickly. Wu Lingxian continued, telling him that while his talent was the best she had ever seen, he lacked the resources the other wealthy students had. She comforted him, saying that even if he faced failure in the camp, he shouldn't feel bad because surpassing them was only a matter of time for him. Su Hong smiled with genuine confidence and thanked her, calling her Sister Wu. Wu Lingxian watched him silently. She noted that even though he knew his stats and skills were currently lower than the others, he remained completely calm. She thought to herself that she didn't need to worry about his mindset causing any problems. The black van carrying the students wound its way through the scenic roads of the Tianlin Mountains. Inside, the students panicked. Li Tu and Li Ming were shocked the camp was in a place famous for fierce beasts. President Wu Lingxian tried to calm them, saying a grandmaster was presiding, so their lives weren't in danger. Su Hong sat quietly, analyzing the situation. He knew this range spanned multiple cities and held dense spiritual energy, but also beast kings comparable to Tier 7 grandmasters. It was a place governed by the law of the jungle, where beasts fought cruelly. The danger was high. Even a standard Tier 2 martial artist would not dare to tread here easily. As the car sped through the forest, the local wildlife began to take notice. From the shadows, the glowing red eyes of bears and monsters glared at the intruders. Sensing killing intent from the woods, Li Tu and Li Ming sweated nervously, fearing a beast might suddenly attack their vehicle. However, Su Hong felt excited. He realized the camp competition would be as cruel as the beast's slaughter, and he actually liked that intense feeling. Eventually, they arrived at the campsite and joined the gathering crowd. Standing there, one student wondered aloud how strong the other participants would be. They saw a group of intimidating young martial artists with serious expressions, all radiating power. Facing the pressure from these rivals, Li Tu and Li Ming stood in awkward silence. Su Hong rallied his companions, flashing a confident smile to signal it was time to move. With his weapon over his shoulder, he marched forward with Li Tu and Li Ming. However, a hand abruptly blocked their path. An official in a suit said they had to wait for everyone before the camp entrance assessment began, surprising the students who didn't expect a test so soon. Su Hong noticed the remaining participants arriving. He watched with annoyance as luxury cars drove through mud, thinking how wealthy families made everyone wait. Bodyguards opened the doors of the expensive vehicles, and the atmosphere shifted immediately. 3 prominent figures stepped out, drawing admiration. Students whispered about Xiao Nan, an orange-haired woman, Lin Xingge in white clothes, and Wang Tiantuo, the city lord's muscular son, known as the barbarian god. The elites walked with superiority, while ordinary students parted ways to let them pass. As they took their places, the tension in the air increased. Su Hong recognized them as the geniuses the president mentioned, but instead of fear, he was eager to see their skills. The assessment began with the official addressing the assembled students. He announced that the true training camp was 30 kilometers deep within the Tianlin Mountains. To enter, each student needed a special token. These tokens were surgically placed inside local beasts, meaning they had to hunt to earn their place. This caused anxiety. Li Ming and Li Tu whispered nervously, realizing a 30-kilometer journey was dangerous. Deep in the mountains, a single mistake with high-level beasts could be fatal. Su Hong remained unfazed. He saw the 8-hour limit as a chance to kill extra beasts and earn more martial value. One student asked what if they met a beast beyond their level. The official coldly replied they would be eliminated, though a rescue team would save them from death. The crowd protested that the rules were unfair and relied on luck, risking the strong being eliminated by a chance encounter. The official snapped. He said the world isn't fair, comparing their complaints to protesting on the real all-heavens battlefield. He shouted that battlefield rules were simple: avoid risks, bully the weak, and use numbers. If they feared strong beasts, they needed more caution. A young man in a suit agreed with the official. He sneered at the complainers, calling them trash and telling them to quit if they were afraid. This provoked a rugged student who challenged him. The man in the suit called him a coward and threatened to cripple him. The official interrupted, stating violence was banned at base camp but allowed in the mountains. Snatching tokens or attacking others was acceptable. The two students glared at each other, marking one another as future targets. Su Hong realized the camp encouraged fighting. He guessed half the people would be eliminated early. A new opportunity crossed his mind. If fighting was encouraged, this assessment was a goldmine. Fighting these geniuses could be a great way to obtain martial value. The official cut discussion short and pressed a button to start the test. Instantly, the students erupted into a frenzy, charging into the forest, determined to pass. In the woods, the man in the suit pursued the rugged student, taunting him and promising to send him home. They squared off, channeling energy into their fists for a decisive blow. Their attacks clashed, sending a shockwave through the trees. A furious exchange followed, with energy beams lighting up the forest as they fought. From a high branch, Su Hong observed the battle critically. He wanted to gauge the geniuses, but was unimpressed. Their power was weak, so defeating them wouldn't yield much martial value. Deciding to leave, he turned to hunt high-level beasts instead. Below, the fighters were in a stalemate. The suit man sneered that a pauper couldn't compare to his family resources. The rugged student shouted back angrily. Hearing the word pauper echo, Su Hong froze in his tracks. It struck a nerve. Su Hong turned back with a dangerous glint, thinking he couldn't let this delivered martial value slip away. He walked toward the fighters and told them to stop. Carrying a wooden club, he casually suggested they should play with him instead. Infuriated, the suit man called Su Hong a pauper and threatened him, while the other student asked why he interfered. Su Hong smirked, explaining he didn't want them to stop fighting completely. He proposed they join forces against him. Insulted, the rugged student abandoned his opponent and rushed at Su Hong. Su Hong countered with a brutal knee strike to the stomach, sending the student flying. The student gasped in pain, landing in a heap. The suit man stared in disbelief. He couldn't comprehend how a student of similar strength was defeated so easily. Before he could process it, Su Hong appeared in front of him with blinding speed and said, "Your turn." Paralyzed with fear, the man watched Su Hong swing the club. The strike connected, sending the man to the ground and ending the fight. The man in the suit flew through the air and crashed hard into a tree. He screamed as his eyes rolled back, completely overwhelmed by the force. On the ground, Su Hong stood calmly with the wooden stick on his shoulder. Looking at the two defeated men, he said, "This is what they get for underestimating ordinary cultivators." In the monitoring room, instructors watched the fight on a large screen. One wondered where the newcomer came from, complaining that he just walked in and one-shotted both men during their duel. Another asked if the two were now eliminated. The supervisor shook his head, explaining that since they hadn't called for rescue, the assessment would continue. A staff member bowed and acknowledged the order. Back in the forest, the man in the suit groaned as he opened his eyes. Holding his aching face, he muttered about how much it hurt. As he got up, he panicked upon seeing the wooden stick nearby and scrambled back, yelling for Su Hong to stay away. The defeated man screamed in rage, shouting that he'd never been so humiliated in his life and swore Su Hong had better not let him find him again. The other man also woke up against a tree, clutching his chest. He muttered in frustration, blaming himself for underestimating Su Hong and insisting he wouldn't have lost if he'd been serious. The two men sat in awkward silence for a moment, sharing the same bruised pride. Then, one of them apologized, admitting the other was truly strong. The man in the suit agreed and apologized for mocking him. They shook hands as their hostility faded. Soon they walked through the forest side by side like brothers. They agreed to find Su Hong and get revenge, with the man in the suit determined to hit him with the stick to vent his frustration. Meanwhile, Su Hong sprinted through the forest with a spear in hand, leaving trails of blue energy behind him as he ran. Su Hong's eyes narrowed as he sensed movement ahead. Though his expression was calm, he knew trouble was coming. Moments later, a herd of giant tusk boars burst from the trees, their red eyes glowing as they charged. Su Hong complained that it was another group of low-tier boars, wondering how many he had already encountered in the beast-filled mountain range. The boars snorted and kicked up dust as they approached, their massive tusks cutting through the air. The herd roared in unison and rushed straight at him, their steps thundering across the ground. As they approached, Su Hong's eyes sharpened with a golden flash, his focus intensifying. Instantly, golden lightning erupted around him. He swung his spear in a wide arc, and glowing lines of lightning cut through the charging boars, lighting up the area. With golden light wrapping his arm, Su Hong's spear slammed into the boars, sending them crashing to the ground amidst dust and shockwaves. After the fight, Su Hong stood among the fallen beasts as system screens displayed his martial Dao points. He noted that since he became stronger, the points he earned from weaker beasts had greatly decreased. Sighing, he said he needed to hurry and find a token, then began cutting open a boar's stomach with his spear. Searching the bodies, he muttered that the previous dozen low-tier beasts he killed had no tokens. Hoping this batch was different, he searched each boar one by one. Every corpse was empty. As he expected, there were no tokens. He concluded that only higher-level beasts must carry them. Half an hour later, he was dashing swiftly through the forest again, his spear cutting through the wind. As he ran deeper, he recalled how he used to find over 10 low-level beasts per hour in this area. Now he couldn't find a single one. Suddenly, a roar shattered the silence. A massive black tiger with glowing red eyes leaped from the trees, pouncing at him with incredible speed. Su Hong's eyes glowed blue, and he smiled, recognizing the creature. He had finally found a Tier 1, upper stage Dark Knight black tiger. Blue energy gathered at his fingertips, swirling and brightening before it burst outward. He thrust his glowing finger down, and a piercing blue beam shot into the tiger, splitting the ground beneath it. The Dark Knight black tiger roared in pain, spraying blood from its wide-open jaws. The tiger crashed to the ground, cracking the earth. It twitched and struggled as dust scattered around it. Without slowing, Su Hong gripped his spear and lunged forward at an incredible speed. Spinning through the air, his glowing spear struck the tiger's head. Blue energy exploded outward, and the beast roared one last time before dying. A screen showed he had earned 35 martial Dao points. He commented that with his current strength, killing a high-tier beast like this was as easy as breathing. He crouched beside the corpse and began searching, hoping the high-tier tiger had a token inside. After cutting it open, he paused, then pulled out a blood-covered token. He laughed softly, confirming it was inside the high-tier beast. It had taken him nearly 3 hours to find just one token. Holding the token, Su Hong considered his encounters. Low-tier boars were everywhere, but high-tier tigers only appeared every half hour. He realized the deeper he went, the stronger but rarer the beasts became. He glanced at the tiger's corpse. High-tier beasts gave more points, but finding only one every 30 minutes was inefficient. Hunting the more numerous low-level beasts would earn him points faster. Gripping the token, he smiled. He decided to focus on quantity over quality for earning points. He continued on, determined to use the remaining 5 hours to gather enough points to max out his mortal body progress. As he walked on, he came across a blood-soaked clearing filled with the torn-apart corpses of deer. The ground was also littered with the corpses of boars he had killed. As Su Hong killed another boar with his bare hands, a massive bear with glowing red eyes lunged at him, swinging its claws down. He dodged the sudden attack with incredible speed, spinning to the side. Flames wrapped around his fist as he charged, noting that after killing dozens of low-tier beasts, he had finally found a mid-tier one. His fiery punch shot forward like a cannon, blasting the bear into the air and through the forest. The bear slammed into a rock wall, roaring in pain and coughing up blood as it struggled to get up. Reflected in the bear's trembling eye, Su Hong was already leaping in for another strike. He slammed his fist down, driving a beam of fiery energy into the bear's head as the impact sent shockwaves through the ground. The force dragged the bear across the ground until it crashed into a large tree, snapping the trunk. As the dust settled, Su Hong stood covered in blood and dirt. He calmly noted that with his mortal body over 60%, he could kill mid-tier beasts with physical strength alone. A system panel appeared, showing his stats and 254 martial Dao points. He needed just over 100 more to max out his mortal body progress, which was currently at 64.6%. The panel also displayed his level 3 guiding arts and his martial skills, all in a perfect state. Tightening his grip on his weapon, Su Hong knew he had to use the remaining 3 hours to gather the rest of the points he needed. Before he could move, a deafening roar echoed through the trees. Su Hong froze, sweat on his face as the noise echoed. What was that sound? He wondered. Suddenly, a massive shadow fell over him. A gigantic golden bird with glowing wings descended, swirling leaves and wind. As its golden feathers shined like fire, he realized it might be the legendary Golden Rock Beast King. The beast screeched and dived, its body wrapped in blazing energy. The force of its descent tore through the forest, sending out violent shockwaves. Su Hong braced himself, gripping his spear as the wind roared around him. The Beast King's power was terrifying. A single flap of its wings had created this devastating shockwave. A violent crash echoed as a massive tree split apart, its trunk snapping under immense force. Su Hong leaped onto a broken stone as a shockwave rushed past. Wind roared around him while he steadied himself, looking to the sky and wondering what beast could cause this. Pressed against a cliff, sweat on his face, he admitted he'd grown complacent. Faced with such overwhelming power, he realized he was just an ant to top-tier experts. Then his eyes widened. He saw something else approaching high in the air. The Golden Rock Beast King hovered on spread wings. A second figure approached, also shining with golden light. It was Rank 7 Grandmaster Qin Tianli, wrapped in a fierce, flaming aura. He announced himself as Qin Tianli, saying he was borrowing the territory and asked why the Beast King returned. The Golden Rock Beast King swooped down, claws extended. It shouted it never agreed to lend its territory. Qin Tianli shot forward like a golden firestorm. He yelled he would beat the Beast King until it agreed, and the two forces collided in mid-air. The rock's wings flashed gold as it twisted. Qin Tianli's punch exploded against its feathers, and the beast beat its wings again with a sharp cry. Light spiraled around it, forcing Qin Tianli back with a shockwave. He steadied himself, irritated by the noise. Yelling the rock was too noisy, he rushed in again. A rapid series of impacts followed. Explosions of golden force repeatedly struck the beast, lighting up the sky as they clashed violently in mid-air. Qin Tianli's punch smashed into the Beast King's head, sending feathers and blood scattering. The impact forced the massive beast backward. Floating calmly in his golden aura, Qin Tianli spoke with an icy voice. He declared he was borrowing this land and ordered the beast to leave, warning it not to make him repeat himself. The beast screeched angrily as it flew away, yelling for Qin Tianli to wait. Qin Tianli waved dismissively, telling it to get lost. As the beast disappeared, Qin Tianli took a slow breath, golden light swirling around him. His voice echoed across the area. He announced he was Rank 7 Grandmaster Qin Tianli and told the trainees not to panic as the assessment would continue. Far below, Su Hong looked up in shock, watching golden rings of power spread through the sky. He wondered if this was the true strength of a Rank 7 martial artist, clenching his jaw. With determination in his eyes, he vowed that he would reach that realm one day. High above, Qin Tianli descended toward the base. Below, the crater-like area was filled with buildings for the assessment. Hovering above the officials, Qin Tianli complained the beast should have just agreed. He only wanted to borrow the territory for a trial, but it forced him to fight. The staff stood at attention. Among them, Rank 5 martial artists Lin Zi and Bai Mu spoke in admiration. They noted Grandmaster Qin was more fearsome than rumored, having beaten the famously tough Golden Rock Beast King. Qin Tianli brushed off the praise and ordered them to the monitoring room. He wanted to see which trainees withstood the Golden Rock's pressure earlier, and the staff followed. Inside the surveillance room, the monitors showed trainees collapsed from the shockwave. Lin Zi explained that most were unable to move under the Golden Rock's aura. Qin Tianli stared in surprise. On one screen, a trainee knelt beside dead black tigers, remaining calm under the beast's pressure. "Who is that boy?" Qin Tianli asked. Bai Mu checked the documents. Wang Tiantuo, a Tier 1 high tier with Blood Chai 340 and 95% fire affinity. He has the barbarian god physique and is the Star City Castellan's son. Qin Tianli raised an eyebrow, noting the Castellan treated having children like lottery tickets and had finally produced a good one after 100 tries. Another trainee appeared, using incredible speed to escape the pressure zone. "Impressive movement skills," Qin Tianli commented. Bai Mu identified him as Lin Xing He, a Tier 1 high tier from the Lin family with Blood Qi 325 and 96% wind affinity. The footage showed a girl using a glowing barrier to shield herself. Qin Tianli noted she was a spiritual telekinetic, skillfully using her power to resist the pressure. Bai Mu identified her as Xiao Yan, a Tier 1 mid-stage telekinetic from the Xiao family with Blood Qi 290 and 95% wood affinity. Qin Tianli nodded, noting these three easily handled the pressure and outmatched their peers. He asked for other talents. Bai Mu listed more names from the Lin and Wang families, hesitating as she realized all the top performers were from Star City's famous families. Qin Tianli frowned. Bai Mu explained the dozen on the list all had Tier 2 combat power and withstood the aura. He questioned why every standout was from a major family, asking about the students from the schools, especially number 1 high. Bai Mu explained the school students were only Tier 1 early stage, with the 3 from number 1 high having just broken through. Qin Tianli waved his hand dismissively, saying he wouldn't bother looking and that number 1 high was unworthy of its reputation. Then Lin Zi shouted in shock, pointing at one person on the screen. All three looked up. The screen showed Su Hong cutting down a beast. They were shocked he still had the strength to hunt after experiencing the Golden Rock's pressure. Bai Mu trembled and stuttered. "That's Star City number 1 high's monster." Lin Zi scolded her, telling her not to make a fuss in front of the Grandmaster. Qin Tianli was silent, but after Lin Zi glanced at the report, he also began shaking and repeated with wide eyes, "Monster." Qin Tianli glanced at them, reminding the two Rank 5s they should have seen plenty of geniuses. He asked why they were making such a fuss, awkwardly adding that their temperaments weren't steady yet. But when Qin Tianli read the report, his own eyes widened in shock. He screamed internally, wondering if the boy was even human. The report showed Su-hong's profile, 18, from number 1 high, tier 1 early stage, blood chai 123. He had perfected a C-rank art, and his physical strike produced 3004 combat power, rivaling a tier 1 high level. He also likely had a special physique, a 100% affinity for all 7 elements, and was cultivating all 7 simultaneously. Qin Tianli trembled, muttering in disbelief that such a freak came from a place like Star City. He wasn't a once-in-a-century talent, he realized, but a once-in-a-millennium rarity. His shock turned to joy. Clenching the paper, his eyes glowing red with excitement, he shouted, "I've struck gold!" Then he paused, confused. He demanded to know why someone so talented was only tier 1 early stage with blood chi 123. Bai Mu quickly explained that Su-hong was cultivating all 7 guiding techniques at once. Grandmaster Qin erupted in frustration. "No wonder he's so low," he said. Cultivating 7 techniques at once was a doomed path, even for an immortal. He questioned how Su-hong could advance at all, growling that the local martial arts association president should have stopped him. Just then, a staff member reported that trainees were arriving at the camp. Qin nodded and said they would go take a look. Outside, the first 3 trainees greeted him. Wang Tiantuo saluted, addressing himself as a junior. Qin praised the 3 of them as very good. 6 hours into the assessment, more students staggered toward the camp. Some complained they nearly died, but another reminded them they had faced the Golden Rock Beast King. After 7.5 hours, more trainees gathered. As Qin watched, some early arrivals said there was no one left and suggested ending the assessment. Another scoffed that anyone still out there must be weak. But Grandmaster Qin wondered where Su-hong was. He worried his newly discovered freak was lost, a hint of panic on his face at the thought his precious treasure might be eliminated. A few minutes later, Qin finally spotted a figure leaving the forest. He sighed in relief, thinking the brat had finally shown up. He stepped out of the woods, dragging his spear, his clothes covered in dirt and blood. He muttered that he'd made it in time, having been so focused on earning martial value he almost forgot the deadline. As he entered the camp, trainees stared in shock. One whispered Su-hong was ruthless, another noted he wasn't injured and wondered how many beasts he had killed to get so dirty. The 2 men Su-hong had embarrassed earlier glared at him. One shouted he'd been waiting for him, but the other stopped him. "Don't rush," he said. "We'll have plenty of chances inside the camp." Nearby, the 3 elite trainees watched Su-hong. One called him an expert for passing at the deadline, another found it interesting. Wang Tiantuo, eyes closed, simply nodded. As the sun set, Instructor Lin Zi stepped forward and announced the 8-hour limit was over. Anyone not present was eliminated. He then began to introduce the camp's facilities and rules. Instructor Lin introduced the major facilities, which included a gravity room, a movement skill training room, and a ferocious beast combat room. He pointed to a large building, the Martial Arts Pavilion. There, trainees could use contribution points to buy martial arts, pills, and weapons, some as high as a rank. Hearing this, a blood-covered but calm Su-hong sat among the trainees. He thought that coming here was the right decision. But Instructor Lin then explained the rules. All facilities required contribution points to use. The only way to earn points was by passing training subjects. Outstanding performance would earn extra rewards. As the sun set, he dismissed them. He told those with energy to start training, and the injured to follow him to the dorms to rest, vowing no one would die under his supervision. Su-hong entered his dorm and was surprised to find it was a single room. He realized he could now cultivate and level up without being seen. Later, he sat cross-legged on his bed and opened his status screen. It showed his stats. Blood Chai 126, Spirit 26.5, and Mortal Body 64.6%. His Thunder and Heavenly Flame guiding techniques were level 3, and his 3 martial arts were at perfection. He had 354 martial value. Taking a calm breath, he decided to use all of it to upgrade his mortal body. A surge of power erupted around him in red flames. Countless glowing notifications appeared, each showing his mortal body increasing by 1 as the red energy strengthened him. Finally, a message appeared. His mortal body reached 100% and was now evolving. His eyes snapped open, glowing with crimson light as his breath surged like a storm. Su-hong's physical evolution began, causing intense red energy and glowing nodes to map across his newly strengthened body. He meditated on the floor of his dorm room while a fierce vortex of spiritual energy swirled around him. As the process finished, he let out a sigh, with steam radiating off his refined form. Inspecting his physique, he was amazed by the sheer, overwhelming power his physical body now possessed. His system interface appeared, revealing that he had unlocked the Overlord body, which the system described as the existence with the strongest physical strength in the world. He noticed that the physique was currently at spirit rank 0%, meaning it could still be upgraded. This left him wondering what kind of heaven-defying form it might evolve into next. Eager to test the limits of his extraordinary new body, he grabbed his jacket and his black spear. However, the moment he gripped the spear's shaft, the metal crunched and cracked under his hand. He stared at the weapon in shock, realizing that his casual grip was now strong enough to snap a highly durable C-rank alloy. He briefly panicked, lamenting that C-rank spears were incredibly expensive and that he had just ruined a fortune. Fortunately, he quickly remembered that he had actually looted this spear for free during his time in the wilderness. Knowing his old equipment could no longer handle his strength, he decided he must gather camp contribution points as soon as possible to exchange for an A-rank alloy spear. Striding confidently out of his room into the hallway, he planned his next move, contemplating if he could easily earn those points by training with a weight vest of a few hundred kilograms. Inside the camp warehouse, a crowd of trainees gathered in awe around Wang Tiantuo. Despite carrying a massive 3,000-kilogram weight, Wang Tiantuo effortlessly leaped into the air. Watching from the sidelines, Lin Xinghe and Xiaonan were amazed by his monster-like strength, noting that an ordinary Tier 1 martial artist could only handle a fraction of that load. Observing the warehouse feed from the monitoring room, Grandmaster Qin Tianli praised Wang Tiantuo's barbarian god body. The conversation then shifted to Su Hong. Bai Mu asked how they should address Su Hong's flawed path of cultivating 7 guidance techniques simultaneously. Knowing that directly confronting a proud genius would likely backfire, Qin Tianli decided to make Su Hong realize his mistake the hard way. Qin Tianli asked instructor Linze about the progress of a secretly planned night raid meant to ambush the trainees. Linze smiled wickedly, anticipating the despair of the students who mistakenly believed they could finally relax after the entrance exam. To execute his lesson, Qin Tianli specifically ordered Linze to send a powerful Tier 1 high-stage martial artist to overwhelmingly defeat Su Hong. Once Su Hong was utterly crushed, Qin Tianli planned to step in, explain the impossibility of his cultivation method, and force him to give it up. The staff worried that pitting Su Hong against an opponent with over 400 vitality and 5,000 combat power might permanently break his spirit, given his much lower vitality stats. However, Qin Tianli coldly dismissed their concerns, stating that if Su Hong's resolve collapsed that easily, he was nothing but trash. Meanwhile, outside in the camp, Su Hong overheard other trainees rushing to the gravity room to watch Wang Tiantuo train. Preferring to avoid the crowd, Su Hong headed into the now-empty equipment warehouse, planning to check out the commotion later. Inside the equipment warehouse, Su Hong picked up his smart scoring bracelet, confirming it was the device used to calculate his contribution points. As he explored the room, he walked past the lighter equipment racks and stopped in amazement at a rack holding 10-ton weight vests forged from super heavy alloy, wondering who could possibly wear something so heavy. Curious about his own limits, he tried on a 10-ton vest, but quickly realized the immense weight severely hindered his speed and stamina, making it impractical for long-term training. He decided to swap it for a 5-ton vest instead. After rapidly leaping around the warehouse to test his mobility, he concluded that the 5-ton load was perfectly suited for his current physical state. Thinking about his competition, Su Hong wondered how much weight Wang Tiantuo and the other top-tier geniuses chose to wear, assuming that since they were at the Tier 1 high stage, they must be at least as strong as him, if not stronger. Hoping to learn from their cultivation methods, he left the warehouse to go observe them. Outside, a large crowd was gathered in front of a pyramid-shaped gravity room. The trainees were astounded that Wang Tiantuo had entered the facility without taking off his 3-ton weight vest. A monitor displayed Wang Tiantuo straining inside the room under 2 times normal gravity, which the crowd noted effectively turned his 3-ton vest into a grueling 6-ton load. Standing at the back of the crowd with his arms crossed, Su Hong was genuinely surprised to hear that Wang Tiantuo's base vest was only 3 tons. Considering that weight to be incredibly light compared to his own comfortable 5 tons, Su Hong realized he had completely underestimated the sheer toughness and superiority of his newly evolved overlord body. Su Hong approached his former schoolmates Chen Shan and Li Tu and asked why they weren't going into the gravity room to cultivate. Looking defeated, the two explained that the massive gap in strength between them and the top-tier geniuses made them feel completely inadequate, and they feared the embarrassment of being compared to them if they trained right then. Su Hong sighed and patted one of them on the shoulder, disappointed that they would let their pride and fear of comparison stop them from improving. Ignoring their warnings to wait until the crowd left, Su Hong confidently walked toward the brightly lit, pyramid-shaped gravity room. The gathered onlookers immediately began to mock him. Assuming he was trying to arrogantly surpass Wang Tiantuo's record, they called him brainless and shameless, especially since he didn't appear to be wearing a weight suit. Unbothered by their taunts, Su Hong stepped through the entrance, reflecting that such expensive, heavily funded facilities were usually restricted to elite aristocratic families, making this a rare opportunity he refused to let slip by. Inside the high-tech room, Su Hong evaluated his limits. He calculated that because he was secretly wearing the 5-ton weight vest under his tracksuit, setting the room to double gravity would subject his body to 10 tons of force, a crushing load he could only endure for about 10 minutes. Deciding to pace himself so he could train for a longer period, he adjusted the control dial to 1.5 times normal gravity instead. Instantly, the increased pressure hit him and he grunted as his body strained to brace against the heavy, invisible force. Completely unaware of his hidden 5-ton vest, the crowd outside watched his struggles on the monitor and laughed. They mocked him for barely being able to handle a mere 1.5x gravity without any extra weights, cementing their belief that he was just weak, since he had been the last to finish the entrance assessment. Meanwhile, completely focused on his training, Su-hong sat cross-legged on the floor, surrounded by a fiery red aura. He realized that while the intense pressure made cultivating his guidance technique significantly more difficult, the high-end facility was doing its job perfectly, as his cultivation speed had drastically accelerated. After enduring the intense pressure for 2 hours, Su-hong remained seated on the floor of the gravity room, cultivating while enveloped in a fierce red aura. Sweating heavily and pushing his limits, he focused on his training while his eyes glowed with a sharp blue light. His strenuous effort yielded significant results when he checked his system panel. He noted with satisfaction that his water, earth, and wind guidance techniques had all leveled up by 1, and his vitality had jumped from 126 to 130 points. Struggling to his feet, he finally turned off the gravity machine. Impressed by the room's effectiveness, he eagerly considered how beneficial the camp's movement technique and ferocious beast rooms would be. Utterly exhausted, he stumbled out of the facility, wiping the thick sweat from his face. Waiting outside, 2 other trainees immediately began to mock him. Still under the false impression that he had been training without weights at a mere 1.5x gravity, they laughed at his worn-out state, with one arrogantly boasting that he could easily sleep overnight in those conditions. Ignoring their baseless taunts, Su-hong simply complained about the boiling heat and terrible breathability of his gear before unzipping his tracksuit, casually revealing the massive 5-ton weight vest he had been wearing the entire time. Seeing the heavy equipment hidden underneath his clothes, the 2 mocking trainees were left completely paralyzed in shock. The 2 trainees were surprised when Su-hong removed his weight vest, assuming it only weighed around 500 kilograms. Despite acknowledging that his strength was passable for lasting 2 hours, they still looked down on him as he dropped the vest to the ground, insisting that he was nothing compared to the camp's top genius, Wang Tiantuo. Suddenly, a commotion broke out as the crowd noticed Wang Tiantuo finally exiting the gravity room. The trainees marveled that he had withstood 6 tons of heavy pressure for over 2 hours. Sweating profusely and panting, Wang Tiantuo stepped out while the crowd praised his physical strength as the absolute best in the training camp. He unfastened his heavy weight vest and carelessly tossed it to the floor. The massive impact shook the earth, terrifying the nearby trainees. Relieved to be free of the immense burden, Wang Tiantuo massaged his sore shoulder and admitted the weight was incredibly grueling. Lin Xingye then approached Wang Tiantuo, casually fanning himself, and challenged him to a competition in the movement technique room. Wang Tiantuo immediately declined, acknowledging that Lin Xingye cultivated an A-rank wind attribute movement technique and admitting he would be completely foolish to compete against him in agility. Overhearing their conversation, Su-hong was instantly intrigued by the mention of an A-rank movement technique. Realizing that despite the immense raw power of his newly evolved overlord body, he still lacked high-level agility skills, Su-hong smiled, seeing a perfect opportunity to upgrade his arsenal. Following the crowd, Su-hong arrived at the dome-shaped movement technique training room, eager to witness the A-rank flying swan startling cloud step for himself. Inside, the trainees watched the monitors in disbelief, noting that Lin Xingye had confidently set the room's arrow-dodging simulation to its absolute maximum difficulty of level 10. On the screen, Lin Xingye moved with blinding speed, effortlessly weaving through a dense, rapid-fire barrage of flying arrows. He moved with such grace that he even closed his eyes mid-air, dodging the projectiles while mysteriously conjuring falling pink petals, leaving the audience stunned by his effortless showboating. Watching the spectacular display, Su-hong calmly praised the technique. Almost instantly, his system interface appeared in front of him, revealing that merely by observing the skill in action, he had successfully copied the flying swan's startling cloud step and unlocked it at 1% proficiency. Su-hong carefully analyzed Lin Xingye's graceful movements. He stepped forward to test the technique himself, drawing the attention of nearby bystanders. The crowd immediately began to laugh and mock him, finding it ridiculous that he believed he could master a complex A-rank movement technique simply by watching it once. Ignoring their taunts, Su-hong's consciousness entered his system's virtual training space, where he battled against a simulated clone of Lin Xingye. Through intense practice and dodging rapid attacks, his proficiency in the skill skyrocketed, quickly climbing from 8% all the way to 93%. A system notification soon congratulated him on officially reaching the basic level of the technique, and Su-hong stood triumphantly, thrilled to have acquired his first A-rank movement skill. As the system prepared to send him back to reality, Su-hong reflected that having to use Lin Xingye's incredibly showy movements as a learning template was somewhat embarrassing. Satisfied that he no longer needed the movement technique room, he decided his next destination would be the ferocious beast room, where he could hunt beasts to earn martial value and increase his vitality. However, his train of thought was interrupted when he noticed the entire crowd staring at him and taking pictures with their phones, praising his dramatically flashy posture. To his absolute mortification, Su-hong realized that while he was training in his mind, his physical body in the real world had been acting out all of the exaggerated, showy poses. Deeply embarrassed, he sprinted away from the area at top speed, ignoring the crowd's cheers asking him to perform again, and silently vowed to never use Lin Xingye as a template again. As he dashed off, Su-hong's sharp senses picked up the feeling of being followed. Trailing a short distance behind him were the student in the suit, now armed with a wooden club, and the rugged student he had defeated during the entrance assessment. Having tracked Su-hong's path toward the ferocious beast room, the two vengeful trainees plotted to block the exit and ambush him the moment he came out. Arriving at the large facility known as the ferocious beast room, Su-hong noticed a large crowd gathered outside. Near the entrance doors, he overheard a tense exchange between Wang Tiantuo and Xiaonan. Wang Tiantuo laughed, noting that Xiaonan wanted to compete with him in hunting beasts to determine who was truly the #1 trainee in the camp. Wang Tiantuo arrogantly asked if she genuinely believed her spiritual telekinesis could defeat his barbarian god body, feeling underestimated. In response, Xiaonan confidently retorted that he was the one underestimating the true power of a spirit master. Intrigued by the mention of a spirit master, a fighting style he had never seen before, Su-hong decided to delay earning his own martial value so he could observe her techniques first. Looking through the observation window into the simulated forest environment, Su-hong was completely shocked to see Xiaonan gracefully walking down from the sky toward a pack of black tigers. He marveled at this, knowing that walking on air was a miraculous feat typically restricted to high-level grandmasters, and realized this must be the unique power of a spirit master. With a simple glowing motion of her outstretched hand, Xiaonan summoned her power. Instantly, several streaks of blinding golden light shot forward, simultaneously piercing the skulls of 3 Tier 1 high-stage black tigers. Su-hong watched in awe as the beasts were killed instantly, wondering what the mysterious flowing light was made of. Suddenly, a massive, terrifying bear-like beast enveloped in a red aura roared and attempted to ambush Xiaonan from behind. However, the beast was instantly stopped in its tracks, its eyes widening in shock. Xiaonan used her spiritual telekinesis to forcibly lift and paralyze the giant creature in midair, leaving Su-hong amazed by her ability to effortlessly bind such a massive enemy. With a swift wave of her arm, Xiaonan directed the golden light to cleanly pierce straight through the suspended beast's head, executing it on the spot. Observing the battle closely, Su-hong finally realized that the deadly streaks of light were actually daggers being manipulated remotely by her mind. Trembling with a mix of excitement and realization, Su-hong concluded that a spirit master's ability to walk on air, bind enemies, and telekinetically control weapons from a distance made them ridiculously overpowered, allowing them to easily crush ordinary martial artists. The crowd of trainees, along with Su-hong, watched the observation monitor in disbelief as someone questioned the sudden appearance of a colossal weapon on the screen. The feed showed Xiaonan standing before a massive snake beast, effortlessly summoning a giant, glowing golden sword out of thin air. With a swift, commanding downward swing of her arm, the enormous golden blade dropped, slicing the giant snake cleanly in half. Observing this impossible feat, Su-hong was completely bewildered. He noted that she wasn't carrying any weapon earlier, and reasoned that a physical sword of that magnitude would weigh several tons, making it far too heavy to wield so easily. Stepping into the conversation, Lin Xingyi casually approached the group while fanning himself. He calmly clarified that the giant sword wasn't a physical weapon at all, but rather a highly advanced A-rank martial skill exclusive to spirit masters. Hearing this, the crowd was astounded that yet another A-rank skill had been revealed. Someone turned to Lin Xinghe, asking how all the top geniuses seemed to possess such rare techniques, and wondered if Wang Tiantuo had one as well. Lin Xingyi confidently confirmed that Wang Tiantuo did indeed possess a devastatingly powerful A-rank offensive martial skill, causing the surrounding trainees to despairingly call the elites heaven-defying monsters. However, rather than feeling intimidated by the massive gap in resources, Su-hong broke into an eager smile, realizing that the training camp was overflowing with elite A-rank martial skills just waiting to be copied by his system. He happily concluded that coming to the camp was the best decision he could have made. The trainees watched the monitor as Wang Tiantuo obliterated a Tier 1 high-level ferocious beast with a single punch. They quickly realized that the elite trainee was relying purely on his immense physical strength rather than using any actual martial skills. Since there was nothing to copy from Wang Tiantuo at the moment, Su-hong turned away, deciding to find another opportunity to learn from him later. Inspired by Xiaonan's display of power, Su-hong opened his system panel to check his own attributes. He noted that his spirit stat was only at 26.5. To become a spirit master, he needed his spirit stat to exceed 100, leaving him 73.5 points short. Calculating that he needed exactly 735 martial value points to bridge this gap, he gathered blue energy in his hand and eagerly resolved to go on a massive monster-killing spree to farm the necessary points. Meanwhile, the student in the suit and the rugged student were still secretly tailing him. They watched as Su-hong entered one of the testing arenas inside the ferocious beast room. Noticing that the rest of the camp was completely distracted by Wang Tiantuo and Xiaonan's training, the two vengeful trainees concluded that no one would interfere. They decided this was the perfect opportunity to corner Su-hong inside and ruthlessly beat him up. As they prepared to ambush him, the rugged student suddenly cried out in alarm, prompting the suited student to nervously shush him so they weren't discovered. The rugged student pointed up at the large observation monitor mounted above the facility's entrance. The The two stalkers were absolutely horrified by what they saw on the screen. Su Hong was casually standing in the arena, surrounded by a towering red-eyed bear monster, giant armored scorpions, and massive stone-skinned beasts. They realized in utter disbelief that Su Hong had simultaneously challenged more than 10 Tier 1 high-stage ferocious beasts at once, leaving them wondering if he had completely lost his mind. Watching the spectacle, the rugged student urged finding an instructor to save Su Hong. The suited student replied it was too late, saying he would be torn to shreds in seconds. Seeing the odds, they realized their chance for revenge was gone. Inside the arena, Su Hong was unfazed and took a confident fighting stance. With a calm smirk, he taunted the surrounding horde of beasts to attack. Provoked, the massive snake and giant armored scorpion lunged at him with deafening roars. Su Hong effortlessly dodged the scorpion's powerful, sweeping strike with blinding speed. He conjured a swirling sphere of intense blue energy in his hand. He unleashed a burst of energy beams, blasting the surrounding beasts and sending them flying. Without pausing, his hand glowed brighter as he readied his next move. Darting through the air, he delivered rapid, glowing blue slashes that tore through the monster pack, cutting down tigers and scorpions. Outside, the two stalkers watched the massacre in shock. The suited student wondered if he was dreaming, noting a mid-stage artist would die against so many high-stage beasts, while the rugged student noticed Su Hong's movements looked familiar. In disbelief, the suited student realized Su Hong was perfectly using Lin Xingqi's signature technique, the flying swan startling cloud step. The rugged student asked if Su Hong learned the skill just by watching Lin Xingqi. The suited student dismissed this, saying a regular student couldn't access a high-grade technique, and wondered if Su Hong was from a powerful family. The suited student stressed mastering an A-rank technique by watching was nearly impossible, marveling at his talent. Intimidated, the rugged student suggested they abandon their revenge, admitting they wouldn't stand a chance together. Though trembling as he gripped his club, the suited student refused to back down. He declared that whether Su Hong was a genius or from a great family, he could not let the grudge go. The rugged student nervously pointed to the monitor, urging his companion to look again before deciding to fight Su Hong. The suited student stared at the display, his expression shifting to horror as a cold sweat broke out on his face. Speechless at the massacre on screen, the suited student dropped his wooden club to the floor. Inside, Su Hong rested on a slain monster's corpse. The two stalkers were astounded, realizing he slaughtered all 11 high-stage beasts in just a few minutes. Sweating slightly, Su Hong checked his interface. He was disappointed that killing the high-stage beasts only yielded 81 martial value points. He realized farming points was getting harder as his power grew. Suddenly, Su Hong caught movement in the shadows. Several more red-eyed beasts emerged from the dark enclosures, glaring at him. Standing on his fresh kill as new monsters roared, Su Hong stretched and decided not to rest, eager to continue farming. A massive, saber-tooth-like beast leapt from above, aiming its sharp claws at his head. Su Hong spun around, his fist glowing with intense golden energy as he prepared a counter. He intercepted the beast with a Vajra fist, smashing its face with an explosive burst of golden light. His heavy landing sent a powerful shockwave outward, blowing back the surrounding beasts. Intimidated by his display of strength, the remaining monsters flinched and cautiously backed away. Unwilling to let points escape, Su Hong's eyes flared blue as he charged the retreating monsters for their martial value. He leapt into the air and grabbed the armored tail of a giant scorpion. With monstrous strength, Su Hong swung the giant scorpion like a club, smashing it into the other fleeing beasts. Outside, the two stalkers stood in terrified silence, watching the one-sided beatdown unfold. His desire for revenge broken, the suited student sweated and decided to forgive Su Hong. The rugged student agreed, suggesting they leave before the monster inside finished training. Leaving the arena, the two overheard trainees gossiping about elite students. The crowd marveled that Wang Tiantuo killed 9 high-stage beasts in under 10 minutes, while Xiaonan killed 8 without moving. Another trainee asked the two stalkers if they got revenge on Su Hong. Sweating and forcing a smile, they awkwardly nodded and laughed it off. Internally, the two trembled, realizing if they hadn't backed down, they would be lying on the floor. They concluded the training camp was filled with monsters. At the ferocious beast room's entrance, the automated doors opened. Wang Tiantuo and Xiaonan emerged, looking exhausted. The crowd praised them, asking how many contribution points they earned. Checking his smart bracelet, a panting Wang Tiantuo revealed he earned 280 points, while Xiaonan announced 270. The trainees were shocked by the high numbers. One calculated they must have slaughtered 50 to 60 beasts each. Wang Tiantuo added that his weight vest gave him an extra 100 points. Xiaonan sighed, noting she only got 50 points from her weight training. Hearing this, the crowd checked their devices in despair. Some complained about getting only 20 or 30 points, while another cried over earning just 10. Lin Xingqi asked the pair who won their competition. Xiaonan begrudgingly pointed at Wang Tiantuo. Watching the elite trio, other trainees sweated nervously, concluding they could only hope to compete for 4th place. Overhearing the crowd, the two stalkers smirked. They mocked the crowd's ignorance, knowing a more terrifying monster who surpassed the top 3 was still inside. An hour later, inside the testing arena, the walls were heavily cracked and covered with fresh blood. The floor was a slaughterhouse, piled high with the mutilated corpses of countless beasts. In the center of the carnage sat a lone figure. Su Hong rested on a slain monster, panting and covered in sweat, dirt, and blood from the long battle. Even with his overlord body's stamina, fighting for over an hour had left him exhausted. Checking his interface, he was frustrated to still be short of the 735 martial value points needed for his next upgrade. However, his smart bracelet showed his camp rewards. He earned 700 contribution points, 400 from hunting and 300 from his vest, and perked up, wondering what he could buy at the martial arts pavilion. Under the starlit sky, Su Hong arrived at the martial arts pavilion, a grand traditional building glowing with warm light. Inside, Su Hong stood at the counter, flipping through an inventory ledger. Across from him, a female receptionist in a pink suit sat with a bored expression. Scanning the catalog, Su Hong noted that basic Tier 1 pills cost between 10 and 50 points. However, A-rank techniques were incredibly expensive, costing 2,000 to 3,000 points. Realizing A-rank skills were out of his budget, Su Hong focused on medicinal items. The pill prices were more acceptable, and the catalog had spirit-gathering pills, which he needed for his spirit stat. The receptionist asked if he had decided what to exchange his points for. She secretly judged his Tier 1 cultivation level, assuming he was too poor to afford anything worthwhile. Ignoring her, Su Hong asked if the spirit-gathering pills permanently increased spiritual power. The receptionist confirmed this, explaining they only worked the first time and higher-grade pills gave better results. With this confirmation, Su Hong scanned the list. He found the highest quality option, a Tier 4 Spirit Gathering pill, cost 500 contribution points. Su Hong confidently asked for a Tier 4 Spirit Gathering pill, startling the receptionist. Still assuming he was a poor student, she reminded him the pill cost 500 points, not 50. Unbothered, Su Hong just confirmed his order and raised his wrist. He tapped his smart bracelet on the payment terminal. It flashed his 700-point balance, leaving the receptionist wide-eyed in shock. Her attitude shifted to enthusiasm. Blushing and smiling, she presented him with the pill in an ornate box. Su Hong thanked her and asked if they carried dual thunder and fire attribute alloy spears. The receptionist confirmed they did, adding it only cost 200 points. She flirtatiously thanked her handsome customer for his business. Later that night, the moon shone over the quiet camp dormitories. Inside his room, Su Hong's new weapon, a C-rank Thunderfire spear, leaned against the wall. On his bed, Su Hong reviewed his glowing interface. He saw his vitality and elemental techniques had leveled up, and he had 490 martial value points. He was satisfied, as his progress today exceeded a normal week's. Opening the box, he revealed the glowing Spirit Gathering pill. He calculated his stats, noting his base spiritual power was 26.5. Even converting all 490 martial value points, he'd still be 25.5 points short of the 100 needed to become a Spirit Master. Holding the pill to the light, he hoped the Tier 4 medicine would provide the remaining 25.5 spiritual power points he needed. With a determined smile and a fierce glint in his eyes, Su Hong swallowed the pill, resolved to become a Spirit Master. The glowing green pearl-like medicine activated. Vibrant green energy flowed through Su Hong's body, lighting his energy pathways. He felt immediate comfort as the pill soothed his exhausted nerves. Sitting cross-legged on his bed, his mind cleared and his senses expanded to perceive his entire room. Su Hong opened his eyes, which glowed bright blue. He checked his system interface and saw the pill had raised his spirit stat by 24 points to 50.5. He calculated that his 490 martial value points and new spirit stat only brought him to 99.5%. He was 5 points short and regretted not killing one more beast. Accepting he had to wait until tomorrow, Su Hong lay down to rest. In the brightly lit camp warehouse, staff members assembled. Instructors in dark uniforms gathered to discuss the new trainees while reviewing their profiles. One man asked Bu Jingfeng why someone from the prestigious Martial Dao University had been summoned to serve new recruits with them. Bu Jingfeng scoffed, calling the recruits fake geniuses and claiming they weren't qualified to be his high school sparring partners. The bald instructor laughed and showed Wang Tiantuo's profile, which had a vitality of 340, a level Bu Jingfeng never had, surprising him. A gray-haired instructor showed Lin Xinghe's profile, noting his vitality exceeded 300, while a mustached instructor added that his student was a spirit master. Bu Jingfeng was confused by his target Su Hong's low stats. He questioned why he got a Tier 1 trainee with only 123 vitality, while others got strong ones. The other instructors were in disbelief, as Bu Jingfeng was their strongest. They wondered why he had been assigned a weak target and questioned if Grandmaster Qin Tianli had made a mistake. Grandmaster Qin Tianli entered with Lin Ze and Bai Mu, confirming he had made no mistake. Bu Jingfeng complained to the Grandmaster, feeling insulted. Qin Tianli clarified that Su Hong's combat power rivaled a Tier 1 high-stage martial artist. This stunned the instructors, who wondered what monster could have such power with only 123 vitality. Qin Tianli said some info was classified and Bu Jingfeng would understand after fighting. Reluctantly, Bu Jingfeng sighed that with his vitality near 500, it felt like bullying. Annoyed, Qin Tianli slapped Bu Jingfeng's head, telling him to stop talking and do the mission. He ordered him to go all out and beat Su Hong until he questioned his life. Rubbing his head, Bu Jingfeng asked if the Grandmaster had a grudge, warning he wouldn't be responsible if he accidentally crippled Su Hong. With a dark grin, Qin Tianli encouraged him to beat Su Hong ruthlessly, promising rewards even if he was crippled. Seeing this, Bu Jingfeng pitied Su Hong. Qin Tianli ordered the operation to begin, and the instructors dashed out to execute the ambush. Late at night, the scene was the quiet, snow-dusted exterior of the training camp. Chaos erupted in the dorms as masked instructors breached doors, launching a violent ambush on the trainees. Panicked shouts echoed from the dorms as trainees screamed in confusion, some begging for time to get dressed. Alerted by the commotion, Su Hong sat up, deducing the camp was under a sneak attack. He stared at his locked door as two massive slash marks tore through the wood from outside. The door shattered as Bu Jingfeng burst in, wielding a sword coated in purple energy with a confident smirk. Bu Jingfeng unleashed a cross-shaped strike that shattered the floor, but Su Hong reacted instantly, leaping backward to evade it. As debris flew, Su Hong recalled rumors of assassins and wondered if his attacker was from that hostile faction. Landing safely, Su Hong grabbed his new spear. He took a defensive stance in the ruined room, unable to gauge his masked assailant's strength. Bu Jingfeng leaped, bringing down a massive arc of purple energy. Confident, he mocked Su Hong, calling him an unlucky Tier 1 brat. Hearing him speak and sensing his aura, Su Hong realized the intruder was a human Tier 1 martial artist, not an alien assassin. A confident smile spread across Su Hong's face as he realized this was a stroke of luck. Su Hong calculated that defeating this opponent would give him the 5 martial value points he needed to become a spirit master. Mid-air, Bu Jingfeng's eyes widened in shock. He saw the trainee wasn't dodging, but stepping forward to meet his strike head-on. Their weapons collided in a blinding flash as Su Hong's spear clashed with Bu Jingfeng's purple energy blade. Straining, Bu Jingfeng sweated, admitting Qin was right about the boy's power rivaling a Tier 1 high-stage martial artist. As the clash continued, the instructor panicked. He realized Su Hong's physical strength was too massive for a normal Tier 1 martial artist. Unfazed, Su Hong enveloped his body in a red aura and pressed his spear forward, used to fighting Tier 1 high-stage enemies. With a battle cry, Su Hong unleashed his immense might. He swept his spear upward, shattering Bu Jingfeng's defense and sending the stunned instructor flying. Bu Jingfeng skidded backward, trembling as he struggled to hold his sword. Terrified, he wondered if the trainee was a monster. Regaining his footing, Bu Jingfeng channeled purple fire into his blade, declaring that fights weren't won by strength alone as he readied his elemental skills. Su Hong watched the glowing blade with interest, his first time seeing a fire attribute art. Golden lightning then crackled around his spear. The purple flames on Bu Jingfeng's sword intensified as he gathered power. Leaping high, Bu Jingfeng conjured a glowing purple cross around his blade. He taunted Su Hong, challenging him to withstand a B-rank martial art. With a shout, Bu Jingfeng brought his weapon down, unleashing the flame slash technique. Su Hong braced himself, channeling golden lightning through his spear. He realized the strike's might exceeded his own B-rank void-breaking finger technique. Instead of dodging, Su Hong thrust his spear up, using his lightning energy to block the purple energy blade. The clash of elemental energies caused a massive explosion, shattering the floor and sending concrete flying. As the dust settled, Su Hong landed lightly on his feet. The smoke cleared, revealing an unharmed Su Hong holding his spear, looking down at a stunned Bu Jingfeng in the ruined dorm. Sweating, Bu Jingfeng realized Su Hong had blocked a B-rank skill just with raw thunder energy, not a formal technique. Acknowledging his talent, he understood why Qin had ordered him to go all out. To save face, Bu Jingfeng noted Su Hong lacked thunder spear techniques, claiming that without them, he would be easily defeated. Unfazed, Su Hong smirked, lightning crackling on his spear, and admitted he lacked thunder techniques. However, Su Hong then summoned red flames that wrapped around his spearhead, merging perfectly with the golden electricity. Enveloped in a dual aura of fire and lightning, Su Hong stood confidently as Bu Jingfeng stammered in disbelief at the sight. Sweating and wide-eyed, the instructor stared in shock, terrified to see the trainee had perfectly executed an advanced attribute fusion. Su Hong faced Bu Jingfeng, his spear blazing with merged fire and lightning energy. Bu Jingfeng sweated in shock as he witnessed the dual attribute fusion, a feat he previously had thought was just a legend. Fire surged from Su Hong's eyes as he lunged at the instructor. Bu Jingfeng forcefully swung his weapon, unleashing a wave of purple energy. The purple blade clashed violently against Su Hong's lightning-infused spear. Su Hong overpowered the strike, thrusting his spear to unleash a massive eruption of combined elemental energy that completely engulfed his opponent. The sheer force of the attack shattered Bu Jingfeng's defense, causing him to cough up blood, astounded by the destructive power. The overwhelming blast violently launched Bu Jingfeng backward, sending him crashing through the building's exterior wall in a burst of debris. As the dust settled, Su Hong stood victorious and unharmed amidst the rubble. The system notified him he had earned 7 martial value points. Su Hong smiled as he realized he finally had enough points to become a spirit master. He reviewed his system interface, confirming his updated stats and new total of 497 martial value points. Outside in the courtyard, loud crashes and sounds of battle echoed from the dorm building. Grandmaster Qin Tianli and Bai Mu arrived, observing the commotion. Unaware of Su Hong's victory, Qin Tianli assumed enough time had passed for Bu Jingfeng to crush the young trainee. He confidently told Bai Mu he had prepared speeches to correct Su Hong's cultivation path and force him to abandon his flawed method of practicing multiple techniques. His lecture was cut short by a massive explosion as Bu Jingfeng was violently blasted through the upper wall of the dorm. He plummeted from the sky and slammed heavily into the ground at the feet of the Grandmaster and Bai Mu. Bu Jingfeng was completely unconscious, his eyes rolled back with blood dripping from his mouth. Bai Mu gasped in shock, recognizing the elite instructor. Beside her, Qin Tianli stared down at the body in stunned silence, his confidence entirely shattered. Trembling, Bai Mu pieced together the terrifying implication. If Bu Jingfeng was the one defeated, it meant the low-level Su Hong actually beat him. Before they could fully process this upset, 3 more massive blasts shattered the remaining upper windows of the dorm. 3 more figures were launched into the night sky, trailing distinct paths of elemental energy. The 3 figures plummeted downward, crashing violently into the courtyard right next to Bu Jingfeng. They were revealed to be the other 3 masked instructors sent to ambush the top trainees. All of them were battered and unconscious. Up in the ruined building, the top 3 elite trainees emerged victorious. Wang Tiantuo stood with his arms crossed. Xiaonan floated comfortably inside a telekinetic bubble, and Lin Xinghe sat on a ledge, fanning himself. Wang Tiantuo called down to Grandmaster Qin, suggesting he send stronger opponents next time because these instructors were too weak. However, Wang Tiantuo paused in confusion when he noticed 4 defeated instructors lying in the courtyard instead of the 3 they just fought. Xiaonan wondered aloud who could have possibly finished their fight faster than they did. Lin Xinghe, misreading the situation, casually assumed the 4th trainee was weak and was simply crushed instantly by their assigned instructor. Still sweating from the revelation, Bai Mu mentally corrected Lin Xinghe's arrogant assumption. Staring down at Bu Jingfeng's broken body, she knew he was actually the strongest of the 4 instructors sent out tonight. Grandmaster Qin Tianli stroked his beard, analyzing the situation. He acknowledged the swift victories of the top 3 trainees made sense given their high cultivation levels and unique talents. However, he was deeply perplexed that Su Hong, a mere early-stage Tier 1, had managed to defeat a near Tier 2 opponent even faster than the elite geniuses did. Frowning in intense thought, the Grandmaster wondered what secret had allowed Su Hong to achieve this, speculating whether the boy used an ultimate martial art or possessed a supreme physical constitution. Suddenly, Instructor Lindsay sprinted towards them in a panic, shouting that a major incident had occurred. Qin Tianli calmly closed his eyes and waved a hand dismissively. He casually assumed a trainee was accidentally killed in the ambush, stating that a few casualties were a normal part of harsh training. Sweating and frantic, Lindsay loudly corrected him, revealing the crisis wasn't a death, but rather that Su Hong had used an elemental attribute fusion technique during his fight with Bu Jingfeng. Qin Tianli casually nodded, noting a fuse technique perfectly explained how the boy had won against a superior opponent. A split second later, the sheer impossibility of what he just heard fully registered, and the Grandmaster was shocked. Erupting in a blazing golden aura, Qin Tianli violently grabbed Lindsay by the shoulders, demanding he repeat himself and warning the instructor not to make up ridiculous lies about Su Hong achieving a dual attribute fusion. Lindsay nervously defended his claim, recalling seeing the monitor feed of Su Hong wielding a spear cloaked in both fire and lightning. He urged the Grandmaster to ask Bu Jingfeng if he still had doubts. Qin Tianli looked down at the defeated Bu Jingfeng, the reality of the thunder and fire fusion finally sinking in. Shaking Linzhou with wild enthusiasm, the Grandmaster noted that the only human genius in history to successfully research dual attribute fusion had taken over a decade to do so. Yet, according to Star City's records, Su Hong had been practicing his guiding techniques for less than a month. Overjoyed to the point of ecstatic laughter, Qin Tianli praised Su Hong as a heaven-sent prodigy and a true dragon among men. He completely ignored the exhausted Lin Ze, who slumped over and had to be awkwardly supported by Bai Mu. Holding up her reeling colleague, Bai Mu asked the Grandmaster if attribute fusion was truly powerful enough to let an early-stage Tier 1 defeat a near Tier 2 opponent. Regaining his dignity, Qin Tianli confirmed it, explaining that the historical pioneer of the technique could easily suppress Tier 2 enemies while still at Tier 1. Intrigued by the overwhelming power, Bai Mu questioned why such a formidable combat method wasn't widely promoted for cultivation, reasoning that despite the extreme difficulty, the potential rewards were worth the risk. Qin Tianli solemnly explained that many had tried attribute fusion in the past, but the process was incredibly difficult and carried a high risk of severely crippling the practitioner. He added that even if someone succeeded, they often remained permanently stuck at the Tier 1 cultivation level, making the immense effort and danger ultimately pointless. However, his demeanor shifted back to intense excitement as he clenched a fiery fist, emphasizing that Su Hong had managed to master this fusion in less than a month. He marveled at the boy's monstrous comprehension skills, and wondered aloud just how devastating his power would become if he successfully fused all 7 of his elemental attributes. Spreading his arms wide, the Grandmaster envisioned a future where the young prodigy fully matured, imagining Su Hong wielding a blinding, multicolored fusion of all 7 elements to obliterate a colossal alien emperor with a single, earth-shattering strike. Linzu and Baimu sweat-dropped at the Grandmaster's wild imagination, awkwardly pointing out that he was severely overhyping the boy. They reminded him that while fusing 2 elements was an incredible feat, successfully combining all 7 was purely a fantasy. Coughing to hide his embarrassment, Qin Tianli regained his composure and told them to forget his outburst. His tone turned serious as he realized the massive responsibility now resting on his shoulders. He worried that if he left Su Hong alone to juggle all 7 attributes without intervention, the boy might eventually hit a wall trying to fuse a 3rd element and ruin his potential. If that happened, Qin Tianli believed he would become a sinner to humanity for failing to guide such a rare talent. Suddenly, Lindsay shouted out another startling realization, reminding the Grandmaster that Su Hong must also possess a special physique, as his raw physical strength alone was enough to completely overpower Bu Jingfeng before he had even used the elemental fusion. Annoyed by the delayed report, Qin Tianli scolded Lindsay for not mentioning such a crucial detail sooner. The instructors quickly discussed the sheer math behind the boy's power. Lindsay noted that Su Hong had managed to crush Bu Jingfeng's near 500 vitality, using his own base vitality of only 120. They concluded this massive physical amplification far surpassed even Wang Tiantuo's elite barbarian god body, solidifying their belief that Su Hong's physical constitution was truly monstrous. Staring toward the battered dorm building, Grandmaster Qin Tianli formulated a new plan. He declared that tomorrow he would organize a formal combat tournament to thoroughly test Su Hong's true combat power and vitality limits. To do this, he planned to pit the camp's top 3 elite trainees, Wang Tiantuo, Lin Xinghe, and Xiaonan, directly against Su Hong. With a determined glint in his eye, the Grandmaster stated he wanted to personally witness exactly what happened when an unprecedented monster like Su Hong clashed with the absolute strongest geniuses the training camp had to offer. Su Hong sat calmly in the ruined room, meditating amidst the debris. He remained undisturbed by the people gathered outside, focused entirely on his progression. Eager to advance, he opened his system and poured all his martial value into his spirit stat. A radiant blue aura enveloped him as he finally became a spirit master. He closed his eyes, enjoying the sensation of his newly awakened power. Testing his abilities, he conjured a glowing phantom fist. The telekinetic control felt a bit strange, like suddenly growing a 3rd arm. Sweating slightly, he checked his interface and confirmed his spirit stat had crossed the 100% threshold. To test his power in the real world, he focused on his bed and effortlessly levitated it with a mere thought. Thrilled, Su Hong floated off the ground alongside his spear, celebrating that he could now walk on air and use telekinetic attacks like Xiaonan. With his new status, he firmly resolved to copy Xiaonan's A-rank spirit martial art and Wang Tiantuo's offensive technique. The next morning, an urgent announcement ordered everyone to gather within 1 minute, threatening point deductions for anyone who was late. Trainees rushed downstairs in a panic. They loudly complained that the camp's schedule was outrageous after enduring the entry assessment, heavy training, and a brutal night raid all in one day. The trainees formed a large crowd in the courtyard. Su Hong arrived casually, stretching his arms and looking completely unfazed by the previous night's events. Instructor Lin Ze stood before them, glad that no one was late to the sudden assembly. With a cheerful smile, he admitted he expected many to be too beaten up to stand, praising their resilience. The rugged student complained that he only lost because of a dirty sneak attack. He argued he wasn't even given time to put on his underwear, and the attacker aimed for his crotch. Lin Ze sarcastically asked if a real alien assassin would wait for him to get dressed before an ambush. His friend laughed and teased the rugged guy, calling him bro underpants. Observing from the crowd, Su Hong agreed with the instructor's logic about real combat, though he understood why everyone was exhausted. Sensing their dissatisfaction, Lindsay announced a comprehensive test to give everyone a fair chance to prove themselves. He explained that an automated system would evaluate their vitality, combat power, spirit, strength, speed, and martial skills. As the top 3 elites, Wang Tiantuo, Xiaonan, and Lin Xinghe, listened confidently, Lindsay added that a combat ranking would follow. The top 10 students would earn daily contribution points based on their placement. The trainees buzzed with excitement. Knowing the top 3 spots would go to the elites, they resolved to fight fiercely for the remaining 7 positions. Intrigued, Su Hong smiled, wondering what the grand prize for first place might be. Lindsay quieted the noisy crowd and led them to the testing facility. They arrived at a massive warehouse. Inside, Lindsay stood on a stage beside a mechanical spider-like device called a Tier 2 Combat Power Tester. As the crowd settled, Grandmaster Qin Tianli intensely scanned the students. He noted that his target was blending in perfectly. A bandaged trainee next to Su Hong assumed the Grandmaster was admiring his potential. Su Hong glanced at him and bluntly told him he was wrong. Feeling the weight of the Grandmaster's stare, Su Hong sweated nervously, well aware he was the actual target. Grandmaster Qin Tianli addressed the trainees. He announced a new grand prize. Whoever ranked first overall could choose an A-rank martial art or movement technique. The crowd erupted in excitement. Realizing the top 3 elites would now go all out, the trainees eagerly debated who would win. Wang Tiantuo's expression turned serious. He knew A-rank martial arts were incredibly rare, as even his powerful family only possessed a few. Xiaonan smiled confidently, thrilled by the prospect of securing such a high-level skill. Lin Xingyi hid his face behind his fan, eyes sharp with ambition. Winning an A-rank technique would prove his family wrong about his focus on speed. Su Hong's eyes glowed with fierce determination. Tempted by another A-rank technique, he resolved to go all out and claim the prize. Observing the crowd, Qin Tianli narrowed his eyes. His true motive for the test was to finally see Su Hong's absolute limits and true strength. Setting his plan in motion, the Grandmaster announced the testing order. Lin Xingyi, followed by Xiaonan, and then Wang Tiantuo. The trainees whispered nervously, intimidated by the explosive starting lineup. They wondered who would be unfortunate enough to test fourth and face that immense pressure. The Grandmaster calmly announced the 4th participant, Su Hong. The trainees stared in shock, but Su Hong remained calm, confirming his suspicions that he was being targeted. His former schoolmates, Chen Shan and Li Tu, looked at him with pity. Remembering Su Hong finished last in the entry assessment, they wondered if he had somehow offended the Grandmaster. Others gossiped, concluding the Grandmaster purposely placed the weakest student after the top 3 to create a humiliating contrast and motivate poor performers. Ignoring the whispers, Qin Tianli instructed them to test raw physical combat power first, then martial skills. Lin Xingyi stepped up, casually noting raw strength wasn't his strong suit. Lin Xingyi lunged forward and delivered a heavy punch to the machine. The screen flashed brightly, displaying a score of 40-13. The crowd was dumbfounded, marveling that a punch over 4,000 was incredibly high for someone claiming it as a weakness. Another trainee pointed out that compared to his terrifying A-rank speed, strength was technically his lesser attribute. Watching calmly, Su Hong realized Lin Xingyi's physical foundation had to be strong to support an A-rank movement technique. Su Hong prepared his system, eager to copy the martial art Lin Xingyi would use next. Lin Xingyi gathered a vortex of green wind energy around his fist. Unleashing the cloud-hiding gale fist, he struck the machine with a concentrated blast. The tester trembled, and its display updated to a much higher score of 56-42. The crowd gasped. A score over 5,600 reached the standard of a Tier 2 martial artist. They marveled at the terrifying power of his B-rank technique. Su Hong successfully copied the wind attribute cloud-hiding gale fist. As green energy swirled around his hand, he analyzed the numbers. The B-rank art only boosted Lin Xingyi's base score by 1,600 points, which Su Hong found underwhelming. Lin Xingyi stepped down smugly. Xiaonan scoffed at his display, calling his results average. Unbothered, Lin Xingyi challenged her to do better. Xiaonan registered a base combat power of 32-53. Trainees agreed it was normal for a spirit master's physical body to be weaker, knowing her true strength lay in telekinesis. For the martial skill phase, Xiaonan's eyes glowed. Using her telekinesis, she manifested a massive golden hammer and brought it crashing down onto the machine. Su Hong's system instantly copied the ability, acquiring the spirit attribute weapon condensation art. Thrilled by the effortless acquisition, he praised the training camp as a treasure trove. An eager smile spread across his face as he wondered how many more skills he could secretly learn before the test ended. Xiaonan swung her arm down, bringing the huge spiritual weapon crashing onto the tester. The screen flashed, showing a high score of 59-42. The trainees were amazed, noting her score beat Lin Xingyi's and nearly doubled her base power. They marveled at the explosive strength of spirit masters. In the crowd, Su Hong reflected on how useful spiritual power was in combat for things like walking on air and controlling objects. He tried to practice the weapon condensation art in his mind, gathering golden energy above him. He snapped his fingers and the shape quickly faded. Feeling the strain, Su Hong realized that creating solid objects from weapons to beasts used a huge amount of spiritual power. Sweating, he concluded his current spiritual power was just too low to learn the technique right then. Su Hong decided to learn it later. He looked back at the stage as Wang Tiantuo prepared for his turn, eager to see the elite trainee's skill. Wang Tiantuo stepped forward confidently while the crowd cheered him on, praising the strength of his barbarian god body and calling him a combat god. Su Hong watched closely, curious how Wang Tiantuo's famous body compared to his own overlord body. Warning the crowd to watch closely, Wang Tiantuo threw a pure physical punch at the machine, creating a massive shockwave on impact. The trainees were in shock. Wang Tiantuo's raw physical strike scored only 300 points lower than Lin Xingyi's martial art attack, proving his legendary strength. Grandmaster Qin Tianli nodded in approval, highly impressed by the elite trainee's physical base. Wang Tiantuo bowed to the Grandmaster before announcing he would then show his martial art for the second phase. Watching from the crowd, Su Hong smiled, excited to finally see Wang Tiantuo's rumored A-rank attack. Wang Tiantuo channeled his power, making a pale blue flame ignite and wrap tightly around his right arm. He dropped into a combat stance, pulling back his glowing fist as fiery energy surged around him. Recognizing the rare ability, Grandmaster Qin identified the technique as the strong A-rank Bone Netherfire Fist. Su Hong's system interface chimed, notifying him he successfully copied the fire technique. Surprised and happy, he remembered from the martial arts pavilion that this exact skill cost 2,800 contribution points, making his easy copy a huge steal. With intense focus, Wang Tiantuo launched his attack. He slammed his blazing fist into the testing machine with a powerful burst of elemental force. The screen lit up with a massive score of 7534. The trainees were shocked, realizing the A-rank technique pushed his attack power close to a middle-stage Tier 2 martial artist. This was a crazy boost since his base vitality was only around 350. Grandmaster Qin praised him, noting Wang Tiantuo's father often bragged about raising a future grandmaster, which Qin now believed. Wang Tiantuo gladly accepted the compliment. With the top 3 elites setting a very high bar, the Grandmaster finally turned to his true target and called Su Hong to the stage. As Su Hong calmly walked forward, the trainees stepped aside and whispered. They pitied him, thinking anyone going after the elites would be embarrassed, and they mistook his calm look for giving up. Standing before the machine, Su Hong listened as Grandmaster Qin told him to use only pure physical strength for his first strike, forbidding any martial arts. Unbothered and ready, Su Hong simply agreed. Su Hong dropped into a stance, winding up his arm as the force of his movement whipped the air around him. Exhaling sharply, his expression turned serious, his eyes shining with intense focus. Driven by his drive to win the grand prize, Su Hong threw a powerful punch, confident he would take first place. His bare fist hit the machine, creating a massive explosive shockwave that kicked up a huge cloud of dust. The heavy machine shook violently as the screen updated, revealing a mind-blowing pure physical score of 6551. Seeing the results, Grandmaster Qin and Instructor Lindsay broke out in a cold sweat. The Grandmaster was completely shocked, admitting to himself he still underestimated the young man's crazy base strength. The entire crowd of trainees fell into a stunned silence, their eyes wide and jaws dropped in shock. Chaos quickly erupted as the trainees screamed in disbelief, wondering if the machine was broken. They were confused how the student who placed dead last in the entry assessment was now putting out numbers that shattered their belief that Wang Tiantuo was the camp's king. The top 3 elites were also shaken. Lin Xinghe dropped his arrogant act, thinking such huge physical power was impossible for a Tier 1 martial artist. He wrongly concluded that Su Hong must have secretly reached Tier 2. Breaking the tension, Su Hong turned to the instructors and calmly asked if he should proceed with the martial arts test. Still recovering from the shock, Grandmaster Qin gave him the okay. Su Hong stepped back into the testing area, taking a firm stance for his next attack. His system rapidly processed the newly acquired skill. The mastery percentage ticked up fast as a pale blue fiery aura identical to Wang Tiantuo's attack ignited around his body. As the proficiency shot past 80%, Su Hong realized mastering the A-rank Bone Netherfire Fist was much faster than his previous A-rank movement technique. He felt the explosive skill perfectly suited his fighting style. Watching Su Hong gather power, Instructor Lindsay wondered out loud how high the final score would go. Knowing Su Hong came from an ordinary working-class family, Lindsay assumed he didn't have the resources for anything higher than a low-rank martial art. Grandmaster Qin narrowed his eyes, sensing the strong elemental energy radiating from the trainee. He corrected the instructor, stating that based on the intense aura, the technique was definitely not a low-level martial art. Su Hong's system chimed as his understanding of the Bone Netherfire Fist hit 100%, officially mastering the technique. His eyes flashed with glowing energy as the process completed. He casually summoned the pale blue flames around his fist. The crowd immediately recognized the aura and went crazy, completely confused how Su Hong secretly learned Wang Tiantuo's exclusive martial art. Eager to test his new A-rank attack, Su Hong dropped into a fierce combat stance. He launched forward, slamming his blazing fist into the testing machine with a massive impact. The explosion was massive, creating a shockwave so powerful it blew the trainees backward. Struggling against the wind, they screamed in terror, noticing the force of the strike was much greater than Wang Tiantuo's. As the dust cleared, the screen showed an unbelievable score of 9,013. The crowd lost their minds, knowing that breaking 9,000 points was the standard for a high-stage Tier 2 martial artist. Instructor Linza sweated, unable to understand how a Tier 1 student with only 123 base vitality could produce such numbers. He suspected the machine might be broken. Beside him, Grandmaster Qin admitted Su Hong was a true monster. Desperate for an answer, Xiaonan concluded Su Hong must be hiding his true stats, and that his vitality definitely exceeded 500. Hearing this, a stressed Wang Tiantuo comforted himself, thinking losing to a secretly high-level expert wasn't shameful since his own vitality hadn't reached 400 yet. To settle the debate, Su Hong took a vitality test. However, the crowd got more confused when the machine read his vitality at a mere 137. They yelled that the tester must be broken. Su Hong sat calmly inside the glowing pod as the screen confirmed the 137 score. Outside, even the highly experienced Grandmaster Chin muttered that the situation was completely crazy. The trainees panicked, joking the machine must have missed a zero. They were terrified by the reality that Su Hong was just a Tier 1 martial artist, making his 9,000-point output a crazy miracle. As the pod opened and Su Hong stepped out, Grandmaster Chin gave him an intense stare, very curious about the boy's secrets. Restoring order, the Grandmaster told the stunned crowd to back away from the machines and announced the start of the final phase, the practical combat tournament. He explained the rules with a smirk, stating it would be a challenge system where trainees could pick their opponents. The final winner would secure first place and the grand prize of an A-rank martial art. Instantly, an eager shadow fell over Lin Xinghe's face as he called out to the Grandmaster. Holding his closed folding fan, Lin Xinghe stepped forward and pointed his finger at Su Hong, boldly declaring his intent to challenge him. Smug and confident, Lin Xinghe reasoned that despite Su Hong's monstrous combat output, his low vitality was a critical weakness. He planned to use his superior movement technique to evade attacks and exhaust Su Hong. Startling Lin Xinghe, Grandmaster Qin Tianli rejected the one-on-one challenge. Instead, he proposed that the top 3 elites face Su Hong together. The trio was deeply offended. Wang Tiantuo scowled at being underestimated. Xiaonan scoffed at Su Hong's worthiness of a combined assault, and Lin Xinghe worried their combined might would cripple the lower-tier trainee. Ignoring their complaints, the Grandmaster asked for Su Hong's opinion. Su Hong calmly agreed to fight all 3 simultaneously. The elites glared at Su Hong, irritated by his apparent arrogance. Wang Tiantuo believed he could easily defeat Su Hong all by himself. Grandmaster Qin Tianli announced the start of the match, and the 3 elites squared up against Su Hong in the testing facility. As the fight commenced, Wang Tiantuo and Xiaonan charged forward while Lin Xinghe leaped backward to create distance. Lin Xinghe intended to hang back and wait for Su Hong to be fully engaged before using his high-speed movement skill for a devastating sneak attack. His plan shattered when Xiaonan and Wang Tiantuo screamed in panic, warning him to dodge. Caught off guard, Lin Xinghe turned in shock. Moving with blinding speed, Su Hong slid effortlessly past his line of sight, appearing directly behind him. Su Hong unleashed a glowing blue punch, calmly bidding him farewell. Just before landing, the crushing blow was brought to an abrupt halt inches from Lin Xinghe's face. Given a split-second reprieve, a terrified Lin Xinghe frantically leaped backward to escape. Landing safely, Lin Xinghe thanked Xiaonan for her telekinetic intervention, warning his teammates about Su Hong's dangerously unnatural speed. Restrained by a faint telekinetic aura, Su Hong looked at his hand with mild intrigue. He remarked it was his first time experiencing spiritual telekinesis in combat, unaccustomed to his movements being controlled. Realizing he needed to eliminate Xiaonan first, Su Hong unleashed an explosive burst of speed, shattering the floor as he rushed toward her. Xiaonan's eyes widened in shock, realizing he was perfectly executing the elite flying swan's startling cloud step. Lin Xinghe and Wang Tiantuo charged to intercept. Baffled by how a fire attribute user could perform his wind-based technique, Lin Xinghe concluded Su Hong possessed dual attributes and yelled for Wang Tiantuo to stop him. Wang Tiantuo stepped into Su Hong's path, his arm igniting with a fiery aura. He instructed Xiaonan to focus on her spiritual control while he physically blocked the advance. Wang Tiantuo unleashed his A-rank bone netherfire fist. Instead of dodging, Su Hong mirrored the attack perfectly, his own fist violently erupting with the exact same pale blue flames. Before the strikes connected, Xiaonan amplified her telekinetic hold, freezing Su Hong in his tracks. Straining against the intense pressure, his feet cracked the concrete. He noted the spiritual control was more troublesome than anticipated. Taking advantage of Su Hong's immobilized state, Lin Xinghe leaped and brought down a fierce kick aimed at his head. Observing from the sidelines, Grandmaster Qin Tianli mused it might have been premature to let Su Hong fight all 3. He acknowledged that escaping a spirit master's crowd control required either overwhelming physical strength or counteracting spiritual power. Despite the intense combined attacks and telekinetic hold, a confident smile spread across Su Hong's face. The Grandmaster noted with shock that he didn't seem panicked at all. Just as the attacks were about to land, Su Hong unleashed a massive surge of brute strength, shattering the telekinetic bind. The violent backlash caused Xiaonan to cough up blood, losing her spiritual control. Now free, he effortlessly intercepted their attacks, creating a shockwave. The spectating trainees erupted in disbelief. Terrified that Su Hong shattered Xiaonan's telekinesis and blocked the elites using only sheer physical strength, they likened him to a ferocious beast. With a ruthless motion, Su Hong twisted the limbs he held, completely throwing Lin Xinghe and Wang Tiantuo off balance. Caught off guard by the overwhelming force, Lin Xinghe panicked and Wang Tiantuo cursed, realizing they were entirely at Su Hong's mercy. Utilizing his monstrous strength, Su Hong lifted both elites and spun them rapidly through the air like ragdolls. Eyes glowing fiercely, Su Hong halted his spin and mercilessly slammed both elites face first into the concrete floor. The massive impact shattered the ground. Wang Tiantuo's face was driven into the rubble while Lin Xinghe coughed up blood from the immense shock. The trainees watched in horror as heavy thuds echoed through the facility. Displaying terrifying savagery, Su Hong repeatedly lifted and smashed the two elites into the ruined floor in a relentless blur of motion. When Su Hong finally released his grip, the once proud elites lay completely motionless, having fainted from the savage beatdown. Standing tall amidst the settling dust, he had completely dominated the match. Still radiating a fierce battle aura, Su Hong locked an intense gaze onto his last remaining opponent. Catching his terrifying stare, Xiaonan lost all will to fight. Trembling, she threw her hands up and backed away, loudly surrendering and begging him not to come closer. The spectating trainees erupted into a frenzy of awe. They marveled that Su Hong had single-handedly crushed the camp's strongest trio, cementing his status as an unmatched monster. Silencing the commotion, Grandmaster Qin Tianli stepped forward. He asked if anyone else dared to challenge Su Hong, declaring that otherwise, the young man would claim first place. The trainees practically tripped over themselves to forfeit. Fearing the same brutal fate, they universally agreed Su Hong was the undisputed number one, admitting only a fool would challenge him now. With no objections, the Grandmaster declared Su Hong the winner. He then instructed instructor Lin Zhe to organize the remaining matches to determine the secondary rankings. Acknowledging his overwhelming victory, Grandmaster Qin Tianli instructed Su Hong to follow him to claim his grand prize and select a new A-rank martial art. A satisfied smile spread across Su Hong's face. He was thrilled that his victory meant adding another powerful A-rank martial art to his arsenal. As they walked, Grandmaster Qin Tianli mentioned he had been observing Su Hong since his arrival. He questioned why Su Hong chose to hide his true strength when most trainees eagerly showed off. Su Hong explained his caution, stating that without the backing of a powerful family, revealing his abilities too early would make him an easy target. The Grandmaster laughed, appreciating the boy's survival instincts. He confessed he had orchestrated the tournament specifically for Su Hong, intending to use it to secure more elite training resources for him. Qin Tianli advised that resources were heavily concentrated on recognized geniuses. He assured Su Hong he no longer needed to hide his power, offering his personal protection. Grateful for the backing, Su Hong thanked the Grandmaster. They soon arrived at the martial art pavilion. Inside, the startled receptionist stood at attention as the Grandmaster ordered her to bring out the master list of martial arts. While reviewing the catalog, Qin Tianli told Su Hong to ask if he needed clarification. Taking advantage of the expert guidance, Su Hong asked what type of martial art would best suit his progression. Before advising, the Grandmaster asked Su Hong to list his current martial arts. Su Hong casually listed the Bone Netherfire Fist, Flying Swan Startling Cloud Step, Cloud Hiding Gale Fist, and Void Breaking Finger, noting his other skills were lower ranked. The Grandmaster's expression tightened, pointing out the Flying Swan and Cloud Hiding techniques weren't in their inventory. He incredulously asked if the boy genuinely learned them just by watching Lin Xinghe once. When Su Hong casually confirmed, a drop of sweat rolled down the Grandmaster's face. Staring in stunned silence, he internally reaffirmed that Su Hong was an absolute monster. The receptionist watched in shock, wondering who Su Hong was to have Grandmaster Qin Tianli personally help him choose a martial art. Looking through the catalog, Qin suggested a control-type martial art since Su Hong already had attack and movement skills. He recommended the A-rank Flame Cage, which used fire qi to trap enemies. Qin explained that control arts required qi to leave the body, a hard task even for Tier 2 artists. However, he believed Su Hong's talent could overcome his Tier 1 limits. Offering to help him decide, Qin mentioned he knew the technique and offered to show it. Su Hong watched closely and thanked him. Summoning a spark from his hand, Qin highlighted the great battle value of control-type arts as the flame quickly grew into a glowing cage. He explained the battle plan, showing how to trap an enemy in the cage and then launch another attack like an energy arrow for a quick kill. However, Qin warned that keeping the cage active while attacking would be impossible for Su Hong right now. Qin admitted he only mastered that level of control at Tier 3. Hearing this, Su Hong immediately shook his head and gave up on the technique. Surprised by his quick surrender, Qin silently praised him. He noted that unlike arrogant geniuses, Su Hong listened to good advice, proving his true potential. Secretly, Su Hong smiled. His system confirmed he had learned Fire Flame Cage just by watching the display. Having gotten the skill for free, he politely asked Qin to recommend a different martial art. Agreeing to change focus, Qin flipped through the book and suggested looking into defensive arts to balance the young man's skills. He recommended the A-rank Thick Earth Armor, an earth skill that formed a strong defensive key layer over the user's body. Su Hong thought about it carefully. Realizing that adding a defensive art to his already strong body would give great results, Su Hong gladly accepted the recommendation. While finalizing the choice, Qin asked about Su Hong's special body type. Su Hong confidently made up the name Overlord Body. In his head, he got excited, imagining Qin praising this rare constitution and giving him a mountain of A-rank skills. Chin admitted he had never heard of that physique. Su Hong awkwardly confessed he just made the name up. The Grandmaster guessed it must be an entirely unrecorded physical type. Despite the fake name, Chin noted the huge strength boost it gave. He pointed out that Su Hong easily blocked a full-power strike from Wang Tiantuo's famous barbarian god body. He admitted he had never seen a Tier 1 fighter with such crazy raw power. A phone call interrupted them. Chin answered, planning to say he was busy, but instructor Bai Mu urgently reported a system error. She revealed that the point system showed Su Hong had worn his training weight vest during the whole tournament. Shocked, Chin asked if Su Hong really fought the top 3 elites while wearing the heavy vest. Su Hong casually agreed, explaining he kept it on to earn passive points. Hearing this, Chin clutched his chest, trying to stay calm while accepting that this boy was a total monster who defied logic. Calming down, Chin ordered Su Hong to take off the vest immediately. He promised that challenging the training camp later would earn him plenty of rewards, so he did not need to worry about minor points. Su Hong agreed. As Su Hong took off the black vest, the receptionist cheerfully offered to return it to the warehouse. Handing it over, Su Hong warned her that it was a bit heavy. The receptionist proudly stated she was a Tier 2 martial artist and could handle it. But the moment she took it, her eyes widened in shock. Unable to hold it, she dropped the vest, shattering the wooden floorboards under its huge weight. Staring at the broken floor, the shocked receptionist asked how heavy the vest was. Su Hong casually replied it weighed 5 tons. Watching him, Chin sweated nervously, amazed that a beginner Tier 1 trainee carried a 5-ton weight while beating 3 late-stage geniuses. Deeply impressed, the Grandmaster put an arm around Su Hong's shoulder. Calling him a little monster, Chin excitedly said he had another A-rank martial art in mind to teach him. Curious, Su Hong asked what art it was. Chin recalled Su Hong liked using the spear and mentioned a man named Grandmaster Jiang Lin from Yang City, a famous spearmaster. Chin explained that Jiang Lin had an A-rank thunder spear art with amazing destructive power. Smiling slyly, Chin proposed a plan. He would take Su Hong to Yang City to fight Jiang's student, using the duel to trick his rival into giving up the prize technique. Su Hong pointed out that tricking someone was not very nice. Irritated by an old grudge, Chin complained that Jiang Lin constantly called the Star City camp trash. Chin wanted to use Su Hong to humiliate his rival. He told Su Hong to rest, as they would leave early the next morning. Su Hong agreed. That night, Su Hong returned to his room. He was pleased to find the staff had completely fixed and cleaned it after the previous night's attack. Sitting on his bed, Su Hong focused on training. His system registered 3 new skills: the Fire Scorch 4 fields, the Spirit, Soul Capture Art, and the Earth, Thick Earth Armor. Determined, he trained through the night to reach basic mastery for all 3 before morning. Meanwhile, Grandmaster Chin was on the phone with his rival. He confidently told Jiang Lin to prepare his Thunder Spear art, declaring he was bringing his student tomorrow to challenge the Yang City camp. Over in Yang City, Grandmaster Jiang Lin smugly brushed off the challenge. He bragged that his camp recently found a rare wood spirit body genius who was already a Tier 2 fighter. Jiang continued boasting, claiming his student learned the A-rank wood prison in just 2 days, reaching a level where his QI could leave his body. He proudly watched his student train. The student, a green-haired young man, strained as a green aura covered his body. Channeling his power, he unleashed the technique, summoning a massive tangle of thick wooden vines to form the wood prison. However, the skill quickly grew unstable. He desperately tried to stop the wild vines, but the prison shattered violently into glowing green pieces instead of fading cleanly. Panting heavily, the student sighed at another failure. Jiang Lin called him Lin Chunfeng and scolded him for being impatient. He reminded the boy that control arts needed more than just willpower. Refusing to give up, Lin confidently promised to reach the basic level within a month. Back on the phone, Jiang mocked Chin, boasting his student was a monster for learning it in a month, since it took Jiang himself 3 months. Insulting the Star City camp again, Jiang claimed his student would easily crush Chin's trash. Chin erupted in anger, but Jiang hung up. Turning to Lin Chunfeng, Jiang told him not to win too quickly tomorrow. He ordered Lin to act like the fight was close and win narrowly to save Chin some face. Forming a clawed hand of greenwood energy, Lin smiled and promised his acting skills were ready. The next afternoon, high above the Yang City training camp on a flattened mountain peak, Grandmaster Chin used his power to fly himself and Su Hong toward the base. Glancing down, Su Hong smiled nervously, saying he never expected his first flight to be like this. With a strong gust of wind, they landed right in the center of the courtyard, facing Jiang Lin and his men. Wearing a smug grin, Jiang Lin greeted his old rival and asked to see the genius Chin brought to challenge them. Chin presented Su Hong as a beginner Tier 1 fighter, who also used a spear. Planting his weapon on the ground, Su Hong politely greeted the rival Grandmaster. Jiang Lin's smug look vanished into annoyed disbelief. He asked if Chin was crazy for treating a beginner Tier 1 rookie like a genius. Internally, Jiang began to sweat. Pitting his Tier 2 student against a Tier 1 beginner would usually mean an instant kill. He worried Lin's acting skills would be heavily tested to make this fight look fair. Ignoring the insult, Qin confidently urged Jiang Lin to start the match, casually adding that he and Su Hong needed to get home in time for dinner. A large crowd of trainees gathered at the Yang City Training Camp's arena, waiting in excitement. Some wondered about the visiting genius from Star City, joking that they hoped the challenger wouldn't be too weak. Grandmaster Jiang Lin introduced the famous Grandmaster Qin Tianli and his supposed genius student, Su Hong, to the crowd. Smiling smugly, Jiang Lin revealed to everyone that Su Hong was only a beginner at the Tier 1 stage. The local trainees erupted in disbelief, insulted that someone so weak dared to challenge them. They mocked Su Hong, pointing out that their champion, Lin Chunfeng, was a Tier 2 martial artist who could crush him instantly. Hearing this, Lin Chunfeng started sweating nervously. His master had ordered him to make the fight look close to save Qin's pride, but he panicked over how to fake a fair battle against such a weak opponent. Ignoring the noise, Jiang Lin confirmed the bet with Qin Tianli. If his student won, Qin had to teach him an A-rank martial art. Pretending to be generous, Jiang Lin told Su Hong that if he somehow won, he could choose an extra A-rank martial art as a prize. Su Hong politely thanked him. Amused, Qin Tianli slapped his rival's back and sarcastically called him a nice guy. Meanwhile, Jiang Lin was fully confident that a Tier 1 beginner could never defeat a Tier 2 student with a rare wood spirit body. The competitors stepped into the arena while the grandmasters watched. Jiang Lin subtly reminded Lin Chunfeng to hold back his strength. Gripping his sword, the anxious student assured his master that he would. Drawing his blade, Lin Chunfeng continued to worry about his acting. He was terrified of accidentally hurting the beginner with a single careless strike. Noticing his opponent was unarmed, Lin Chunfeng asked why Su Hong wasn't using the spear he brought to the camp. Su Hong casually stretched and replied that he wouldn't use his weapon just yet. In reality, Su Hong chose to go unarmed because his only spear skill was a basic C-rank technique. This was much weaker than his new A-rank fist and movement skills, making the spear a clear disadvantage. Misunderstanding this practical choice as pure arrogance, Lin Chunfeng grew annoyed. Eager to test this supposed confidence, he leapt into the air and charged at the unarmed trainee with his sword. Covered in a green aura, Lin Chunfeng swung his sword down. Su Hong easily dodged the heavy slash, stepping aside as the blade smashed into the stone floor and sent debris flying. Using his A-rank movement skill, Su Hong gracefully glided backward across the arena. He left a trail of wind behind him as he casually kept his distance. Lin Chunfeng was shocked to see a beginner use an A-rank wind movement technique. Watching from above, the grandmasters smirked in amusement at the impressive display. Refusing to let him escape, Lin Chunfeng charged forward. He declared that movement skills were useless now and unleashed his wood prison technique. Thick green vines shot from the ground and tightly wrapped around Su Hong's leg. Surprised to face a rare control-type skill, Su Hong briefly praised Lin Chunfeng's talent. Still, he remained calm and flared his aura, preparing to use his raw physical strength to break the vines. Before Su Hong could even try, the weak green vines suddenly shattered and vanished into thin air. Confused and disappointed, he wondered how such a powerful technique could fall apart instantly. Using this brief distraction, Lin Chunfeng appeared mid-air behind Su Hong. Swinging his sword down, he confidently claimed that stopping his opponent for just a second was enough to win. Unfazed, Su Hong calmly looked over his shoulder. Gathering glowing green wind energy around his fist, he prepared a quick counterpunch. As Su Hong threw the wind-infused strike, Lin Chunfeng's eyes widened in shock. He realized Su Hong's attack was so fast that the punch would hit before his own sword could land. He desperately used his wood escape technique, creating a thick wooden barrier to shield himself just as the fist struck. The defense was completely useless. Su Hong's punch violently shattered the wooden shield into splinters, launching Lin Chunfeng backward with immense force. Sent flying through the air, a battered Lin Chunfeng was completely baffled by the overwhelming physical power of this lower-level beginner. The local trainees watching were equally shocked. Seeing their champion's A-rank defense easily broken, they fearfully realized the beginner's raw strength was greater than a wild beast's. Above the arena, Grandmaster Qin laughed loudly, teasing his rival about the sudden turnaround. Sweating but stubborn, Grandmaster Jiang Lin argued that raw strength alone wouldn't defeat his genius student and told Qin to keep watching. Pressing his advantage, Su Hong launched himself forward at high speed to chase down the retreating Lin Chunfeng. Su Hong delivered a fierce kick, but his leg passed right through the target, shattering it into shadows. He quickly realized he had hit an afterimage. Using his own A-rank movement skill, Lin Chunfeng appeared directly behind him. Boasting about his own footwork, he unleashed an explosive sword slash, but Su Hong easily dodged it. As the dust cleared, a panting Lin Chunfeng looked across at Su Hong. Acknowledging the boy's immense power, Lin Chunfeng urged him to give up. He humbly admitted that if they were at the same level, he would definitely lose. Surprised by this shift in tone, Lin Chunfeng watched as Su Hong knelt and extended a hand toward him. Bright orange flames violently erupted from Su Hong's fist. Before Lin Chunfeng could question this new element, a massive cage of fire roared to life, instantly trapping him in a fiery control skill. Sweating from the heat, Lin Chunfeng was amazed that a beginner had mastered such a skill. However, he figured Su Hong's energy wouldn't last long, so he decided to wait inside for the flames to collapse on their own. On the platform, Qin Tianli lost his composure, shocked that Su Hong had already mastered the flame cage. Confused, Jiang Lin asked why he was so surprised by a move he supposedly taught his own student. Qin awkwardly stammered for an excuse. Jiang Lin then demanded to know how a wind attribute student was suddenly using fire. Masking his own ignorance of the boy's abilities, Qin coughed and casually claimed that having multiple elements wasn't a big deal. Desperate to change the subject, Qin pointed back at the fight. He loudly wondered why the flame cage hadn't collapsed yet and pointed out the new glowing energy on Su Hong's hand. Su Hong stood calmly outside the cage, gathering a swirling pale aura around his fist. Trapped inside, Lin Chunfeng stared in horror. He realized Su Hong was multitasking by preparing an attack while maintaining the cage, a feat incredibly difficult even for advanced fighters. Confirming his worst fears, Su Hong launched himself forward and drove his glowing fist right through the flames toward the trapped student. Panicking as the strike approached, Lin Chunfeng desperately triggered his wood escape again, summoning thick wooden roots to shield himself. The defense was useless. Su Hong's glowing fist pierced straight through the wood and slammed into Lin Chunfeng's stomach. Coughing up blood as the force blasted him backward, the defeated student cursed the absurdity of the beginner's power. Su Hong's fist smashed brutally into Lin Chunfeng's chest, spraying blood into the air. The massive force launched Lin backward. He crashed violently against the scorching walls of the flame cage, severely burning his bare back. However, bright green energy instantly flared over the burns, rapidly healing the damaged skin. With a confident smirk, Lin warned his opponent not to underestimate the healing power of a Tier 2 wood spirit body. Unfazed, Su Hong stared at him coldly. He figured that if one punch wasn't enough to keep him down, he would just throw more. Charging forward, Su Hong unleashed a rapid, relentless barrage of glowing punches, refusing to believe Lin could heal forever. Even while taking the heavy blows, Lin absorbed the damage and taunted his attacker. He insisted the effort was useless, as a Tier 1 fighter's stamina could never outlast a Tier 2's. Gathering a dense sphere of green energy in his free hand, Lin challenged him, eager to see if the flame cage would break first or if Su Hong's energy would run out. Realizing his fire energy was running dangerously low, Su Hong suddenly stopped attacking. Knowing the cage might collapse on its own and turn the fight against him, he canceled the fiery prison himself. Seeing the flames vanish, Lin laughed in triumph, assuming Su Hong had given up. He declared it was now his turn to attack and that Su Hong's defeat was guaranteed. His arrogant smile quickly vanished, replaced by sheer terror. Su Hong gathered a crackling mass of golden lightning and fire in his hand, casually mentioning he hadn't planned to use this move because it drained too much energy. Staring at the terrifying energy in Su Hong's hand, Lin broke into a cold sweat. He was stunned that a mere Tier 1 fighter could produce such monstrous power. Panicking, Lin knew he absolutely couldn't let Su Hong get close. He slammed his glowing green hands onto the stone floor, channeling every ounce of his remaining energy. Roaring the name of his defensive technique, he summoned a massive wall of thick wooden pillars that erupted from the floor to shield himself from the attack. Su Hong's eyes flared with intense golden light. Stepping up to the towering wooden wall, he pulled back his fist, which violently crackled with raw lightning energy. With devastating force, Su Hong drove his blazing, lightning-infused fist forward, warping the very air around the impact. The strike pierced straight through the thick wood like paper. The overwhelming punch hit Lin squarely in the face, blasting him backward and sending his unconscious body crashing onto the stone floor. Su Hong stood calmly among the fading flames and debris, looking down at his defeated opponent. A stunned silence quickly fell over the massive crowd around the arena. The Yang City trainees erupted into panicked disbelief. They were horrified that their champion, despite his Tier 2 healing powers, was knocked out in one strike. Recognizing the punch's power as something like a legendary S-rank move, they couldn't believe Su Hong was still only an early Tier 1 fighter. Grandmaster Jiang Lin broke into a cold sweat. Staring in absolute shock, he turned to his old rival, demanding to know what kind of monster Qin Tianli had brought to the camp. Trembling, Jiang Lin pointed at the arena, realizing the boy had used element fusion to achieve that level of destruction. He was amazed by the impossible reality of a young Tier 1 fighter already mastering such an advanced technique. Sipping his tea innocently, Grandmaster Qin casually remarked that he definitely wouldn't tell his old rival about Su Hong mastering dual element fusion in just 1 month. Jiang Lin stared back in complete disbelief. Continuing to brag, Qin looked away and added that if Jiang Lin knew Su Hong had perfect compatibility with all 7 elements and was training 7 techniques at once, he would probably drop dead from fright. This left Jiang Lin completely shell-shocked. Pretending to be clumsy, Qin cheerfully apologized for letting the secret slip, though his smug face showed he didn't regret it at all. Meanwhile, Jiang Lin stood paralyzed, his mind struggling to process how a student could achieve such insane feats in a single month. Seizing the moment, Qin threw an arm around his dazed rival and brought up their bet. Since Su Hong won the match, Qin demanded Zhang Lin teach the boy the A-rank Thunder Spear art and his ultimate skill, Palm Thunder. Still overwhelmed, Zhang Lin mindlessly agreed. Sometime later, inside a massive dome-shaped training room, Su Hong and Grandmaster Zhang Lin stood across from each other in a high-tech arena, holding practice spears. Zhang Lin stared at the young trainee, still amazed by the boy's monstrous potential. He admitted to himself that he had never met anyone like Su Hong in his entire life. Pushing aside his shock, Zhang Lin introduced the technique he was about to show, an A-rank Thunder Spear art called the 9 Heaven-Breaking Spears. As blue lightning violently crackled around his grip, Zhang Lin explained the technique. The art had 3 stances, each with 3 unique moves. He warned that both the destructive power and the difficulty increased heavily with each stance. Noting the move's extreme difficulty, Zhang Lin said he would normally never teach it to a fighter below Tier 4. However, given Su Hong's rare talent, he was confident the boy could learn the first stance without issue. Telling Su Hong to watch closely, Jiang Lin's eyes glowed with electricity. He unleashed the first stance, River Overturning, sending a massive wave of pure lightning crashing down vertically through the arena. Moving smoothly to the next attack, Jiang Lin announced the second stance, Sea Inverting. Sweeping his spear, he summoned a huge wave of lightning that surged across the arena like a raging ocean. Gripping his own weapon tightly, Su Hong watched the incredible display. Caught in the simulated storm, he felt like a tiny boat lost at sea, knowing even a single stray bolt could obliterate him. Without pausing, Zhang Lin leaped high to perform the third stance, Heaven Breaking. He drove his spear downward, releasing a piercing blast of lightning that struck the center of the room with explosive force. The leftover energy from the strike created a massive, terrifying tornado of swirling electricity. Watching the fierce storm, Su Hong realized the Grandmaster had held back to avoid destroying the reinforced training room. Even though he felt like a mere ant against such overwhelming power, Su Hong's eyes shone with determination. He firmly resolved that one day, he too would have that level of devastating combat power. As the storm finally faded, Jiang Lin handed Su Hong a small manual explaining the 9 heaven-breaking spears. He told the trainee to practice on his own first, offering to answer any questions later. Su Hong respectfully thanked the Grandmaster for his guidance. Smiling warmly, Jiang Lin said he was just honoring their bet. He promised that once Su Hong mastered the first stance, he would teach him the second martial art, Palm Thunder. Jiang Lin casually added that while the spear art was strong, its power still fell short compared to his ultimate Palm Thunder. Holding the manual tightly, Su Hong's eyes lit up with excitement. Amazed that Palm Thunder could be even more destructive, he eagerly resolved to master the spear art as quickly as possible. Waving his hand, Zhang Lin turned to leave the dome. He mentioned he had things to discuss with Grandmaster Qin and promised to return later to check on Su Hong's progress, leaving the eager trainee alone to begin his training. An hour later, Grandmaster Zhang Lin returned to the training room. He asked Su Hong if he understood the technique, telling him not to rush since it usually takes months to learn. But when he looked inside, he saw Su Hong surrounded by a swirling vortex of golden lightning. Su Hong then unleashed a powerful blast of electricity from his spear. As the lightning faded, Su Hong turned to the Grandmaster and complained that the spear art was too hard, saying he had only reached a basic level. He then immediately asked to learn the ultimate skill, Palm Thunder. Zhang Lin, dumbfounded, could only wonder if this was the talent of a monster. Later, as the sun set, Grandmaster Jiang Lin sat outside the training room, looking completely defeated. Grandmaster Qin Tianli approached, asking why he looked so dazed and if he had taught the boy Palm Thunder. Still in shock, Zhang Lin just said he was done teaching and told Qin to see for himself. Skeptical, Qin Tianli went to the door, wondering if Zhang Lin had held back. He noted that Palm Thunder required careful instruction and was impossible to learn otherwise. His words died as he opened the door. Inside, Su Hong stood crackling with electricity, holding a perfect ball of lightning. He then cheerfully announced that he had learned Palm Thunder. Both Grandmasters sat in the doorway, stunned. Even Qin Tianli, who expected a lot, was shocked by Su Hong's speed. Zhang Lin despaired, remembering it took him 3 months to master the same skill, for which he had been called a genius. Recovering, Qin Tianli declared the boy had a limitless future and would reach Tier 9. He then offered to take his rival out for a meal. Qin contacted Su Hong, telling him to rest in a temporary dorm for the night, as they would leave the next day. Su Hong agreed. That night in his dorm, Su Hong reviewed his system interface. He had earned 230 martial value points from his recent victories against Wang Tiantuo's group and Lin Chunfeng. He saw his vitality was too low, and with everything else also needing upgrades, he knew 230 points wasn't nearly enough. Since his core cultivation was the most important, Su Hong decided to spend all his new points on upgrading his vitality. After spending his points, he knew he needed more martial value. Since no one would spar with him anymore, his only option was to hunt monsters in the ferocious beast room. Meanwhile, the 2 Grandmasters were drinking. Zhang Lin complained that Qin had scammed him out of 2 A-rank martial arts, but Qin just brushed it off, saying he'd heard it 100 times. They were interrupted by a staff member who announced that the camp's night raid event was ready to start, awaiting Grandmaster Zhang's command. Jiang Lin casually approved the raid, telling the staff not to go easy on the trainees. The man immediately relayed the orders, and the raid began. Xin Tianli sobered up instantly, panicking. He reminded Jiang Lin that Su Hong was in those dorms. Realizing their mistake, Jiang Lin also sobered up and tried to stop the raid, but it was too late. The instructors were already on their way. Outside, a team of instructors assembled. Bu Jingfeng, who Su Hong had humiliated before, asked his brother Jinglong why a high-level Tier 2 was on a basic raid. Jinglong explained Grandmaster Jiang sent him to deal with a resilient wood spirit body trainee. Bu Jingfeng remarked that attacking a low-level Tier 2 felt like bullying, then paused, feeling a strange sense of déjà vu. Jinglong smirked and teased his brother about being beaten by a trainee in Star City. A flustered Jingfeng defended himself, claiming he underestimated his opponent and vowing to eliminate Su Hong if they met again. Jinglong mockingly questioned if beating a Tier 1 was worth bragging about, and warned him not to underestimate the wood spirit body trainee. Jingfeng scoffed, confident he wouldn't fail again. Jinglong then ordered his squad to put on their masks. With a final shout, they charged toward the dorms to begin the ambush. The dorm's peace was shattered by breaking doors and screams as the masked instructors launched their surprise attack. The chaos alerted Su Hong, who peeked out of his room and realized a night raid was happening. An instructor punched a student who yelled at him for having no martial virtue. The instructor saw Su Hong and lunged, surprised they had missed a student. Before he could react, Su Hong's uppercut sent the instructor smashing into the ceiling. With the instructor stuck in the ceiling, an annoyed Su Hong ignited a flame in his hand, complaining that as a guest he shouldn't be attacked. Looking at the instructor's mask and uniform, Su Hong had an idea. He could steal the disguise, attack students during the raid, and earn martial value points without consequence. A sly smile spread across his face. Down the hall, a naked student begged a masked instructor to let him put on his boxers. The raider just laughed and told him to accept being knocked out. Suddenly, a disguised Su Hong burst in, announcing he was there to help. The real instructor turned, confused, and asked why a newcomer was interfering with his area. Without a word, Su Hong punched the instructor through the concrete wall. The student stared in shock, wondering why the raiders were fighting each other. Su Hong immediately dashed out, leaving the naked student to wonder why the raider had spared him. Thrilled, Su Hong ran down the hall with a flaming fist, realizing he could earn hundreds of points by fighting the trainees without holding back. Su Hong then tore through the hallway, beating down the real instructors. Confused by the friendly fire, they started yelling that there was a mole in their group. After punching another raider, Su Hong sighed under his mask. Standing over the defeated instructors, Su Hong cracked his knuckles and announced the first floor was clear, then headed for the second. On the next level, Su Hong moved like a golden blur, unleashing a flurry of strikes that effortlessly took down the entire squad of instructors. As he raced to the third floor, Su Hong laughed, delighted with his plan. His system kept rewarding him with martial value points for every instructor he defeated. On the third floor, a group of instructors was watching a battle between Lin Chunfeng and the high-level instructor, Bu Jinglong. They were impressed by Lin's resilience and noted his recovery ability could be dangerous for Jinglong. Inside, Lin Chunfeng, glowing with a green healing aura, faced the masked instructor who was radiating fiery energy. Su Hong walked up to the spectating raiders and asked why they were just standing there. Not realizing he was an imposter, they invited him to watch the wood spirit body trainee's incredible recovery. Su Hong stepped forward, his fist igniting with golden energy. He declared there was no need to watch, confusing the other instructors. Before they could react, Su Hong tore through the group with a barrage of punches, sending them flying as he stated he'd already experienced the wood spirit body's power himself. The commotion interrupted the fight. Bu Jinglong paused and angrily demanded to know why a raider was attacking their own men. Unbothered, Su Hong flared his golden aura. Smiling under his mask, he challenged both the trainee and the elite instructor to fight him together. Bu Jinglong told Lin Chunfeng to step aside and rest, intending to deal with the rogue raider himself. Furious that someone had interfered, he charged at Su Hong, shouting that he would teach him a lesson for breaking the Night Raider's rules. Unfazed, Su Hong channeled golden energy into his hand, forming a powerful Vajra fist to meet Bu Jinglong's attack head-on in a fierce clash. The sheer force of the impact sent Bu Jinglong stumbling backward, leaving him stunned by his opponent's incredible physical strength. Realizing Su Hong was no ordinary fighter, he quickly changed his mind and yelled for Lin Chunfeng to join the fight. Lin Chunfeng immediately unleashed his wood prison technique, causing thick vines to erupt from the floor, but Su Hong swiftly flipped out of the way, evading them with ease. Using the distraction, Bu Jinglong appeared right behind Su Hong and threw a heavy punch, only for it to slam into a glowing purple earth attribute armor that suddenly covered Su Hong's body. Bu Jinglong stared in absolute shock, wondering where this monstrous fighter came from and how he could so easily block a high-level Tier 2 attack. Before Bu Jinglong could even process what had happened, Su Hong vanished and reappeared, smashing the elite instructor into the wall with enough force to shatter his armor and make him cough up blood. Without pausing, Su Hong leaped over the stunned Lin Chunfeng and drove his blazing fist into the back of the trainee's head, smashing him face first into the ground and knocking him out cold. Moments later, the system rewarded Su Hong with martial value points for both victories. Checking his status, he was thrilled to see his balance had skyrocketed to over 2,400 points and celebrated his sudden wealth. The next morning, Lin Chunfeng and Bu Jinglong stood among the other bruised and battered raiders, nursing their injuries and looking completely defeated. An enraged Grandmaster Jiang Lin pointed at the injured men, loudly blaming the carnage on Qin Tianli's monster of a student. Playing dumb, Qin Tianli casually denied any involvement, prompting Lin to sarcastically ask who else could have possibly caused such destruction. Having lost his patience, Jiang Lin furiously yelled at them to get lost and kicked his rival out of the camp, but Qin Tianli simply laughed as he flew away with Su Hong. While they were in the air, Qin Tianli asked Su Hong if he was still missing martial arts for the metal, wood, and water attributes. Su Hong confirmed he was, curious why the Grandmaster was asking. With a sly grin, Qin Tianli suggested they go pay a visit to a few more of his old friends. Over the next 10 days, the pair traveled to 3 different training camps. They repeated the same plan, with Su Hong easily defeating the local champions while Qin Tianli smugly collected the winnings and brushed off accusations of cheating from the angry rival Grandmasters. Back in his own dorm, Su Hong meditated to absorb his new skills. The system confirmed he had successfully learned the basic levels of the A-rank metal ripple, wood vine entanglement, and water dragon techniques. Opening his eyes, Su Hong marveled at his new arsenal, admitting he never dreamed he would possess so many A-rank martial arts. Seeing his martial value was now close to 3,000 points, he decided it was finally time to use them to increase his core vitality. Su Hong began to pour all his accumulated martial value into his vitality. As the system registered the upgrades, his body surged with intense heat and swelled painfully with raw energy. Sweating heavily from the sudden expansion, he realized he might have added too much at once as his vitality shot up to 450. As his body slowly returned to normal, a panting Su Hong knelt on the floor. Despite the pain, he was thrilled to realize he was now only 50 points away from breaking through to become a Tier 2 martial artist. Checking his stats, Su Hong saw he had exactly 100 martial value points left. He debated whether to use them to strengthen his spiritual power or his rare overlord body. Deciding to test the limits of his special physique, he chose the option to upgrade the overlord body. The system immediately took his remaining 100 points, but only gave him a tiny 0.1% increase to the overlord body's spirit rank. Stunned by the terrible exchange rate, he complained that his unique physique was far too expensive to upgrade efficiently. Concluding that reaching Tier 2 was his top priority, Su Hong grabbed his jacket and rushed out the door, ready to hunt more monsters in the ferocious beast room to earn the points he needed. But before he could leave, he ran right into Grandmaster Qin Tianli. The Grandmaster asked if Su Hong was still missing a healing martial art, making the young trainee sweat nervously as he guessed the old man was planning to hustle another rival camp. A short time later, at the Hang City training camp, Grandmaster Wang Qingshan addressed a large group of trainees. He announced a brutal wilderness special training event, where students would have to survive in the 10,000 monster mountain range for 7 days without any outside supplies. Standing disguised among the local trainees with his spear, Su Hong listened to the harsh rules. He silently noted that as a provincial capital, Hang City's camp was filled with real geniuses and was much tougher than Star City, since these trainees could only earn points by killing beasts at or above their own level. When Grandmaster Wang Qingshan officially started the training, Su Hong leaped into the dangerous mountain range along with the rest of the Hang City trainees. Watching the students leave, Grandmaster Wang Qingshan questioned Qin Tianli's confidence, pointing out that Su Hong hadn't even reached Tier 2 yet. Qin Tianli simply confirmed their bet. If Su Hong won the survival challenge, Qingshan had to teach him an A-rank healing art. In return, Qin arrogantly promised to teach an A-rank martial art to every single Hang City student that managed to beat Su Hong. Amused by this, Qingshan wondered if Qin could actually afford to make such a promise, reminding him that half the students were already at Tier 2. Qin just brushed off the danger, claiming that facing the beast early would be good for the boy. He then asked with alarm if beasts from the 10,000 races demonic cult had arrived. Qingshan casually confirmed they had, but dismissed them as just low-level Tier 2 and Tier 3 creatures. Qin accused Qingshan of sending the students to their deaths by making them fight Tier 3 monsters. Qingshan coldly replied that the War of 10,000 Races was brutal, and true powerhouses could only be forged through extreme hardship. Qin sighed, resigning himself to the situation. Even as he thought that it would be a victory if Su Hong simply made it back alive, the young trainee was already deep in the wilderness, violently cutting the head off a massive wolf beast with a lightning-infused spear strike. Eager to test out his new abilities, Su Hong summoned a barrage of golden metal energy beams that pierced through a pack of beasts. Without pausing, he then used his wood attribute, conjuring thick, glowing vines to entangle and crush a giant snake. As night fell over the mountain range, Su-hong summoned a massive water dragon, which violently blasted through a fiery beast, showing his complete dominance over the wilderness. Stepping into a dark cave past the glowing body of his latest victim, he acknowledged the incredible destructive power of his new A-rank martial arts. However, he also noticed that his spiritual energy drained far too quickly when he used them one after another. Standing in the bloody cave among the bones of his kills, Su-hong checked his system. Seeing he had earned over 500 martial value points and his vitality was maxed out, he decided it was time to push for his Tier 2 breakthrough. Sitting down to meditate, Su-hong began channeling his points into his vitality. A fierce, fiery aura erupted around him as the system registered the steady upgrades, pushing his body toward its new limits. Meanwhile, deep in the forest, a red-haired cultist was grumbling as he patrolled the dark woods. He complained about having to check the perimeter in the middle of the night, certain that no one could possibly find their hidden sacrificial grounds in such a remote mountain range. He suddenly stopped in his tracks when he noticed the freshly killed body of a massive beast lying just outside the dark cave where Su-hong was meditating, realizing that an intruder had wandered into their territory after all. Standing at the cave entrance, the cultist called out maliciously to whoever was hiding inside. He demanded that Su-hong come out for a quick death, threatening to skin him and eat him alive if he refused. The cultist ordered the intruder to surrender, warning of a fate worse than death if he resisted. Glancing at the dead blazing black tiger, he figured his opponent had, at best, Tier 2 or Tier 3 strength. From inside the cave, Su-hong listened to the man's arrogant tone. Since the cultist spoke so dismissively of Tier 3 martial artists, Su-hong suspected he was up against a formidable Tier 4 expert. Since he had only recently broken through to Tier 2, he admitted he lacked the confidence to take on a Tier 4 opponent. Deciding that running was his best bet, he launched a water dragon attack to cover his escape from the cave. The cultist eagerly gripped his sword and shattered the watery beast with a single slash, mocking the attack as having the measly power of an early Tier 2. Spotting Su-hong trying to escape, the cultist immediately chased after him. He praised the young man's genius for taking down the beast at such a low level, but sadistically added that his favorite pastime was murdering promising talents before they could reach their full potential. The cultist suddenly stopped in confusion, asking Su-hong why he had given up running. Su-hong turned to face his pursuer. He calmly stated that based on the energy the man had just used, he was actually just an early-stage Tier 3 fighter, far weaker than Su-hong had initially feared. Spotting a distinct tattoo on the man's neck, Su-hong recognized him as a member of the 10,000 Races demonic cult. He recalled that this cult consisted of human traitors who carried out terrorist attacks and sacrificed their own kind to alien races in exchange for power. Disgusted by the traitor, Su-hong flared his golden aura and declared that such human scum deserved to die. Smirking, the cultist challenged Su-hong to prove his words and launched an A-rank fiery sword strike known as Fire Slash. Facing a Tier 3 opponent for the first time, Su-hong decided to go all out. He unleashed Sea Inverting, a massive wave of golden lightning that violently clashed with and completely overpowered the fiery strike. Su-hong was surprised, wondering how a Tier 3 martial artist's technique could be so easily blown away by his attack. The cultist panicked, unable to understand how he was losing to someone an entire major realm below him despite using an A-rank martial art. He was also completely baffled that his opponent wielded both water and lightning attributes. Enraged, the cultist unleashed a frantic flurry of sword slashes, but Su-hong effortlessly dodged every single strike. Utilizing his rapid movement technique, Su-hong vanished and suddenly reappeared directly behind the cultist. He immediately unleashed another devastating blast of golden lightning. Realizing that the sheer power of this attack far exceeded his own fire slash, the terrified cultist frantically tried to retreat. Before he could escape, thick green vines erupted from the ground and tightly bound his leg. The cultist stared in utter disbelief, shocked that Su-hong was now using a wood attribute control technique as well. Completely immobilized by the vines, the cultist was instantly engulfed by the massive blast of lightning. As the dust cleared from the intense lightning strike, Su-hong stared down at the cultist's smoldering remains. Suddenly, the body began to melt into the ground, prompting Su-hong to wonder if the cultist had used some bizarre movement technique to survive the blast. The cultist reformed his body, now covered in thick, magma-like rock armor. He angrily cursed his terrible luck for running into such a monstrous human genius out in the middle of nowhere. Declaring that Su-hong had nowhere left to run, the armored cultist prepared his counterattack as Su-hong took a step back. The cultist initiated a bloodline transformation, sprouting large wings from his back. He arrogantly demanded that Su-hong witness the divine might of the celestial race. Disgusted, Su-hong thrust his spear forward. He mocked the cultist for mutating into a freakish monster and called the entire demonic cult completely insane. The cultist easily caught the spear tip with his bare, armored hand, bragging that once his bloodline transformation was complete, he would become a true celestial being. Still gripping Su Hong's spear, he declared that the boy had to die for interrupting their sacrificial ritual. Su Hong immediately retaliated, unleashing a fierce blast of fire that pierced straight through the cultist's new wing and left the fanatic in shock. Capitalizing on the opening, Su Hong instantly activated his flame cage technique, trapping the cultist inside a blazing prison. He then channeled pure lightning into his weapon and executed the ultimate heaven-breaking stance of his A-rank spear art. The crackling spear violently pierced straight through the cultist's hardened rock armor, delivering a devastating, explosive blow right through his chest. The hardened rock armor crumbled away as the cultist gasped in sheer disbelief, his mutated body completely shattering into pieces just moments later. Checking his system, Su Hong was shocked to see a massive reward of 212 martial value points for the kill. He realized that hunting these fanatics was incredibly lucrative, noting that he normally had to fight beasts for a long time just to scrape together 500 points. Remembering the dead cultists' mention of a sacrificial ritual, Su Hong quickly deduced that they must have captured human victims. He immediately decided to contact his Grandmaster for backup. Back at the Hang City training camp, Grandmaster Qin Tianli checked his phone and relayed Su Hong's message to Grandmaster Wang Qingshan. He reported the demonic cult's presence and their ongoing sacrifice, noting that Su Hong was requesting a rescue team. Wang Qingshan calmly sipped his tea and coldly dismissed the threat. Qin Tianli explained that this particular ritual actually targeted the cult's own brainwashed followers, meaning there was absolutely no reason to intervene or save them. Questioning his rival's relaxed attitude, Qingshan asked Qin Tianli why he was still sitting around drinking tea instead of rushing to save his student. Qin Tianli casually replied that there was no need, as Su Hong had already killed the early-stage Tier 3 cultist. Qingshan scoffed, flatly refusing to believe that a mere Tier 1 trainee could defeat a Tier 3 cultist, and accused Qin Tianli's student of blatantly bragging. Unbothered, Qin Tianli casually told him to believe whatever he wanted. 3 days later, deep in the wilderness, Su Hong stood over the freshly severed head of a massive multi-eyed snake beast. Leaning against the creature's corpse, he reviewed his system stats and sighed in disappointment. Despite hunting numerous Tier 3 beasts over the past 3 days, his martial value had only reached 832 points. He complained that all this grueling effort had yielded less value than killing just 4 cultists. Suddenly, his heightened senses picked up a hidden presence nearby. A blue-haired woman with black wing tattoos on her back stood on a nearby branch, playfully praising the handsome young man for detecting her approach. Gathering sharp ice energy in her hand, she offered a seductive smile, but ruthlessly declared that since he had intruded on their territory, she had no choice but to kill him. She instantly launched a rapid barrage of deadly ice spikes at him. Rather than feeling threatened, a confident smile spread across Su Hong's face. He happily realized that another demonic cultist just meant more free martial value points delivering themselves right to his doorstep. Su Hong countered the attack with a massive water dragon. The 2 elemental strikes violently clashed, creating a thick curtain of smoke. Suddenly, the cultist attacked again as a whip shot out from the smoke. Reacting instantly, Su Hong caught the whip. He decided to keep her alive just long enough to ask where the other demonic cult bases were. He yanked the whip with immense force, pulling the panicked woman through the air straight toward him. As she flew into range, Su Hong delivered a brutal punch to her stomach with his cold fist technique, instantly defeating her. Standing over her, he pointed his glowing spear at her neck and demanded to know where their base was. Terrified and bleeding, she begged for her life and revealed that the base was 10 kilometers to the north. Su Hong pressed further, asking how many Tier 3 fighters were there. She confessed they had 3 Tier 3 and 3 Tier 2 fighters. Calculating his progress, Su Hong realized only 1 Tier 3 cultist was left. Wiping out the rest would give him over 1,000 points, enough to upgrade his telekinesis to Tier 2. Refusing to stay down, the female cultist lashed out with her whip to create distance. She furiously yelled that Su Hong had underestimated her. She triggered a blood transformation, sprouting large wings as she turned into a heavenly god race member. Hovering in the air, she arrogantly boasted her strength had doubled and she could easily kill him. Su Hong didn't give her the chance. He immediately countered with a powerful spear thrust, unleashing a massive pillar of golden lightning that pierced straight through her chest. As her mutated form faded, Su Hong pulled his spear from her falling body and coldly told her to hand over her points. His system confirmed a reward of 208 points, leaving him highly satisfied with the easy profit. Meanwhile, at the cult's base, a small group of trainees found themselves completely surrounded by enemies near a massive stone pyramid. The trapped Hang City trainees panicked, realizing it was a deadly trap. They cursed their bad intel, seeing they were facing a large squad of Tier 3 fighters instead of just a few Tier 2s. The Blood Commander coldly ordered his men to execute the intruders. The cultists eagerly charged, spotting the 3 Tier 2 human geniuses. They maliciously declared they would skin them alive as sacrifices. Refusing to go down without a fight, the desperate trainees grouped together. They promised to take out as many cultists as possible, trusting their Grandmaster would avenge them. High above the battlefield, the Grandmasters calmly watched the trap. Qingshan proudly pointed out his 3 top Hang City geniuses to his rival. Qin acknowledged their bravery for standing against Tier 3 enemies. Qingshan planned to let the trainees fight to build experience, promising to step in only if things turned fatal. Smirking confidently, Qin Tianli told Qingshan they didn't need to intervene. He pointed out that his own little monster, Su Hong, was already rushing into the valley to save Qingshan's students. Wang Qingshan glared at Qin in disbelief, asking if he was drunk. He scoffed at the crazy idea that a mere Tier 1 trainee could save anyone from a squad of Tier 3 experts. Down in the valley, one of the top Hang City trainees stepped forward to cover his teammates, bravely declaring they would fight and die together. A cultist lunged at them with glowing red claws, laughing that there was no escape. The trainee braced for the fatal blow, accepting his end. Suddenly, a crackling spear of golden lightning shot past the trainees, violently pinning the cultist to a tree and killing him instantly. The remaining cultists stopped in their tracks, angrily demanding to know who had interfered. Su Hong appeared in front of them in a flash of lightning. Using his lightning skill, he grabbed two cultists by their heads and brutally smashed them together. Spinning around, he gathered his energy and unleashed a blinding flurry of lightning punches, instantly clearing out several more enemies nearby. Standing among the defeated bodies, he hid his aura and calmly asked the stunned trainees if they were all right. The Hang City geniuses stared in awe. They recognized him as Su Hong from Star City, amazed by his monstrous strength for easily killing so many Tier 3 experts. Watching from the cliff, Wang Qingshan broke into a nervous sweat. He demanded to know how Qin's student could use a lightning skill when he supposedly needed a healing art. Seeing Su Hong use the high-level skill without getting tired, Qingshan suspected he had already reached Tier 2. Qin Tianli was secretly just as shocked. He panicked when he realized Su Hong had gone from Tier 1 to Tier 2 in just a few days, finding the boy's growth rate completely ridiculous. Back in the valley, Su Hong told the Hang City trainees to retreat while he covered them. Still dazed by his power, they told him to be careful and quickly ran away. Once they left, a greedy grin spread across Su Hong's face. The female cultist had lied about their numbers. There were actually over a dozen Tier 3 experts present. Thrilled, he claimed the remaining cultists as his prey, knowing that at 200 points per kill, this fight would bring a massive profit. Suddenly, a huge cultist charged at Su Hong, roaring that he would smash him into pieces. Unfazed, Su Hong easily dodged the brute's guard and delivered a heavy punch to his stomach, sending the massive man crashing to the ground. Gathering more lightning in his hands, Su Hong turned to the remaining enemies and said it was their turn. Terrified by his overwhelming strength, the surviving cultists backed away. Meanwhile, a man climbed the pyramid stairs while the cultists screamed that Su Hong was a monster, begging their commander to save them. Once at the top, the man inhaled deeply, looking over the dead cultists with crazy joy. He happily announced that their deaths were worth it and their sacrifice would be remembered. Su Hong paused in confusion as the blood from the dead enemies defied gravity, floating up and rushing toward the top of the pyramid. The massive amount of blood swirled around the man's body, and Su Hong realized this was the true purpose of the cult's ritual. The blood suddenly burst with blinding golden light, transforming the man into a blonde figure with large white wings. He arrogantly called them lowly humans and demanded to know why they weren't kneeling before a noble of the heavenly god race. As the winged man hovered proudly above the altar, looking down at the battlefield, Su Hong gripped his spear with an excited smirk. He figured that if a mere mutated cultist gave him a massive payout, killing a pure-blooded member would give him an unbelievable amount of points. The Heavenly God race member arrogantly glared down at Su Hong, demanding to know who gave a mere ant permission to look up. Vowing that Su Hong would pay for this insolence with his life, the winged man vanished, reappearing directly behind him. Su Hong panicked, completely caught off guard by the blinding speed. Su Hong barely blocked the incoming strike, but the heavy impact shattered the ground beneath him. The winged man smirked, amused to discover such a capable fighter within the younger human generation. Wiping blood from his mouth, Su Hong realized the overwhelming strength of the Heavenly God race. Hovering midair, the possessed cultist admitted he only expected to slaughter a few weak humans during this ritual. Recognizing Su Hong as a monstrous genius, he resolved to eliminate him immediately, permanently erasing a future threat. Suddenly, the man's arm cracked under the strain. Annoyed, he noted that his host hadn't even reached Tier 4 vitality and was already collapsing from his divine power. Despite this failing vessel, he confidently declared that peak Tier 3 strength was enough to crush Su Hong and wound up for another devastating punch. Hearing the muttered complaints, Su Hong realized he wasn't facing a true heavenly god, but merely a possessed human whose body was breaking down. Channeling golden lightning into a thunder rush fist, Su Hong boldly declared the outcome was no longer certain and charged forward. They collided violently, exchanging a rapid flurry of devastating blows that shook the entire valley. Observing from the cliff above, Qin Tianli casually praised the heavenly god race's physical strength for managing to keep up with his student. Beside him, an exasperated Wang Qingshan argued that Su Hong was the real shock. He was completely baffled that a lower realm fighter used pure physical strength to match and even suppress a host possessed by a heavenly god. Pressing his advantage, Su Hong landed a heavy, lightning-infused punch that forced the heavenly god to retreat. Battered and bleeding, the heavenly god demanded to know what monstrous physique Su Hong possessed. He admitted in disbelief that even against the greatest chosen ones on the all-heavens battlefield, he had never lost a clash of pure strength, yet a mere human was currently beating him back. Completely relaxed, Su Hong smirked and taunted his opponent, urging him to keep fighting if he wasn't exhausted yet. Flaring his fiery aura, Su Hong reveled in the fight. Ever since awakening his overlord body, he had been terrified of accidentally beating people to death. Now he was exhilarated to finally unleash his full strength with the sole intention of killing his opponent. Su Hong openly wished the heavenly god's true body was present, disappointed that the frail human host prevented a truly satisfying battle. Enraged and humiliated at being looked down upon, the heavenly god screamed at the human ant and initiated his ultimate technique, opening a massive golden portal to summon his divine arsenal. Countless glowing spears emerged from the portals. Hovering above, he declared Su Hong was the first person to ever force him to use this move. Sensing that each golden spear carried enough destructive power to obliterate a Tier 3 martial artist, Su Hong wondered about the technique. His system suddenly chimed, notifying him that this specific martial art could not be learned, leaving him surprised that uncopyable skills existed. Watching from the cliff, Qingshan recognized the attack as Divine Arsenal, an innate martial art exclusive to heavenly gods with extremely pure bloodlines. Realizing the implications, Tianli wondered if the entity possessing the cultist was actually a high-ranking alien noble. Panicking, Qingshan urged Tianli to intervene immediately, refusing to let such a precious human treasure die. Tianli calmly held him back, advising patience since Su Hong still hadn't used his ultimate move. Tianli smugly revealed that Su Hong possessed perfect compatibility with all 7 elements, having mastered the fusion of thunder and fire as a Tier 1 martial artist. Qingshan stared in utter shock, struggling to process the impossible claim. Acknowledging the boy's monstrous potential, the heavenly god admitted Su Hong would become a massive threat to his race if allowed to live. Declaring that the human must die today, he unleashed his divine arsenal, sending a massive barrage of glowing spears raining down on Su Hong. Unfazed, Su Hong smirked, countering that the heavenly god was the first opponent to push him to use his full strength. Channeling intense lightning into his weapon, he initiated the ultimate third stance of his 9 heaven-breaking spears. Shouting the technique's name, Su Hong thrust his spear upward, unleashing a colossal blast of raw lightning that effortlessly shattered the descending golden spears. The heavenly god could only stare in shock, screaming that it was impossible as the overwhelming energy blast surged straight toward him. The devastating strike triggered a massive explosion, instantly carbonizing the heavenly god's body and shattering it into pieces. The sheer force of Su Hong's attack didn't stop there, completely cleaving the cult's massive stone pyramid in half. Standing before the ruined base, a trembling and exhausted Su Hong grinned as his system confirmed a massive reward of 843 martial value points, concluding the grueling fight was completely worth it. Grandmaster Qingshan landed next to Su Hong, excitedly praising him as a precious treasure and a great genius. Grabbing the bewildered boy's face, Qingshan admitted he never would have believed a Tier 2 martial artist could defeat a heavenly god had he not seen it himself. Despite the high praise, Su Hong remained grounded. He realized that if an ordinary member of a top 10 ranked race forced him to use his ultimate move, their true geniuses must be terrifying. Qingshan then concluded that defeating a mere small fry wasn't something to get overly excited about. 4 days later, the wilderness survival training officially ended at the Hang City camp. The final scoreboard placed Su Hong first with a staggering 17,210 points, completely eclipsing the second-place score of 4,700. Some trainees immediately accused him of cheating, refusing to believe a lower-tier fighter could earn so much. The Hang City geniuses he saved quickly shut down the rumors, declaring that Su Hong was impossibly strong and had easily one-shotted Tier 3 demonic cultists. When students asked where to find Su Hong for guidance, they learned Grandmaster Wang Qingshan was personally teaching him an A-rank martial art. Exiting the training hall, a bewildered Qingshan complained to Tianli that the little monster learned his healing art in just half a day. Tianli simply laughed, telling his rival to get used to it. Sitting in the training room, Su Hong meditated, cycling the energy of his newly acquired technique. He marveled at the A-rank healing martial art's incredible effectiveness, thrilled that it flawlessly erased all his old, deep-seated scars. Checking his interface, Su Hong was highly satisfied to see his martial value exceeded 4,800 points from the wilderness hunt. He calculated this massive haul could push his spiritual power to 500 points, officially making him a Tier 2 spirit master, while leaving enough to significantly boost his vitality. Meanwhile, far away on the Heavenly God race planet, a meeting convened inside the Grand Heavenly God Palace. A statue interrogated its subordinates, angrily demanding to know how their clansmen could possibly lose to a human an entire realm lower, especially after unleashing the divine arsenal. Tianming respectfully confirmed the humiliating defeat, admitting to his lord that the human they faced was an unprecedentedly monstrous genius. The statue entity summoned another clansman, Tian Shang, who immediately stepped forward, awaiting its command. Recognizing the massive future threat the boy posed, the statue issued an official Heavenly God race kill order, demanding his immediate eradication. Tian Shang accepted the assassination mission with a confident, sinister smile. The statue then asked for an update on the divine object fragments hidden within human territory. Tian Shang reported that while no fragments were secured yet, they recently intercepted promising news. The statue ordered them to continue their secret search at all costs, strictly warning them to keep the human race blind to their movements.